we have chat enabled? QA chat. Oh, there's two different ones. Great. We'll enable Q&A. Circle has changed a bit. Okay, cool. Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. Oh, Robert, what's up? Good to see you, dude. Hello, we got Tanya. Very familiar faces. Sweet. Wait for everyone to roll in. Give it like a minute. Just a heads up, this call may be fairly boring because we're just saying hi, making sure everyone's on the same page, knows what to do. Oh, wow, a lot of people. Welcome. Is it showing it like that for you in the chat? I can't.
Yeah, it's fine.
Like I can't see like profile pictures. Nice.
Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, while we're here, as people are rolling in, so one thing we've always kind of struggled with the boot camps in general is how to get people to connect with each other in a streamlined way. Because in the discussion space, there's a post where you can comment and start meeting people. But of course, once that starts filling up, it's kind of difficult to do that, right? So another option is like a Twitter list, but that requires you to add manually to that. There's maybe like a Google Sheet. If you guys have any ideas of how do we get like a centralized place of people that want to meet, and then we can work from there for the people that want to meet on social media and go offline and all that stuff. Maybe a Telegram channel, just something for the people who want to do that thing. If we have ideas for it, we're definitely open to creating that thing.
I could put together a Telegram channel. I could also do a Google Sheet. That way people can put in like what platform they're on.
Yeah. Peter mentioned 6 to 8 people cohorts, so having a way to like group people together based on maybe what people do, or maybe being able to add people. Like if we do a Google Sheet, then being able to categorize all of those by like groups that people can meet. So yeah, Google Doc with contact. We just need a way to get people together. We could do a Discord channel for this bootcamp specifically, but the process of getting into like a private Discord channel requires like automations, and it can mess up. We can do it. Cool. Okay. The numbers seem to be leveling out, so we will get started. In short, today's just a kickoff call, right? I want to make sure everyone's on the same page. Everyone knows where everything is. There's a few changes in Cortex that I want to go over and make very clear to people, because since the new feature of chats went in with AI, there's going to be a few differences from the app itself and the curriculum, because the chat feature is quite new, and to re-record like 30 modules in 2 days wasn't really feasible. So we'll get those updated, and you'll get the updates for them, but that will come in a bit. So I'm going to share my screen, make sure everything looks good. Screen window kickoff call. Boom. Okay. So this is where we are right now. Everyone who logs into Circle should see these 4 specific spaces. So the first one is the announcements. Whenever we post one of these, you should receive an email as well. So if you're just make sure you check your email or you check the announcements to make sure you know what is going on. If there are any changes, if there's anything we need to update you on, that's where all of this goes. If you are just joining in, because I know there were some stragglers, make sure you read through all of these just so you're on the same page. Now for the curriculum, we are releasing one. Let's go in here. We're releasing one specific module every single week. So the first one went out yesterday, and this module right here about writing foundations is just about understanding the big picture of what we're trying to do. There isn't too much tactical advice on writing itself, but there's a lot that you need to know about, okay, how am I going to approach this whole writing thing so that people actually care about the writing enough to follow along with me and my interests. So keep that in mind here, is that when you fill out the week 1 tasks, it's going to feel more of like a journaling or reflective exercise rather than actually writing. And then next week on Tuesday, March 11, first thing in the morning, the next module will go out, and this will be on post writing. So we're going to start with post writing. And the reason behind that is when you learn to write short form posts, it transfers over so well into any other kind of writing. So we like to start with posts first rather than something like a newsletter or YouTube script or whatever it may be, because when you can write short, impactful content that really condenses what you're trying to say, that transfers over when you're writing long form. So you are able to craft something that holds attention a lot better and makes your points a lot more interesting. After that, we're going to thread writing. If you don't know what a thread is, it's pretty much just a string of posts. That's on Twitter or on the Threads platform by Instagram or Instagram carousels. So if you ever swipe through a carousel and you see that it's just a paragraph of text at a time, you can think of that as a thread. And then those can also be posted to LinkedIn. Sometimes they can be posted to YouTube community, and sometimes they can be turned into a short YouTube video script. As an example there, we go to my channel, we look at my most popular video. This one right here, it was 8 minutes long. And it was just based off of the thread. The thread was 10 posts. I had it open on my phone. I would look down, read a tweet, look at the camera, read it to the camera, add a bit of my own voice in between, have myself and Devin edit it, post it. It did very well. And it just came from learning to write very impactful threads, right? So whether it's YouTube videos or text on a screen, when you learn how to write and hold attention and really craft the message that you're trying to say, doesn't matter if you go directly off the script when you're saying it to a video camera, but all of those skills transfer over so well to different platforms. The 4th week, we're going to go over newsletter writing. This is where we start to tie everything together. Newsletters can be very overwhelming because they can get very long if you want them to be, but we go over different frameworks for starting to write a newsletter. And then week 5, we're going to learn how to take everything we've learned from posts, threads, newsletters, and learn how to post those to all different platforms in a good way, while also noting the nuances between growth on social platforms and how they differ. So one thing I do want to preface as well is that a lot of people, maybe not a lot, but many people don't care to grow on Twitter specifically. For all of this, we're going to be using X as an example, just because it has a 280 character limit. That's where we started, so on and so forth. But you can very well use Threads by Instagram, LinkedIn. We can help you learn to turn your writing into images for Instagram if you want to start there. But all of this in week 1 applies to all platforms. Maybe not one-to-one, but the principles are there. So you don't have to start on Twitter or X, but if you want to, then you can follow along exactly. The last thing here, and what we'll get into, is that for each module, we're going to be adding a bonus that is going to be going over AI or Kai, Cortex AI, to enhance whatever it is that you're doing. You don't have to use Cortex AI for this. You get 15 free messages. If you want to use ChatGPT on the side, if you want to use Claude, Grok, whatever it is, you can use whichever one you want. Cortex AI is just baked into Cortex, so it could be helpful, but I want to preface here that after a certain amount of messages, it requires you to go on a paid tier. So if you already use ChatGPT or any of that, just know that you can use that. Those will be added. The AI will be added to each module as they release and as we improve Cortex AI. So something to note there. Now going into Cortex itself, one thing to note is that everyone should have access. Did Brian get everything set up, Joey?
We got most of the people added into the workspace. He's going to add them the rest when he wakes up. He just flew back to Toronto late last night. So if anybody doesn't have it, you can send me a DM here on Circle and I'll get it, but they'll all definitely be added by the end of the day.
Cool. Sweet. So technically the curriculum wasn't supposed to come out until today. So if you're already blazing through it and you hit the point where it's like, oh, I don't have access to the workspace, most people should have access. But if you don't, or you join late, then DM Joey, we can get you added right away. Now, one thing here, very important, is that I included not all, but most of the prompts we're going to be going over inside of the workspace itself. And in order to duplicate these to your workspace, you just right click, copy to workspace, go to personal, and it will copy over. With the prompts here, just please keep in mind that we gave you the post writing, thread writing, newsletter writing ones. Feel free to play around with those if you want, but you kind of have to understand how to use them best unless you already understand AI stuff. So just know that they're here, but you don't need to use them yet. Just focus on the one that comes with each week. Now, each week when the curriculum is released, the week's template will be put inside of the workspace. So you'll go here, you right click on this entire folder. You can duplicate them individually, but that doesn't make too much sense. Just right click on the entire folder, copy to workspace, personal, and then you can go through and fill this out as illustrated in the end of module 1. So with each of those, when we go back to our workspace, they'll show up. And I want to go over the Cortex AI feature, the chats feature really quick, because this used to be capture and a few things have changed there. So when you're going through the curriculum, just keep in mind that this part right here now has chats. If you're very new to Cortex, this used to be one long running feed of ideas without AI inside of it. So it would look like this, but this would go up kind of endlessly, right? And you would be able to search by specific connections. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So a few things around here is if I type hello without Pi enabled, I can hit send and that will create a new chat. Okay. And then I can rename that chat to something like random. And if I keep typing hello, 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 I can then enable Pi or Cortex AI, and it has the entire context of the chat itself. So there's nothing to summarize here, but I can say summarize this chat and it'll just say it's just a series of hellos. But then if you want to get more complex, you can add specific connections. So I can add a YouTube video. Let's take this one, copy the link to it, paste that in here. And let's just say, yes, summarize this. And so it'll summarize what's in that video specifically. Brian, who I believe is here right now, he found a little hack that I've actually never tried before. But you can have it transcribe the entire video, and that may take a while. But you can have the video transcription here and then copy that into a document if you want to review the actual transcription, which is awesome. We're eventually going to store the transcription in library. But other things you can do here is when you're writing newsletters or you're writing tweets or you have a document in here. I didn't say anything, but if you have a document in here or anything like that, you can reference that specific thing. And when you have the right prompts, you can do pretty cool things with that, where I can mention a specific newsletter, like plus newsletter, how to learn 10 times faster. And I can ask specific things about this. I can ask it to edit it for me, give me reviews, other things of that nature. And if you connect with Readwise inside of Cortex, which pulls all of your highlights in from Kindle or whatever you have Readwise connected to, I can also ask questions to the specific highlights inside of this thing. So this will only get more powerful as we go on. I just wanted to let you know that this is a bit different structure from the capture feature that you will see inside of the actual curriculum. So one thing there that I would recommend is when we're going over the capture feature in the curriculum, so let's say we're writing tweets or we're writing a newsletter and it says, okay, you can capture ideas to this specific newsletter. What I would personally do is just capture the idea to create a new chat. You can connect to this specific newsletter if you want them. Let's just go plus how to learn 10x faster. And then I can save the ideas here and just name this chat something like how to learn 10x faster. And we're gonna have some cool ways to integrate this a lot more with actual documents. But for now, what I would recommend doing is when you want to capture an idea, have a chat specific to the thing you're trying to capture an idea to. And of course, this will all make more sense as you go through the curriculum. We just had to go over this feature. So that's all I have in a nutshell, but I want to open it up to questions, preferably questions about the cohort in general. But if you have other questions that are just pressing you right now on newsletter writing, thread writing, post writing, audience building in general, please feel free to let them rip.
A couple things really quickly while you're still sharing. Well, one while you're still sharing. Could you just show people exactly how they'll access the workspace when they have access to it? Because there's a few people that are trying to access it through Circle.
Oh, yes. Okay. So that's actually a good point. So annoyingly, not really annoyingly, I don't know. Let's make the separation here that Cortex, the app on the website or the desktop app, is separate from Circle. What you see here is Circle. This is not our platform. This is just where we're hosting the bootcamp. Your passwords and logins are not the same as Cortex, the app. So when you go to app.cortex.co, or if you download the desktop app, which opens up cool other features like floating chats and documents, then you go there. So you go to app.cortex.co to get here, which is Cortex. And then when you're in Cortex, you go here to your name, hover over it, find Writers Bootcamp March 2025. If you don't have access, DM Joey. When you go in here, each week, there will be a template that you can duplicate. So you right click on that, copy to workspace, and then your personal workspace. And then it will bring you back there so you can start filling it out along with the videos that are in the curriculum.
Cool. And the other thing I wanted to go over was Brian just messaged me. Brian's our backend lead engineer. You'll probably see him around if you're in the Discord community. He's a god of infrastructure and stuff like that. But he just messaged me and he'll be adding the other people to the workspace soon. So be patient for just a little bit longer. And if you don't see it within the next hour or so, then feel free to DM me here on Circle or on Discord or send me an email at joey@cortex.co and we'll get you taken care of.
Nice. Have you spotted any questions? I see one. Gazelle is kind of available for the free version of Cortex. 15 messages are free. So if you are already using ChatGPT or Claude or any of that, you can use those instead of Cortex AI. It's completely up to you. But the reason there's 15 messages on free tier is that tokens cost money. That's like the one thing we have to bill on is when you make a request to the AI model, it directly charges according to how many tokens that request costs. So if you throw in something like a 3-hour YouTube video and get ask questions to it, that's building up a lot of context and tokens that slowly cost more and more over time. So even with the free tier, 15 messages honestly isn't that much. But if you are already using or paying for other subscriptions, you can also use those specifically. And I'll also preface this, the AI stuff is just a bonus for this bootcamp. You do not need it. I'm going to be labeling everything in there as bonus, but in order to go through the bootcamp, you do not need to use the AI features. If you like them and you want to upgrade for them, feel free, but they are absolutely not required. And you should be able to do it all perfectly fine on the free tier.
I see there's more people asking. Give it like about an hour or so, and you should be added to the workspace. If you're not by then send me a DM or an email.
Cool. Okay, Jesse, what are your suggestions for forming an accountability group? What purposes to apply it to and maintaining it? We aren't too sure yet. We're thinking of some kind of Google Sheet that we can spread to you guys and figuring out a way to chunk people down into groups, if that would be helpful. But we'll brainstorm it. If you have any ideas, post them in the discussion or really anywhere, and we can get something implemented. Does AI summary of YouTube videos only work if the video is already transcripted? I tried the feature, but it tells me it doesn't have access to the video's content. You have to, so it depends on when you did this, because there was, before we patched and update, there was, if you have the YouTube video in your library already and you didn't add it after the AI features went in, then there isn't really a way to pull the transcription from that. So you have to add it through the chat. Is it premature to get premium and be verified on X with almost no following, like 35 exactly? Kind of, sort of. It helps, I think. It says that it helps with getting you more impressions and other things. You don't need it, I don't think, but it absolutely wouldn't hurt. If you're strapped for cash, then don't worry about it. If you have enough and you want to like make an early investment into like Twitter Premium, then feel free. Where can we chat with other students? In the discussion and tasks channel. We can also open up a chat in here, but with previous bootcamps, it just gets super messy and people stop talking in it over time, and they only focus on the tasks, the channel that's already in Circle. There's also a Discord channel specific to the Writers Bootcamp if you want to talk asynchronously with them in there. Anyone else seeing absolutely nothing upon mouse hovering over your name icon? You have to click it. So if you're clicking and nothing shows up, then that's a bigger problem. If it's just the workspace, then that is being added. In chats, what's the difference between plus and at? So if you're typing plus or at, plus will add it without adding the link in line in the chat. So it's just personal preference where I'll show that. So if you're in the chat, well, we'll go back to my workspace. So if we're in the chat, plus, we're clicking this, we'll add the connection up here, so not in line, and then at, we'll add it in line. So if I want to tell Kai to use at newsletter for tweet ideas, then it adds it in line. But then if you want to take it out and just use it as context, you can use plus. All right, where are we at? Joe, do you see? Oh, you're answering some?
Yeah.
All right. How do you create a toggle to house information in? You can use elements. So if you type /element, you can create a new element or so on and so forth. Those are like named toggle dropdowns. Are there any limits on chats? How many chats can we create? What are the best practices with chats? There are no limits on chats. You can just create those as much as you want. In terms of best practices, that's up to how you want to use it. So I am personally a fan of creating a new chat whenever you want to reset the context of that chat. So the longer the chats get, the more slow and context heavy they become. And usually if you're talking with AI, this is true for ChatGPT, Claude, whatever it is, usually if it goes on for too long, that's a sign that you should just start a new chat, right? If you're trying to save everything in one, you probably, it'll get less and less specific over time and less helpful. What I would recommend is that with each thing that you write, like a newsletter or a batch of posts, or even just post ideas or YouTube ideas that you want to put ideas into, create a chat for each one of those that you can go into and add when you have the ideas. Cortex mobile app, it's coming. I have it actually on my phone and we're testing it. We have a few other things to fix. Oh, there's an update. That's good. But I'll give you like a sneak peek. So the app itself is coming, but it's rather, this is light mode, documents, and then chats, library with all of your information. You can click plus to search or capture fast while adding a connection. You can add images soon, and it will be sweet. But for now, on mobile web, this is one thing I do want to preface as well. With the mobile web app, well, it's not an app, but if you go to app.cortex.co on your mobile device, then I would recommend you can use chats from there. You can use voice transcription from there while you're on a walk. The thing that's kind of iffy about mobile web is just documents and editing. We're prioritizing the mobile app for that, so we don't waste time taking away from the mobile app.
One question I saw that I wanted to answer really quickly. Somebody asked, having a bit of trouble finding it again because there's been so many questions, but I'll paraphrase. Somebody asked what things we've noticed in the people who have the most success with the bootcamp. So a few things off the top of my head, and then Dan, you can expand on it, is one, they consistently show up. That's a very cliche thing to say. Like obviously consistency and persistence is important, but actually coming to these calls, going through the material, actually consuming the stuff and applying it is extremely important. And then another factor is asking questions when you get stuck, because I know this has happened with me in the past, and it still does sometimes, where I'll get stuck on something, but if I don't ask Dan or somebody else who knows the answer, then I'm just going to stay stuck, and I'm going to be wasting time and maybe lose my momentum and fall off. And then one other big thing is networking with people. So Dan talked about that a little bit earlier on this call, but reaching out to other people who you might vibe with or have similar content, or maybe live in the same area or whatever, but just reaching out with people and creating something of like an accountability group or something along those lines can be really helpful. Like I always tell the story about how Dan and I met like 5-6 years ago in a group like that, and we both had like 500 followers at the time. We didn't know each other, but all these years later, we're still talking. Obviously, we co-founded a company together. We've been doing stuff business-wise together for a few years now. So you never know like what sending a DM to somebody could lead to in the future. But that also helps in terms of getting the most out of something like this bootcamp. And you never know, like it could help somebody else who's feeling lonely or whatever when we lost, I don't know, keep going as well. So definitely reach out to some people.
Yeah, I'll add on 3 things. First thing, just apply yourself. Like I feel like courses in general, like people go into them kind of like, okay, I'll try this, and if it doesn't work, then I quit. It's not like we just put random crap in just inside of the curriculum and we're like, oh yeah, hopefully this works. We put it in there because it works. If you apply yourself and you don't take it as law and you use it as a way to go and try and fail and realize, okay, I failed right here. What is the actual problem? Is it this like curriculum that's wrong? Which maybe, who knows, maybe it is. But is it this curriculum that's wrong, or am I just doing it in a way that I can do better and then refine your own process from there? So the curriculum is a guide. It's not a thing that fixes all your problems just because you read a few sentences in a course. It's a way to give you clarity on how to move forward and hopefully fail fast so that you're able to learn and gain experience. That leads into the second point of you're going to feel very overwhelmed, especially if you haven't done any of this before. I want you to see that as a signal that you are learning, right? Not as an opportunity to think, okay, this is too much, I'm not understanding it, time to give up. It's I feel overwhelmed. That means I'm doing something new and I'm struggling with this, and that's a signal to keep going. The third thing, as Joey said, is just make friends. If you see any kind of social media advice or business advice or writing advice or even just life advice, it's make friends, right? It's introverts here, myself included. When you're on the internet, you kind of want to carry that introversion into it, and you become somewhat of a lurker, and you don't engage with other people too much. And this is really an opportunity to kind of break out of your shell and just start saying hi to people, start conversations, ask what they're up to, ask what they want to do, ask how they're doing inside of the curriculum. Just ask them anything, be interested in them, and let the conversation go from there. The more you can do that, not only with people in this curriculum, but on social media, in real life, when you're talking to the waiter at a restaurant, anyone, you just try to use this as an opportunity to talk to people, especially if you're like me or Joey and are very introverted. Just having a little group of people that you can catch up with online, invaluable, and you will not realize the benefits of it until 3 to 6 months from now, I promise. Going to more questions. Is the homework so far to complete module 1 by Tuesday next week? Yes. With module 1, please do not take that information lightly. Even though we aren't posting or writing threads or newsletters or whatever it is yet, don't take that information lightly. Module 1 is extremely important, and there's a reason why it's module 1. Mickey, when you say we can use other models, Claude, ChatGPT, etc., is that inside of Cortex, or do you mean externally? That was mostly in regards to the question of, is Cortex AI, like what's the free version of that? That's 15 messages on that. So we're going to add all of the ChatGPT, Claude, Grok models to Cortex, where our goal for that is within a week or 2, since Cortex AI is so new, but you'll be able to switch between them, which will be very cool, especially for writing. But what I meant is that for those, if you already have ChatGPT or Claude or paying for that subscription, you don't necessarily need to pay for Cortex at all. I just want to present that option. All right. Can the chat be edited or deleted? Yes. If you right click, you can delete. And if you can right click, delete, or rename. Once AI is properly integrated into Cortex, I won't need the other subscriptions. That's the plan. How soon will Kai have Claude 3.7 and Grok 3? We're working on RAG, if you are in the programming space, retrieval augmented generation, to better handle the context for those specific models. That's being worked on, I would say, a week or 2, and we should be able to put almost all models in there. Yeah, I canceled my Claude subscription, Lucas, and I went back to try some like legal documentation stuff, and it ran out immediately. So I upgraded again. All right, questions. I am a person with multiple interests and try to do the anti-vision to find my personal brand. However, I have the feeling nothing matches yet, or is childish. How do I decide? I think it's good that it doesn't feel right to you. It feels like you're just putting stuff down to put stuff down. Think of what you're doing in week 1 as just like putting stuff on paper, because at least then you have it and you can start to work with it and change things as you go through the curriculum so that you refine it, right? It doesn't have to be perfect the first time around. And for people with multiple interests or people who don't want to narrow themselves down to a few little things, it's going to feel weird, but you'll gain more clarity on it over time. And that's really the best advice I can give, is don't expect it to be a certain way just yet. Just do it. Is there any easy way to paste a template into an existing document in Cortex? What kind of template? If it's like from Google Docs or Notion or another, like a copy-paste text, you should be able to do that just fine into a document. If it's something more like Notion where you have databases and other things that isn't just markdown text, it probably won't transfer over one-to-one. Right, how do we find the recorded version of the kickoff call? After this call, it will be automatically uploaded to the Clarity Call space, and then you have to click the drop-down and click past, and you'll see all past recordings there. There's none right now because this is the kickoff call. All right, I have no Twitter experience. I post mostly on Threads, so does the post perform equally on Threads? Honestly, I've seen people get better results on Threads. Noah Vincent is one example. If you are in the Discord or care to join the Discord, you don't have to for this. Noah Vincent, he's helpful. He's been posting YouTube videos about Cortex. He has been posting on Threads and comparing it with Twitter, and organically, he's been doing a lot better on Threads. So the good thing about Threads and Twitter is that you can post to both, and it's just copy paste, right? On the side of your screen share, you had, oh yeah, it's Arc browser. That's my browser, so I use Arc. Are there any apps like Tweet Hunter for other platforms? You may actually like Typefully. I'll show you that really quick. So for those unaware of what Tweet Hunter is, that's a post scheduling platform. So this is what Typefully looks like, where you can write posts here. You can turn it into a thread and keep adding to it. You can drag and drop images, and then you can create your specific schedule for when you want to post. So if you don't want to just like log on to Twitter and post all the time, you can just open Typefully. I believe they're fairly affordable, like $10 to $12. And then you can schedule your posts, and this allows you to post to LinkedIn, to Threads, Blue Sky, Mastodon, and X. I have Threads and Twitter turned on because those are usually how I post. I post the same post to both of them. LinkedIn and Instagram are usually, I post the same between those. We learned about that in week 5. But for now, typefully.com is a solid alternative and more affordable. All right, Theo, since I'm starting from scratch, I currently have 0 presence on social media. Which minimalist social media platforms do you recommend? X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Just for the beginning, knowing that I'll add more as I get in the flow of writing and posting. Thanks. Personally, for me, I'm biased. X or Twitter. The crowd there depends which echo chamber you get trapped in. For like a lot of, I've seen a few people where they're like, oh, X is just all like political nonsense now after Elon took over. And it's like I see that sometimes, but the algorithm shows you what you want to see and what you engage with. So if you are the person who kind of gets sucked into that, then yeah, it starts to create an echo chamber and you end up hating X, even though it's you that got yourself into it. But you can intentionally follow different people to kind of curate the echo chamber that you're in. And the people on X just seem a bit more helpful and real, but Threads, specifically by Instagram, the app Threads, is also a great option, and organic growth seems to be very good there right now. What I mean when I say organic growth is that like if you just post, it actually has a chance of getting views. But on X and just in general, what we teach is making friends, networking, building a tribe, and learning how to manually control your growth without relying on an algorithm. So X or Threads, I'll leave the decision in your hands. Post to both, just copy paste between them and go between them both, see which one you like more. Any homework? Not for this week. The homework this week is to do week 1, and then there's tasks at the end with a template. You can go through that, fill that out. A lot of people say they find a lot of clarity. A lot of people feel overwhelmed with it, which I see as a good sign. But we're always there. If you just post in the discussions and tasks channel, we can walk you through stuff if needed. If you struggle with technology, is that Discord helpful? Discord is notoriously very cluttered and busy. So if you are not technology minded, you may just want to delete it. If for Circle specifically, if you post in the discussions and task channel, we can help with anything there. And it's like a forum style post, so it may be easier to keep track of. And you get notifications if we comment on your post. All right. Will the bootcamp show how to turn writings into authentic viral videos on Instagram and TikTok? Yes. The way that we teach it is we just teach using your tweets or writing in general as scripts for it, right? I like my philosophy on writing content in general is to focus on quality over quantity. Write your best for one platform. So newsletter and something like Twitter or Threads. Write your best there. Put it on all other platforms. Don't try to write different things for every single thing. Don't try to create different Instagrams or TikToks or whatever it may be. Write the best content first. Take that, turn it into a script, turn it into a reel, turn it into whatever it may be. Post it to all platforms so that people see your best stuff. So yes, in a sense, we will learn that. And if you need any extra guidance on that, I'm not the viral TikTok guy, really. I'm not the best at making reels. Yeah, we can help as much as we can with that. How important is replying/commenting to grow on Twitter/X? It's very time consuming. Is it possible to grow just by posting your own content? It's kind of sort of possible to grow just by posting your own content. I would recommend replying or commenting anyways, not as a way to just like do it randomly, but as a way to make friends and get known by specific people. So what helps the most in my eyes is to just create a list of 5 to 10 people who represent the, say, niche you want to join, right? You have a few people that you follow, that you like their content, that you kind of want to emulate, you want to join the same interest that they're in. Make a list of those 5 to 10 people. Doesn't have to be all at once. You can do this over the next week and just know people. And then only go to people on that list, find their posts, and just leave thoughtful replies. Add value to them. Talk about your personal experiences. Don't just write great posts. Try to get on their radar. That's what you're doing with replying and commenting, is you're trying to get on people's radar so they know who you are, so they're more likely to support you. People see your name more and more. You start to become known in that circle over time. And if you do it enough, then it helps a lot. Will there be a way to audit/review our content before it is published? Yes, you can post it in the discussions and tasks space. What we do recommend, though, is we've been doing this a long time. We've been teaching writing a long time. One thing we noticed is that a lot of people post for review out of fear of posting, right? And so they post for us to review it, so they feel as if they posted it. In reality, what I would really encourage you to do is post it. Just post it on whatever platform you're going to post it to first. Send that post to us to review, so that you have action steps for the next time, but you at least got it out, right? To just get it out first. If it's bad, you can always repost it. It doesn't matter. You can literally, if you have 0 followers, it doesn't matter if you take the same post and post it again tomorrow. So just keep that in mind. Is don't use us as review mechanisms as a way to not post. As someone who has taken 2R Writer and even already iterated on that system in Cortex, will I be able to sort of plug in the processes in this course into my own system? Yes. Do you suggest sticking with the template you guys have? I just want to avoid duplicating areas where I'm capturing ideas and going through my workflow in an effort to not clutter my Cortex, if that makes sense. Yeah, makes absolute sense. It should plug in well. I look over the templates and see if you want to duplicate them. But if you already have all of the Cortex templates or like the ones that you're using and you enjoy using for posts, threads, newsletters, yeah, don't feel free to not duplicate them over. Could you please show us one more time how to access the workspace? Sure. Just one thing here to remind everyone is that people who joined early on have access to this workspace. People who joined rather recently may not. So,
but you will get it today.
Yeah, Brian, with the workspace stuff, we have to add manually. So our backend engineer, Brian, he's on a flight right now, not unfortunately, but he can't do it until he gets back. So I would recommend going through the entire curriculum or this week before you do that. If you already have, you're fast. But if you haven't, go through it first because you don't need the template until the very end of the week. So if we're in Cortex, you click on your name, you hover over your name. If this isn't popping anything up, just wait a bit. We'll have it all set. Writers Bootcamp. You go to week 1 and the Kai prompts if you would like. Right click, copy to workspace, personal, and then that will duplicate it over like this. Now it's in my workspace. I already have that. So Can you go over how to promote/demote documents like you did in the video? Well, Shannon, can you leave what you mean by promote or demote documents?
I assume they meant nesting documents, so I explained how to do that in the chat.
Okay. Yeah, you would drag the document, and if you move it over a little bit to the right, you'll see like the little indicator, which shows that it'll drop in the folder. All right. I struggle with engaging genuinely with other creators because I create content in German, but almost exclusively consume content in English. Do you have any advice? Why not create in English? If you have a specific reason for going the German route, then maybe you can't go the English route. But if you can, I see that as potentially being more helpful, considering you consume content in English and you would be interacting with people in English. What's the best platform as an alternative to X? Threads, I would say. How soon Intel Cortex Mobile release? Salivating? I know. Internal testing right now. We have recently implemented new systems for how we are releasing things, just to make things a lot smoother in our own processes. So it goes internal testing, premium release, everyone release, just so we tier it out and can catch a lot of bugs before they go in. Is everything you're talking about actually in the course? Yes. Is there a portion of the curriculum or workspace dedicated to helping beginners with Kai? No, because Kai is very new, and the curriculum is something that we run consistently. So it will be updated, and there will be bonus modules in this curriculum for Cortex AI. I would recommend going to the Cortex YouTube channel and just looking at the most recent Cortex AI video, as that gives just a very good overview of how to use it. I don't know if you're reading the QA, so pasting here. What are some things that you see in students that have them? Oh, we answered that, right?
Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of questions.
Yep.
Will there be a way to audit/review? Got that. If I delete a chat, do all messages get deleted? All my captures? Yes, if you delete it. All right, Joey, you're getting a lot of these. Will this bootcamp touch on how to monetize or start freelancing? I mean, kind of, sort of. It won't teach you how to create a freelance offer, but audience building in general is a very large part of freelancing. So it covers about half of it. We don't touch on how to build a freelance offer in it. Can we create an X space for the bootcamp? Not sure if they can be closed groups. Would be cool to connect on the platform. Could potentially do that. Yeah. Mobile captures my wish. Same. What can we do to help you guys go live with the mobile app? Keep bugging us. Keep spreading the hype. We're working, not bugging, sorry, but yeah, keep bugging us. Like the more we're pressured, that may not help actually. We're working as fast as we can on it, I promise. Is it weird to drop my X handle here? Nope. Drop it. Self-promotion, we're all about it. How to undo something in Cortex if, for example, I deleted something by mistake. Depends what you deleted. If you deleted just content in a document, Command Z. You can also go to version history. I'll show that. So if you're in here and let's say you just delete content in a document, you can go to version history and you can just go back to previous versions, and then you can copy. Okay, I don't know what happened there, but you can copy everything inside, go back, paste it in. If you delete an actual document, there is a trash at the bottom where you can restore things. Or if you just like delete text, Command Z is like undo. Does Cortex has grammar checker built in, or do we need a separate one? If you have the desktop app, if you go to cortex.co/download, it has a grammar checker, but if you use like Grammarly or something, that works too. Is there light mode for Kai desktop? Yes. You go to settings, account, should be right there. Is Kai English only, or does it support multiple languages? You can tell it to speak other languages. So you can be like, only speak this language to me. It doesn't hold through other chats yet, but you can speak to it in other languages, yes. The Discord specifically, so just this is Circle. Discord is technically not tied to the bootcamp. It's just the public community that we have. If you want to join the Discord, you can. It's not necessarily tied to this bootcamp. There's a bootcamp discussion in there just for people who want to chat about it there. A lot of people from Houston. All right, non-technical question. I've been in beginner health for longer than I'd like to admit, 2 years, but I would like to use the bootcamp as a platform to help me get into the habits that would help me advance through it. Usually my biggest concern is due to lack of clarity and multiple interests. Is there part of the curriculum dedicated to clarity? If not, is there anything that you would recommend doing so I can take the most advantage out of the bootcamp? There isn't a dedicated part, but I would say that the curriculum in general is the clarity, right? That's like, okay, here's what you need to know. Here's what you need to do. Here's some little nuances on how to make it your own, how to iterate, so on and so forth. But the biggest thing just for clarity is focus. You kind of have to discover these things without me just telling you, but you have to focus on what moves the needle, right? Because if you aren't, here's, I guess, the biggest thing I could give you is that if you aren't growing by at least 1, 2, 3 followers, that means you can be doing something better, right? That doesn't mean that, oh, what you're doing just doesn't work or it's all a lie. It just means you have room for improvement and you may not see where the sticking point is. So if you ask us, we may be able to help get through that sticking point. But the needle movers, in my opinion, are one, just posting, because people need to be able to see what you post and like what you post and have to follow you. You need to have a tribe or a group of friends that you can grow with and bank on for support. And you usually find these people, or usually reply to these people quite a bit, and you share and strategize and bounce ideas off of each other, because this whole business, social media, anything, any skill, learning anything, it's not linear. It's not like, okay, I learned step 1, 2, 3, 4. I should be here. I should be at step 4. In reality, it's like, okay, I learned this stuff. Now I need to try it. But then I realize it's a skill and I'm not too good at it yet. So I need to get better in practice and stick with it, even though I'm not that good at it yet. And then you continue on. So posting, necessary. Making friends, second thing. Doing whatever you can to get more eyes on your content and you. Right? So if that's replying, if that's DMing people and asking them to share your post, we talked about that in week 1 and strategies to do that. You need people to see your posts. You need people to like them. You need people to share them. That's dependent on, is your content shareable or likable? And have you tried to get it in front of people? Have you not just expected Twitter or Threads to just blow it up? Have you tried? Like, have you put effort into being like, hey, here's my post, DM someone. I thought you would like this. What do you think? That sounds like, it's like, oh, well, why would I do that? Who would I send that to? That doesn't make any sense. That we go over that in the curriculum. Ooh, early morning writing sessions. Anastasia, that is very kind. Oh, Cindy, I am such a beginner on all aspects. Being retired and not tech savvy with ADHD, is there a written manual that is very basic to get started? The curriculum. I don't know about written manual, but in week 1, there's a social media basics. Week 1 kind of goes over everything. It can be a lot. But yes, it's kind of hard to reduce something so wide and broad as business, skill acquisition, writing, and social media into like a written manual, because it's not something that can just be succeeded at by performing a set of steps, right? It takes the experience, it takes the struggle, it takes getting the hang of it. It's a craft, is what I'm saying, is that you refine your craft over time. Anyone in SoCal? I will be in 3 weeks. You mentioned we can start on LinkedIn as well. We'll be fine with regular LinkedIn, or do we need another plan there? Regular LinkedIn is fine. Yeah, you don't need premium. I have it only because it lets me, it puts a visit my website button on my profile. So you don't need it. Who's here to go all the way? Yes, Jesse. We're all here. Okay, is there any help on picking an audience? That seems to be a first and most important starting point. In my opinion, you don't pick an audience, you attract them to what you want to talk about, and you do that by making your topics and skills and interests interesting, by understanding how to write attention-grabbing and valuable content. This, I feel like this mental model will help, is that I do think personally, I believe there is a way to make any idea do very well on social media. Even if that idea is as simple as this camera battery on my thing, there's a way to weave that into a story, or to write about a camera battery in a way that people find fascinating, or that they want to follow along because they like the way you write. So I think it's less about, I'm going to pick this audience and write only for them. It's more so, I'm going to write what I like in a way that's interesting, that attracts other people to me. And that usually crosses over with an audience that you can find or pick. And that is talked about in week 1. Right, Mickey, I think this applies more for long form content, but will we go over maintaining interest? Having the quick grab for short form is great. I'm also curious how to maintain interest over the course of a 5 to 15 minute YouTube video or long newsletter. Yes, absolutely. The way that I like to think about it, this will make more sense in the future weeks, is when you outline something like that, it's usually sectioned off, right? You have intro, point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4, point 5. Even if they aren't steps, you can still break them up into key points. And then from there, for each key point, kind of think of the first portion of that, the introduction to each section, as a tweet in and of itself. Or you have to include something interesting there, like a pain point, a benefit, a statistic, a quote, a metaphor, whatever grabs interest, you're kind of doing for each section and repeating along the way. So it's like tweets strung together in a sense. How do you guys define success for your students? Oh man, I would say success in this case is the 1 newsletter, 1 thread, and 20 posts, writing them. Because the thing with all of this is in 5 weeks, some people will see great success. It just clicks for them, or they've been doing it and somehow one thing goes viral. But to expect that for everything, it just doesn't feel right. And we can't promise that, frankly. This is right? It's a creative thing. So what I define by success is getting the first iteration out, a deeper understanding of what you need to do, and how to take that going forward. I hope we can give you the skills and tools and the foundations of those things to continue on without the need of our help or anyone else's help. Of course, further education goes a long way. There's a reason you go through 4 years of school. It's because it takes a long time to learn something. I have my own gripes with the school system, but a 5-week cohort that gets you to just fail at first. So this is going to sound counterintuitive, but our definition of success is to get as many failures out of your belt as you can within this cohort. I'm confused about what Dan demonstrated earlier, copying templates into my workspace on Cortex. The templates exist in the Circle course, or where are they? It looks like this got answered, yes. And Doug, the other thing with this, I was just going over that right now. As you go through the curriculum, it will show you how to do that as well. All right. Got the overwhelm junkies. Yes, it's a good thing. Overwhelm is great. Yes, go through module 1. Glad you liked it, Mendel. Is there a specific task for finding our niche, or will it unfold as we go through the task? It will absolutely unfold as you go through the task. As you'll find, we're not the traditional niche type. As in, like, I'm going to go after, what's a niche? I'm going to go after construction companies and only post for them. And in my eyes, the way we illustrate a niche, especially with growing an audience on social media, which is a lot different from traditional advertising or paid ads, where you do have to get specific and focus. On social media, where you post and you're in front of random people, you don't really pick a niche to go into there, right? You can write to a specific niche, but in order to find it, it's just a matter of posting to random people and attracting the right ones. So it'll unfold as you go through. Local LLM support, like LM Studio, hopefully at some point. Right now, we're still working on offline mode for Cortex. Got a lot we want to do before local LLM support. Yes. Can you say something more about potential visuals? If you're referencing like creating visuals, we don't talk, this is a writing course, we don't talk too much about design. We can help if you want, like with Midjourney and stuff, but in terms of like the only visuals we talk about are with turning your writing into images for something like Instagram. Will there be projects? At some point, documents you always need to reference for client/project. Yes, you will have Cortex, quote unquote, projects in the curriculum. Hi, Dan and Joey. Thank you for the time on today's kickoff call. Using the random chat example you shared, how are the 15 messages counted? Is it everything under the chat named random, or the request to summarize the 4 hellos? It's just a message. So Cortex AI, when you have Kai enabled, 15 messages. It doesn't matter how large they are. If you connect 20 documents to them, it's just 15 messages. Once you hit send, that's one. Only on the Kai enabled messages. You can send it as many captures as you want without responses. Dan, what's the input context window limit? Are you embedding the entire workspace into vector DB or RAG? We're considering both. For now, there's no vector or RAG. It's the context window limit is whatever Gemini's is, which is the highest of all the models. So it's pretty high. I forget the exact number, but with Claude, ChatGPT, etc., we're going to have to work with vector or RAG, and that is being done now. The engineers are people to ask for that. Will we have full access to Cortex after the bootcamp? Yes, you'll have not the premium tiers with unlimited AI, but yeah, you'll have the curriculum, you'll have the calls, and Cortex is just a software that's separate from the bootcamp. Anyone can use that right now.
You'll retain access on whatever tier you currently have.
For Cortex. So just to separate bootcamp is this cohort, Cortex is a software, even though they operate under the same business. Robert, yeah, Grok is very impressive. I'm surprised. I'm excited for the next models. Right. Can you share more info on the server/safety of the writing we do on Cortex? I've been using it for the past few months and love it, but do have some dread in the back of my head of any risk in losing it all. Yes. So security is as secure as Notion and others. I can give you like the straight text that Brian, our backend lead, sent to me. It's very in-depth, but it is encrypted, not end-to-end encrypted, but just encrypted at rest. And the data in general is, we go over all of it in the privacy policy. So if you go to Cortex, scroll to the bottom, you see the privacy policy, you can go over everything there. And one thing we do have with offline mode that is coming, full offline mode, just being able to store everything offline so you don't lose anything, so you have it. Not that you would lose anything. But then the other thing with that is that there is already offline documents and offline captures. And so if you like go from one computer to the next, they have to sync, but you can technically use Cortex offline right now, but you can't open Cortex unless you're online because we don't have the full offline mode just yet. So it is a huge priority for us. I am personally fairly confident that you don't have to worry about anything being lost, and we can always recover things if you somehow delete them or whatever happens. But yes, I appreciate the thought behind it as well.
Just really quickly, while I'm thinking of it because somebody asked about them. So we do also have something called the Cortex Office Hours, which I'm running on Saturday mornings based on the United States time. Those are a separate thing from the bootcamp. So that's something available for the entire Cortex community in Discord. Well, the whole community. But bootcampers are more than welcome to join. So if you want to join, ask questions about Cortex, we could talk about writing a little bit. Feel free to join. There'll be another email sent out about that later today. And I do them every Saturday morning.
Nice. As a beginner Cortex user, what is the most efficient approach that can cultivate the most traction in the beginning? It depends how you want to use Cortex. That's the unfortunate thing about using such like a general purpose app. If you're just using it for writing, I would just focus on what we talked about in the curriculum. So you'll have the general flow is like, okay, you have a template or an outline for like a newsletter or a batch of posts or a thread. Whenever you want to write those things, you just duplicate it, open it. And then when you write a newsletter, you create a draft and then organize it, so on and so forth. To organize the entire workspace, that's kind of dependent on what you're trying to do as a whole. As we know, you want to do the writing, but when productivity, planning, and other things come into it, it's really up to just how you want to organize it. I'm a complete beginner and don't know where to start with an audience or what to write about. Is the objective of the course to figure out in the first week? Yes. What should I do? I feel like I have so many interests and can learn everything, so what do I pursue? I can't tell you what to pursue, as that would kind of defeat the point, but I would go through week 1, and that may help narrow it down. Just to clarify, the username and password are different for the app and the website. Circle and Cortex. You're watching this on Circle right now. That is not our platform. That is where we're hosting this bootcamp. It is completely separate from the Cortex app or website. App.cortex.co is Cortex, the software. This is the Writers Bootcamp on Circle. So yes, they are not tied, and you will need different logins. What are your thoughts on Blue Sky? I haven't tried it, and I don't have an opinion. If I have a friend that is interested, it's not too late to join this cohort, right? Yeah, for this cohort, we're trying out late enrollment. We used to close it right at the start date, so they can still join. The price did go up at close, so or for the late enrollment, so just keep that in mind, but they can. Nice. How do you manage being a content creator and being vulnerable, real, without feeling like you are oversharing or overexposing yourself? I personally like to keep my private life private. I share some of it. I share my personal experiences if they tie into a specific story, but I tend to talk about my interests and opinions and beliefs and other things that aren't necessarily private to me, right? So it's kind of a balance you find over time. And this may sound unappealing, but sometimes you may just have to overshare to realize that, okay, I shouldn't share too much into that. Do you have experience on boosting on X, buying ads from X, or hiring someone who owns accounts? Kind of, sort of. Joey and I Joey was more so than me. Joey was a ghostwriter for a long time. I had a ghostwriting agency for a little bit until the person I partnered up with just stopped. So kind of have experience. You kind of just reach out to people that have a large following. You ask, hey, do you help with growth? What are your rates? And then you kind of just test the waters there. San Diego here, David. I'm moving to San Diego in 3 weeks. So if you're there, to the beach. Are we done with Facebook groups now? I was never a fan. Is the bootcamp a sort of in-depth tutorial on using Cortex? The only parts where we go over Cortex are in the tasks. So you'll see week 1 tasks, week 2 tasks, and that's how you can implement in Cortex. Aside from that, all of the other lessons, so 95% of the lessons are not Cortex specific. They're writing specific. Cortex is just like, if you want to do it in Cortex, you can. If you want to do it in Notion, you can. If you want to do it in some other one, you can. I may not want to use my real identity for my writing. Any advice or which part of the course might help? We don't talk about this too much in the course, but you can use either a pen name if you want to, or just an anonymous account, or even a theme name. So my name is Daniel Koenigsleep. It's not Danko, but Daniel Koenigsleep isn't that brandable, right? So DANKOE, that's a bit more memorable. Even though I'm like the face, I'm still there. If you wanted to just go under a alter ego or a different profile picture, or like a logo that you like or something like that, there's plenty of people that see great success doing that. Would it be possible to get some Discord subgroups in the channel, please? It would be great to get country group, art group, business group. In the Discord, we're going to be a bit biased there. We don't want to, it's already kind of crowded, and we want to keep it writing productivity focused. Oh, this is a good question. If we have a blog, is this going to be helpful to grow it too, or mainly just for social media? The thing with social media is that it is an incredible traffic mechanism for a blog. Usually, if you don't understand SEO or you don't do SEO, one, talk to Brian Decoded, he's the SEO guy. But if you're not interested in SEO, then your blog probably is. Your blogs don't just grow, right? You're just posting content on the internet. You need to fuel them with something like SEO or social media. So yes, it will grow the blog if you promote it with social media and the traffic you're gaining from social media. Same thing with a product or service, right? A lot of people create a product or service, and then they're like, okay, where are my customers? But they aren't bringing in traffic to that thing with something like content on social media or SEO or paid ads. A lot of different options, but building an audience is a great one that you keep and you don't have to pay for. How much writing should be just your own voice versus having AI revise and edit what we've written? Even though I try to write clearly, as a beginner, ChatGPT always writes more clearly than I do. It depends. Oh, there's a few things there. So you don't necessarily have to write clearly. Some of my best content has a ton of typos. I still don't edit my newsletters, and people point out the typos all the time, but it seems to not have mattered. I actually feel like the less you revise in general or edit, the more human you seem, especially on social media. So that's just one thing to take into account, is I wouldn't worry about it too much. I focus more on the impact of the message. But in terms of having AI revise or edit, I don't see that as too much of a problem, especially if you wrote the thing originally. One thing we're going to touch on a lot, just with AI features in general, is that I personally don't think they're there yet for writing for you, and that kind of strips the creativity and like fun out of it. So we recommend writing it yourself, but using AI to help with research, to help with expanding on ideas, or to help edit or revise. Andre, yes, the recording will be available. What's the go-to for publishing and sending out newsletters? I would say Beehive. Who owns all the data / information in Cortex? You do. So there's a distinction here. In terms of your content, in the terms of service and privacy policy, that's anything that you put into Cortex. That's yours. We don't touch it unless you need support access. I mean, unless you need us to help you with it. Like if you delete something and you need us to recover it, then there's a setting inside of settings that allows you to turn on support access, reach out to us, and that's kind of like consent of like, hey, you can go in to help me with this. But besides that, we don't touch it. We don't look at it. It's just stored securely on the servers. In terms of other data, we don't own any of your data. It's just used for logging and error logging. So just in general, what online apps do for, we need your email so that you can log in. We need to store your password encrypted so that, of course, you can log in. Other things like IT, like where is this coming from? If there's a bug, if there's an error, it logs it for us. But in terms of your data information, what you put in there, all yours. We do not touch it. If you need help, reach out to us. A little confused on the Discord. Is there a specific one for this writing bootcamp or just the Cortex one? It's just the bootcamp discussion. So Discord is separate from this bootcamp. If you want to join it, you can. If you don't want to, you don't need to. It can get overwhelming quick. I host my website on WordPress. Is there a template library central location for all shared templates? That'll be in the bootcamp workspace. You'll find that as you go through the curriculum. Any comments or thoughts for people who might want to stay anonymous? It works. There's a lot of people that do it. All this. The thing with an anonymous account is it's very easy to not post like a human and to not show a bit of personality. You can still show personality even if you're in an anonymous account, and you should. Are we limited to only 3 content pillars? Not necessarily. But I would argue that if you make your content pillars broad, like you suggest, it's kind of difficult to create more than 3 because you can usually lump them into 3 content pillars. I'm skipping ahead with this question, but I've been searching for newsletter platforms that don't rely on Stripe as a payment gateway or paid subscriptions. Isn't available in my country. I found that it's possible to integrate Kit with PayPal using Zapier or Make as a workaround. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and if you have experience or advice for setting this up, I'd appreciate it as well. Bit of a technical question. Oh man, I personally don't know ones that don't use Stripe, which is unfortunate. David, when I say capture, so chat and capture, when I say capture, I mean, well, if you go through the curriculum, yes, capture is chat and chat is capture. When I personally say captures, I'm just meaning like when I send an idea without AI, like I just send an idea there, that's what I mean by like a capture. More mode, yeah. Any lifestyle routine advice for this bootcamp? It's up to you, but time block at least 30 to 60 minutes to go through the curriculum and implement it. if you don't have that much time, 30 to 60 minutes I feel like is reasonable. If you have more time, spend more time writing as we get more deep into it. So set a 2-hour time block. I would also recommend a 30-minute walk every day to have ideas, to listen to audiobooks, to listen to YouTube videos, to just generate ideas that you would potentially want to write about. And yes, as Joey said, drink Coke Zero.
One thing I'll add to that is do your best to make this a consistent part of your daily, weekly, monthly routine, because writing is like a muscle. So we can tell you the exercises to do, but you have to actually apply that information and do it on a consistent basis, or else you're just not particularly going to get anywhere. So do your best to, like, even if you can only spend, like, I get it, we all have stuff going on, people get busy, etc. But if you can even take just 5 to 10 minutes on a busy day to sit down and brain dump some ideas into Cortex or have an exchange with Kai or something like that, even that little bit, even though it may not seem like much, will still help a lot. And that will keep that habit going, and you'll see a lot better results. Because speaking from experience here, including with writing, it's really easy to intend to be consistent with something. It's like, oh, I'm really excited to do this and I'm going to do it. But then stuff happens, you forget about it, and then it's been weeks and months and you haven't written anything in a while. So really just do your best to do a little bit every day at the least.
Yep. Is there any way to easily export /sync with Obsidian? You can select documents and export as Markdown. So if you go to Cortex, and then let's just close all these. I can click here, select them all, right click, download as Markdown, and then I can import that into Obsidian if I want to. If you are trying to import, you can import from Obsidian there. Will you show us how to publish a newsletter or just how to write one? They're kind of one and the same. So since there's many newsletter platforms you can sign up for, I would just sign up for one like Beehive, Substack, whatever it may be, and then we'll show you how to write it, but then it's just a matter of copy, pasting, hitting send. Can I binge the course, or do you recommend be pace myself? Might be in the course already. Well, the modules release week by week, so you can't really binge it. How much time per week you recommend for studying materials to get a really good understanding and get the most value? I can't break it down into time per week because some people go through faster, some will go through shorter. What I would recommend is set aside, again, probably 1 hour. That will probably get you through week 1 in 2 days, a day and a half, depending on how quick you are with it, and then spend the other hours each morning doing the thing, especially when it comes to writing. Just write and implement 1 hour every single day, morning, night, midday on your lunch break, whenever. I prefer morning writing. Will we ever get a web clipper / Readwise reader experience? Yes, very soon. Or I can save a YouTube video and reader and watch while following the notes. The transcript feature for YouTube videos will go in very soon. That's close to next priority. In terms of following along, that will be later. But transcripts for anything is coming pretty soon, and global capture. So you press a keyboard shortcut like Control K, and it will save anything that you're on your computer and transcribe it. Is Medium worth it, or would you recommend another platform for long content? I think Medium's worth it, but I'd also recommend building your own newsletter. So you can post between the two if you'd like, but Medium's great and easy to post to. Tom, got a drop. It's nice to have you here. Excited to get to know you too. Good. Made a Beehive a few days ago. Is that the best place for a beginner newsletter? I would say so, personally. Can I teach a team to use this? Yes, but our team plans are not available yet, or workspaces. So if they use it on individual plans, definitely. But teams are coming soon. Is the 2-hour writing course a good combination with the bootcamp, or will I learn the most of it during the 5 weeks? I would focus on the bootcamp. I would just purely focus. Same to you, Andrew. Just focus on the bootcamp. Same with you, Tina. Just full force on the bootcamp, 5 weeks. No split focus. What other than long walks, what do you personally do to clear writer's block or brain fog? I read. I like reading books and finding an idea that just sparks the right idea.
Something that helps me with writer's block is either talking to somebody, like I'll talk to Dan about stuff on my mind sometimes, and that will help. Like not only getting an outside perspective, but also just the act of talking about something forces your brain to put things together in a different way, so you can form new connections that way. But you can get that similar benefit from just brain dumping. So Dan knows that my first answer to any problem is just do a brain dump about it, but it tends to work out most of the time at least. But just grab a pen and paper or open a new doc in Cortex and just do a brain dump. It is really helpful. Like you don't need to have any real prompt or direction for it. Just brain dump something that you might want to talk about, and you'll most likely come up with some kind of idea from that.
Yep, brain dumping is good. 40+ crowd. A lot of people. That's cool. I'm almost in my 30s. Feels crazy to say. Graph mode for Cortex when? Kind of soon. Hopefully. We have other things to do. It's so hard to like keep people updated on like what's coming when, because like with development, oh man, we pretty much have to redo the entire library before we get to like the bonus quality of life features, because we really need to differentiate ourselves as an app, and that is like highest priority right now, and mobile. Okay, got it. All right, question. How much writing should be just our own voice versus have it? Oh, we got that one. How do you feel about people who use AI and tweet underside stuff for their tweets? See so many people who are clearly using AI, but it gets numbers. I haven't seen many who get numbers with it. I've seen AI generated replies and other things of that nature, and I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, it's obvious it's not leading anywhere. If you have an example to post, I'd like to see it, but it really depends on your goals. Like if you're here for the goals of this bootcamp, which is to talk about your own interests, enjoy doing that, then AI has a place, which we'll talk about. If you're here to just grow really fast and fuel some kind of business, then maybe that's for you. Everyone has their own thoughts on it, but for this bootcamp specifically, we're here to write about our own interests and find something fulfilling in that. Escher, I've been using Evernote for the past 10 years. It served me well, and I especially love that I can store any and all content locally. Can I locally save content I generate in Cortex? Soon, very soon. Full offline mode has been in the works for quite a bit of time now, and it's getting there. It's difficult to develop. Right. All right. Good amount of people dropping. Been going for a long time. Regarding offline file storage and encryption, can those be accessed easily like any other file storage? If I want to do Python, not with the initial version. It'll be stored in a different way, but eventually we want it to act. If you use Dropbox, similar to how it's on your computer, and you can add things to it, it'll sync, you can turn certain ones offline, things like that. That's kind of how we want it, but that will take time. Is graph mode just for display, or will it be usable like graph database to augment the vector indexing feature? We want the graph mode to be a lot more useful than display. So yes, that's still being planned. How does posting content for a personal brand differ from posting on a SaaS product account? And will we learn this here? I personally think they don't differ much. We kind of just, honestly, no, we went through, as you go through the curriculum, the examples in it go over what we do for Cortex, the Cortex account as a personal brand to bring personality to it. So they're kind of very similar. Okay, good, solid. What program you use for graphics / illustrations on your social platforms and website? Is it AI generated or something else? The recent ones are AI generated. The older ones are done in Figma. Yes, you have to shave your head. All right, looks like a good amount of people are just saying goodbye. All right, wait. Yes, we caught up. Okay, good. All right, kickoff call done. Questions? We had a lot of them. Thank you. We went 40 minutes over, but we got the questions answered. So that was kickoff call. Not too much practical aside from answering the questions here. It will be a lot more practical in week 1, 2, 3, 4. So yes. How will the accountability groups be made? We aren't sure yet. Technically, accountability groups aren't, like smaller ones aren't a part of the bootcamp offering. The accountability is the discussion and task channel, but we'll figure out a way to narrow something down. But yes, thank you everyone. See you in the cohort. Happy Tuesday, and go through the curriculum. Get that week 1 done. See you next week, and talk in the cohort. All right. Bye, Joey.
Bye.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye.
All right, we got people. Joey, I'm going to keep Q&A. We'll leave it to chat.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it's easier.
I'll also respond to people in their message. So heads up to people that are coming in. If you ask a question in the chat, I'll respond to you there so that the asker can see it easier and Dan can see it that I've replied when he goes back through.
Cool. Yeah, I think that'll be helpful. I have a few things to talk about today, but we'll wait for everyone to roll in. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. If you haven't seen already, week 2 should now be available, and that's when the fun stuff starts. So I'm excited for you guys to get into that. Hello, hello. We're still growing. We'll wait like 1 minute. All right. Thank you, Sean. That one got some Cortex users too, which was nice. The last video. Now that we almost have more models in. Okay, while people are coming in, quick Cortex update. The next week to 2 weeks, we plan on getting the capture inbox back in. So capture, that should come very soon, but capture only, right? And that'll set us up for the next thing, which is transcribing any link. So tweets, threads, articles, YouTube videos are already there, but being able to show the YouTube transcript in your library and PDF upload specifically. So that is working towards global capture. So global capture will be a bit down the road, but think of just, if you've heard of lazy.so, I'm not sure what they're doing or if they are still developing, but their whole thing was like a keyboard shortcut to capture anything that you're on. So if you're even in your email, you press a keyboard shortcut and it'll save whatever's there and whatever you highlight, and you can add notes to it, so on and so forth. So that's what we're working towards. And then more models. We found something very cool that allows us to do this quick, but Claude 3.7, Perplexity Deep Research, Perplexity Pro, ChatGPT 0.1, 4.0, 4.5, Grok 3 isn't there yet, but all of these other models are coming in, and that'll help a lot with different use cases. So search, if you've used Perplexity, it's just so much better for finding like up-to-date relevant information because it's a search tool. So searching, researching, writing, etc. in Cortex alone will just take things up a notch until we get to those next features, which we're finally, oh yeah, DeepSeek on US servers will be in as well, which is awesome. So none of your stuff will be sent to China if you care about that. But yes, DeepSeek or one, Perplexity, all that stuff will go in. Quick question, we can cancel paying for any AI we are now. Kind of, sort of. If you, like for image models like Midjourney, ChatGPT, etc., of course, we won't have that in there. There's going to be a few things like Claude artifacts. You won't be able to do that if you care about like coding. So if you have Claude write code for you and then it displays the app in a little artifact, we won't have that. If you're just getting text answers and responses, then you should be pretty good to go. Oh, nice, Linda. Yeah, Claude is sweet. Okay, so people are stabilizing in the chat. We have a good amount of people. The first thing I want to go over, just in the bootcamp, it seems like very few people have had some issues finding the Core Notes template and just the workspace in general. The Core Notes template, that was included in a link in the module that talked about Core Notes, but I added it to the actual workspace. So you can go back in there and duplicate it if you'd like. So now they're all in one place. I don't know why I didn't do that before, but they're all in the Writers Bootcamp workspace. So if you click on your name, like where settings would be, then go to the Writers Bootcamp workspace, you can copy them to your workspace and everything should be good to go there. A second thing with that is just make sure that as you're going through the curriculum, try not to skip certain parts. You may feel like, oh, there's only 2 minutes left in this video, or oh, there's just like 2 sentences under the video. To try to read everything so that you don't miss something that could be crucial, and that will help a lot. So the way that we're going to go about this call in general is Joey is going to answer questions as they come up in chat as always. Joey, I have a call after this, so we can't stay too far over this time. But if questions come up as I'm going through things that I have to talk about, feel free to interrupt me if it's like on par with what we just talked about. And then at the end, if you like save some questions that you feel like were most important, so I don't have to work all the way from the top like the last one, that would be perfect. So this past week was on brand clarity. There was quite a few things that we talked about, which were the non-needy networking, how to grow in general, finding your quote unquote niche, or just understanding your brand. And that's where a good amount of people start to get confused. If you haven't watched my content previously or aren't familiar with how I think about branding, it seems like there's two different camps when it comes to finding your niche or creating your brand. And the first is, okay, niche down, be as specific as you can. And then the other is you are the niche. So your interests, your intersections of your interests, that's where you go after. I personally like the you are the niche philosophy, because you're not pigeonholing yourself into one skill or interest when your skills or interests may change down the road. And by sticking to that one thing, it's difficult to change if you ever want to, which you may. And it's not as fulfilling in my eyes, because your work and your interests and your life don't seem to connect in a fulfilling way, right? I kind of want my work and my writing to reflect my curiosity and my interests and what I want to learn that week, when I'm studying something new that I learned, and I want to be able to feel like I can talk about that in a way that doesn't damage my brand. So to kind of hopefully simplify this philosophy and make it more tangible for you guys, I like to think of your brand or your niche as the intersection of what you're doing and what you can help others do. So it's like, what do you like to do? What do you like to study? What are you pursuing in life? What are your goals? What's your ideal life? And then how does that intersect with what do people actually find valuable and what can help them? So when you find the intersection of those two things, or when you think about, okay, I have a content idea that I want to write about, I have something that I want to include in my brand, does this help other people? Right? That's the main thing. Or if it doesn't on the surface, how can I position it so that it's helpful for other people? A way to think about that is, if I want to talk about the 9 stages of ego development, which I've written about a few times now, and it's going to be in the next video, that can be something, it's like, I really like that concept. I find it fascinating. I love studying it. But when I'm talking about writing and business and self-improvement, it may not seem like it has a place in my content. So then I have to think from a different layer. Okay, how does the 9 stages of ego development actually help people? And when I dig deeper, it's like, okay, well, understanding kind of which levels you fall in helps you identify your sticking points and your strengths and your weaknesses and how you can start to improve. So then I can start to take that and bake it into a topic around self-improvement or achieving your goals, or quite a few things, honestly. And then I feel like I can write about that, which is awesome, or share it with other people if I'm focused on how it actually helps people. So if you take what you are doing, what you want to do, your goals, your interests, what you can help other people do, what are the topics that fall within that? What are the skills that people need to learn that you can teach? And what do they need to implement in their life? How do they need to change their behavior? Because I like to think of it as changing behavior or changing what they do, because that's how you give something someone valuable. Is they make a change in their life, they get a reward from that in a way. They notice, okay, this is better than what I used to be doing. And they remember you as the person who helped them do that. So topics, skills people need to learn, what they need to do to implement their life. And most of your content can be centered around mindset, skill set, and behavior change. So literally what you do, what your routine is, the actions you need to take. Now, the next thing for brand is, I'd like, a lot of people, I feel, get stuck up on one piece of content or one newsletter, right? They get worried whether they write a piece of content around their interests or what they want to write about, and then they think, well, this doesn't really align with things I've talked about before, or it doesn't align with anything related to making money or growing. It just doesn't feel like it belongs in your brand. So I want you to zoom out a bit and think of what your brand as what it really is, which is a culmination of the content that you write over time. So that means that your brand and your niche isn't too solidified at the start. It's hard to solidify. It solidifies as you write more content and as more people follow you and consume that content. So if I have one video on my YouTube channel or one tweet, people aren't going to get the full story. They're not going to understand what I'm doing, what my niche is, all of these other things. They may like the post and follow me, but they're not a very strong follower. But then as I get more posts out, more newsletters, more YouTube videos, whatever you're creating, then they have more things to dive into. And the longer they follow you and consistently consume your content, the more they form the full story of what your philosophy is, what you help people with, what you're the go-to for, why they trust you, all of those different things. So at the beginning, don't get too caught up on like, okay, is my niche getting across? I don't know what my brand is. It kind of takes shape over time. That's what a lot of this stuff is. Even with skill acquisition, it just all starts to refine itself. The more you do it, the better you get, and the more clarity comes from action, or action is how you get information. And then you feel a lot more clarity around your brand. Now, one thing that I see quite a bit, and I kind of want to nip it in the butt right now, which it's hard to stop everyone from doing it because it's kind of just what people do when they first start writing content. But one thing that becomes extremely important when you are first writing content is just building authority. There's many different ways to do this, but the main problem is that people will go into writing a post and it will come out like very philosophical, or it will sound like it's a quote from a famous philosopher, or it just sounds very clever. And there's something there, there's an idea, but there's no real substance or something that people can take and implement in their lives. So there's nothing wrong with the philosophical quotes, but you have to think, okay, who actually posts these and why do you like those types of posts from the people that you follow? It's usually because you highly respect the person that is writing them. So when Aristotle says something fancy and very deep, it hits a lot harder because you're like, oh, that's Aristotle. His name is persisted throughout time. He's very popular. He's very authoritative. Same thing with a lot of the people with a lot of followers. Like, they have some social proof and authority built. So they can get away with being more philosophical and giving that life advice and the things that sound very pretty in your ears. But when you're just starting out, you're just starting out. You don't have much authority. People don't perceive you as that like highly respected person who's changed their life in innumerable ways. So the way you build authority is by trying to change people's lives, by giving them the tools, the insight, the advice that they can actually implement, that is useful to them, that they can go and use, change their behavior, and then attribute the goals they achieved or the way their life changed to you. And then the more that happens, the more people perceive you as an authority, the more people spread your name, the more people share your content. And then the philosophical quotes or the nice sounding life advice starts to become more of an option for you. So the things, what I want many of you to do, I can't say all of you, just if this part resonates with you, if what I'm saying resonates with you, try to include at least one post that has a novel tip. So something that you do that you find useful that others can take and implement. Think like a life hack, right? Give out a life hack once a day in your post as well. Try to have at least one actionable step. Like, just tell people to do something or give people something to try or experiment with. something useful, that feels useful. Or if you want to go the philosophical or life advice route, you really have to make sure that your insight is such like a massive mindset shift that it doesn't matter how authoritative you are, because that changes the way they think about the world. So there's that. The next thing related to that is when you're building authority, just try to focus on the basics a bit more. What I mean by that is I'm writing a newsletter right now that is the basics of AI, right? And since we have AI in Cortex now, it's just, I want to start talking about AI. But how do I start talking about AI when I've never talked about it before and I don't have any authority in it, so that the newsletter doesn't flop and my subsequent YouTube videos don't flop and all of my content around it doesn't flop? I'm breaking into a new interest, so to say. And when you're a beginner, you're breaking into any new interest that you would want to talk about. So there's a few things I need to string together here. Is that there is, in my case, talking about the basics of AI, the question arises, well, can't they find all of that information somewhere else online? Can't they just ask ChatGPT? Can't they Google search and learn about AI? Can't they watch someone else's video who's been making this all the time? There's enough places for people to learn about the basics of AI. But the thing holds, most people haven't learned about it, and they aren't that interested in learning about it because they know they can just open up ChatGPT and ask a question. But they haven't taken the time to actually study it. So this brings in the point of what you include as content in your brand is what you deem important. You or me are kind of like, we're curators of signal, right? Our brand is what we deem important. So people follow us because they want to hear our thoughts, our opinions, our takes on specific things. I don't have anything relating to the basics of AI under my brand, in my newsletters, in my videos. A lot of my audience, I have to assume, doesn't know about those things. So when I write that post and focus it for beginners and introduce people to AI, what it's about, teach it to them, then a lot of the people who hadn't learned it before or gone about learning it are going to learn it from me. And that's a good thing for both of us. I get the quote unquote like authority points for teaching them something that could really help them, and they learn something new. So when you're starting talking about a new interest, don't be afraid to talk about the absolute basics, the things that you feel are so basic to you that everyone knows, that everyone can find somewhere online when they can't, and they're not going to. The thing about social media and being a creator is that social media content is not based always on a search algorithm. Usually people find your content through the organic algorithm. It's just random posts popping up on their timeline. They're not actively looking to learn something like AI. If they want to do that, they're going to go search Google or Perplexity or YouTube, but not all the time. And if they are searching for that thing, then they're not on social media expecting for it to pop up. So you're trying to share what's important to you in a beginner level way on social media so that people can find it from you because they're not searching for it if they're on social media, and then they can learn about something that they probably weren't going to learn themselves. And if that thing is important and helpful to them, and you can articulate that well with what we learn in this curriculum, then even better. The other thing there is that, losing my train of thought. Oh, the experts, right? So if there are people in my audience who have learned about AI before or any kind of interest, it doesn't matter. What are the skills or interests that you are very good at? When you hear people talk about the basics of those things, the beginner level things, do you just like ignore it? You usually like refreshing yourself on the basics of those things. Like I've been into fitness and weightlifting almost my entire life since I was a young teen. And most of the videos that I watch on YouTube just go over the same crap all the time. There's nothing new, but I don't care because I need to be reminded of the fundamentals to stay on track. So it's not a problem if you talk about the beginner level things because that's the foundation. You have to always talk about those and add on little advice or nuance here and there. When you write something long like a newsletter, I tend to avoid going super deep into something until I've effectively established the basics once again. I sound pretty repetitive in a lot of my videos. That makes some people annoyed, but that's because they've already learned the thing and they don't need to watch my videos anymore. So I have to establish it, talk about the basics, introduce people, get everyone on the same page, and then go into the deep or advanced stuff that I want to talk about. So that's all I had to share. So Joey, if there are questions that you've noticed.
Yeah, so actually, if you start from the bottom, the one that Roger just asked, I think that was one that I was going to highlight for you. So if you want to do that one, then I have one or two others that I've highlighted as well.
Okay. Right, from Roger. Hey gang, I'm the co-founder, CTO of a SaaS centers around work-based learning. My topics are crypto, software, and self-development. I write a lot about work-based learning and learning in general. That does align with my startup. My co-founder is a little worried. When I start writing about crypto and software, mainly crypto, the startup is not my personal brand, but it does align with my vision. If you would have founded Cortex, how would you have felt about starting to talk about philosophy and learning when your audience just knew you from your SaaS? I mean, I'd look at what we did found Cortex, and then we do talk about that stuff. So you kind of just talk about it. People don't only follow you to hear about your startup. And if you look at any startup founders today, are they only talking about their startups, or are they including their opinions and their philosophy? They usually follow you because you're a person. You're the face of the brand, but you're not the brand, right? You're kind of getting across your vision, your interests. You're helping people learn new things, so on and so forth. So there isn't too much to say there aside from I would try it and see the reaction. And I think you'll be surprised that people actually want to hear more of what you believe, what you like, and those interests. And of course, the learning, right? Because you say when your audience just knew you from your SaaS, you can share what you're learning as you're building the software, but you're trying to incorporate certain maybe philosophical lessons and other things that helps make what you learn unique to you, and it adds a lot of depth to your writing. And that's another way to like weave in personal experience, where if I'm reading something like this book, Mastery by George Leonard, if I'm reading that and it reminds me of an experience I had building the software, I could tell that story, but now I have a new idea to help articulate it a lot better.
Cool. I'm about to put in another one right now. I've copied and pasted it, but real quick for Tara. Yeah, the office hours on Saturdays do include Cortex Basics, and you can also ask questions during those. So if anybody, I saw a few people post about how they felt lost when using Cortex even after they watched the second brain course. And if you haven't watched that yet, definitely check it out. I'll link it here in a moment. But I do office hours every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So if you feel kind of lost with it, you want to ask some questions, you can come to that and I'll help you out. And they're also recorded as well. So with that being said, here's a question from Marlon.
All right, so here's my question. I'm deep into exploring personal growth, purposeful living, and financial freedom, but don't yet have a concrete, unique solution that I can weave into my content. Since I'm still in the process of learning and applying these ideas myself, how do I develop an original concept or framework? Good question. In your content, like your posts, you don't necessarily need a unique solution. You can just teach what works, right? That's it, right? Because there are a lot of beginners who don't know that thing. So that is novel. That is a unique solution for a lot of people. In terms of making it your own over time, that kind of just comes through ideation and brainstorming and knowing it inside out. So a way that I like to think of it is when I'm writing something, and I want to include some kind of unique solution, let's consider a solution like a list of actionable steps, right? So there's a problem and there's steps to overcome the problem. So I'll write out those steps like, okay, how do I solve this problem? And then I'll look through it and I'll think, what could I remove or add or make better or rename, and start to shift things around? And then can I name that something of my own, or can I talk about it enough so people register that unique set of steps with me? So in short, don't worry too much about it. And as you continue writing about those things, just try to think, how can I write this in a better, more effective way? Is there a better way to present the solution?
Cool. Got this one from Linda. I figured you can answer it better than I could. I know obviously we're both dudes, but I'm sure you've maybe noticed a couple things that might help answer this question for Linda.
I also wonder about gender differences in content creation. What strategies might work better for men versus women in terms of kinds of content, way it's shared, strategies to create content, what people expect from a creator. I would say, one, as you're going through this curriculum, a lot of the examples are from my own content. And so that shapes a lot of how I write content, right? It's just like how my mind operates. And I like harsh truths and kind of harsh advice in general. So when you're writing, just try to ensure that you're not copying someone else's voice, because that dictates a lot of who you attract and how they resonate with your content. Another thing there is I would look up specific accounts that are very good at speaking in the tone that you want to go for, so that you have some kind of source of inspiration and you can compare that against like the other voices that you see and start to make better decisions in terms of how you phrase your own content. So in a nutshell, this is simple advice, but more difficult in practice, especially when you're just getting started writing, is just write in your own voice and practice and refine that. Because when you're just starting out, it's like all the voices come to your head and you're like, that's not good, this isn't going to work out. People aren't going to like this, but you power through that and try to make it sound like yourself, or like the content that you would resonate with.
This is related to a question I've seen pop up a few times, and it comes up pretty often in Discord too, about organization. I talk about mine a good bit, like probably every other office hours call, but would you be able to show like a quick 2 or 3 minute overview of like your top level organization and like the philosophy around that?
I'm making a video about this soon. It's going to be called How I Organize My Life. And I'm pretty much going to start it out with, I don't organize my life. Like I kind of just let things go into place. And I operate by the philosophy that if I need to remember it, if it's important, I'll remember it. If it's not important, then I don't need to remember it. If it's important and I don't remember it, I'll be reminded of it. So I don't pay too much attention to organization. I have the search feature in Cortex. I can find the things that I need to find. I do have different folders, but there's nothing special about them. Like I have a newsletters folder. I have a social content folder. I have a Cortex folder for all Cortex stuff. It is relatively simple, and I add connections when I need to add a connection, like a backlink, when I want a related idea to be there. So that's kind of my organization. Is I'm personally not a fan of the over-optimization, over-organization of certain Notion templates or Obsidian workflows. Not that those are tied to Notion or Obsidian. They definitely can happen in Cortex all the time, because those things are systems, and systems fall apart because you change, right? What works now may not work in a year from now, and probably isn't going to work in a year from now, and you're not going to like how things are structured. So one of our goals for Cortex in general is to have auto tags, auto connections, and other things that make it so you don't need to worry about organization, and you can find things when you need them. That's difficult, but in short, I'm probably not the best person to answer that question, because I'm the type of guy who has 10 pairs of shoes right here laying around, and I know exactly where they are when I need them. Same thing on my desk. I'm just that kind of guy, where it's like my room is messy, but I know where everything is. Same thing with Cortex.
My room is messy, but my heart is pure. Sergio asked, what is the void for you? What do you do with that?
That's my chat. That will turn into my capture inbox. So once that feature goes in, that will be capture only. And we're not going to do anything with your current chats, but we will have a feature that allows you to select all chats. I mean, not all chats, select all captures or select multiple and move them to the inbox or another chat. So the void for me is just where all of my captures are.
Got one here. I'm trying to help surface ones that I can't really answer as well from Anna that I just put in.
Any strategies for those who aren't going to be using problem solution actionable steps, such as those who want to share their personal story or write fiction? In terms of fiction, I feel I don't have too much experience with that in terms of social media content. One person to potentially follow for inspiration related to this, although he gets rather political. Some people don't like him. I like him personally, but Devin Erickson, he's the author of the fiction book Theft of Fire. And his whole story is he didn't want to go to a big publisher. He wanted to be self-published. He wanted everything within his control, in his hands. And through that, he realized that he needed to be the salesperson for his book. He needed to actively promote it. And he also realized that just posting promotions to the book on social media wasn't something that was sustainable for him. And he noticed that it wasn't working for other people. They didn't grow an audience because he wasn't providing anything that they were there to consume. So his whole thing is just what we're teaching here. He has his fiction book, but he writes about his opinions, his interests, he teaches certain skills, and he builds a personal brand that people follow, and then they organically buy his book, or he promotes it in the comments, and he's done extremely well for himself as a self-published author. So it is an option, whether you're writing fiction or creating music or creating things that aren't like a super actionable, valuable digital product. You can still build a personal brand in the ways that we're discussing, because that's a rather proven and good way to build an audience of people that like you and want to support what you're building, and then they turn into fans of that thing. In terms of personal stories or experiences, that's a way to do that as well, is telling your personal story or experience and weaving lessons into that to build the audience around you. The thing with that is that kind of is the problem solution actionable step framework. The problem, just framed from your personal experience, is a problem that you used to face. That's the start of a story. The solution is the aha moment, the insight. Okay, what happened? What changed? And then the actionable steps don't necessarily need to be actionable, so to say, but it's usually a list of things or 1 to 2 things that helped you reach the solution in your personal story or life. So that's my 2 cents. I feel like there are people who write fiction in newsletters or in social posts. I'm just not too aware of them. So if you know of accounts or people who do that, pull from them for inspiration. Really break down and study, okay, if they're successful doing this, what's going on here? Why are they successful? And try to reverse engineer, okay, they're posting on this platform, they're doing this, kind of, they're structuring their stories this way, they're promoting things this way. You kind of just have to write down and break down everything they're doing and then try to emulate that. And by doing so, it will be difficult, but you'll notice sticking points that you need to just overcome through testing different strategies.
There's one here from Greg that could be useful.
What are the biggest lessons you learned from managing a startup, from your team to projects, and what can I do to improve my organizational skills and improve self-agency to thrive in a startup environment? Well, what I've learned from starting a startup, we're still not at the point, we're a relatively small team. We have 8 engineers, and then me, Joey, Matt is also an engineer, but pretty small team. So we're not at the point where we really have to get down and gritty with organization and management, because we're all kind of consumed with our work and what we need to do. We kind of know what we need to do, and that's just what we do day to day. And it's fairly chaotic because things are changing so much. If we implement systems now and then we end up changing a big feature or a way that we build things, which is inevitable in such a chaotic and like learning phase of the startup, that system isn't going to do anything for us in 3 to 6 months, and then we're gonna have to start it over again. So in terms of that, it's kind of just embrace the chaos, solve problems, do what you need to do, listen to feedback, look back and connect the dots through self-reflection often, really pay attention to things that don't work once you build them, and just try to refine the process over time. At least that's what I've learned. Right now I'm trying to make sense of the startup thing in my own personal philosophy and how those things interconnect so I can make sense of it more and how to get better results. So yeah, for us, it's like build the product features. Okay, what are problems associated with that? Let's go. How do we get distribution? And so it's partially my audience, partially how do we keep going, and then revenue, or let's get to a point where we're profitable and we can breathe for a second. So those are the things.
I think Tyler just asked, could you say a few words about the curriculum coming up this week and what mindset should people have as they're working through it?
Yes, posts. So this week is all about post writing. Write as many posts as you can. Go gung ho. When I say that doesn't mean post them all at once in a day. It just means get really freaking good at writing posts through practice. And you can use a social scheduler like Typefully or Tweet Hunter or Hype Fury or whichever one you want to use. There's a plethora of them. And you can write your posts in Cortex, but schedule them in Typefully and just try to build a database of all of this content that you've written and really get into the flow. The mistake that I see a lot of people make is that, one, they barely write posts, so they never like build the momentum of writing posts. It never starts to come naturally for them. There was a time when I just couldn't stop writing posts, and they were all really good in my eyes, but they did well on social media too. And then I started to slow down, and then I got like out of the groove after 2 years of just, I didn't have any problem writing posts because I was just doing it so much and they naturally came to me. I was thinking in posts, I was reading books, boom, 10 ideas would come to mind. I'd get them written down. It would be good to go. I wouldn't have to worry about any of that. And now with more responsibility on my plate, it's kind of like I'll write one tweet, then I'll let it post, and the next day I'll come back and I'm like, I don't have any posts. Okay, crap, I need to write the post now. And then I write a few, and I'm not in this like flow of, I feel like I'm having these good ideas all the time. I'm getting them posted. I don't have any stress about needing to post for that week. So write, practice, build up a database of posts, really get into the flow. Like just write posts as much as you can, as much as time will allow, and it will benefit all of your other writing so much more. Thread ideas will come easier, newsletter ideas will come easier. It just spills over into all areas of your life. So get very good at writing posts, practice it, build a database of them, and try not to lose the momentum. If you do lose the momentum and you just feel like you aren't having any ideas, you need to sit down for 2 hours and force yourself to just write 30 to 50 posts, build the momentum back up. That's honestly the best advice I can give relating to that.
Let me see. There was a question. Keeps moving.
We've got one from Gilbert under that.
Okay.
If we start in a new interest, where do you put the limit in showing the sources or the people who inspired you? Like saying this video helped me understand, or this guy helped me. If you do that, do you give the specific link or just say the name? It depends. If you are quoting them directly, then mention them. You can, in a tweet, you can just at them, like, I really love this idea from at whoever it was. But most of the time, I don't think that's necessary. If you're reading a book, the way that Naval thinks about it, and I thought about it for a long time, is I think of social media or Twitter or anything as like my public notes, my note taking. So if you write what you learned in almost their exact words, then mention them. But I would try to teach it without doing it in their exact same words. So if I'm reading through a book, then I'll close the book and I'll start to think, okay, I have this idea that was really good. How do I articulate this in the form of a tweet? And then I post it, and then it's in my own words. And there's no harm, no foul there, because one, it's an idea that I thought was important and I wanted to include in my brand. And it's probably been talked about many times before the person in this book or on social media talked about it. It's an idea that's worth sharing to your audience that you find valuable. And two, that just benefits, that's the protege effect. That's the Feynman technique in a sense, is teaching what you're learning, and that helps you learn faster. So hopefully that's a good mindset shift, is think of social media as your public notes, but they're written in a way that are hopefully more attention grabbing and helpful to the people reading them.
One question I saw that was good. What if you wind up, what do you do when you eventually wind up with a lot of core notes and other notes? Like, how do you make the best use of them and not get overwhelmed?
You slow down and start writing out those ideas in other forms. So tweets, newsletters, threads. I know we're getting to newsletters and threads in future weeks, but you can slow down and maybe stop completely for now if you have a lot of them, because that's kind of like your foundation from where you start writing. And when you say feel overwhelmed, that usually means to me, when it happens to me, is that I haven't utilized or metabolized or digested those notes enough. And I personally do that by writing about those and trying to solidify my understanding of it through writing. So stop taking the core notes for now. You can continue to listen to things, and if specific ideas that would go in those core notes would help, or notes just come to mind that are very helpful, write them down. But a lot of your effort should just be focused on writing at that point. It's like you filled up the tank, now you need to empty it. There's one here from Andrew. Dan and Joey, how are you able to effectively and efficiently manage your time from personal life to work and relationships? This is somewhat of a cop-out answer, but I really love this work. So it's kind of like, I kind of don't, that is my personal life in a sense, is I just like doing it. That's what I want to do. Aside from that, it's one, I live with my fiance now, and it kind of just falls into place, right? Because we see each other, we both work from home. We have date night scheduled during the week. We watch TV, we get dinner, we do all these things. So it's kind of like front and center for me. But for those who aren't in that situation, then it really comes down to prioritization, time blocks. You can try to systemize it if you're that type of person, where you have like a time throughout the week where you go and get lunch or go out and have a good time or whatever it may be. It's really just a matter of priorities in that sense, where you need to put your week on paper and tell yourself what you're going to do. Try to make that habit. And when the desire to prioritize work over that, when the other things come first, you have to practice not focusing on work so that you can be fully present in the priority that you're going after. Oh, okay. So you're married and trying to balance it. One thing that I found helpful is reading The Way of the Superior Man. That's like the masculinity, divine masculinity book that goes around these days. And it's really good. I enjoyed it. But in a few lessons from that are just like, be communicative. If you're going to be, if she's not used to you spending a lot of time on your work, then that's going to be a habit change, right? That's going to feel a bit off to both of you. There's going to be some tension. So just communicating like, hey, this isn't anything related to you. It's just, I find this very important right now in my life. And I want to set aside time specifically for you to give you my full attention and presence. And then practicing that and getting in the habit of that. Because once you guys get used to it, then it becomes kind of normal, right? When you change all of a sudden, that's when questions start popping up and conflicts start popping up, and you need to be aware of that and be able to communicate and handle it. I'm no relationship expert, but that may help. You see any, Joey?
I've been frantically trying to keep up with questions, so it's a little bit hard.
Once we open the floodgates, that's a good thing.
In the context of the value creator, do you see that path typically heading towards courses, cohorts, and info products? I noticed that the way they end up making money is through stuff like that, not dissimilar with the ones they started learning from.
Yes and no. It really depends. I personally think that digital products in general, whether it be courses, coaching, whatever, that's a great thing to get into as a beginner. And a lot of the time when you say, I see that they're doing something which is similar to what they, like how they learned, that's because you're in that space, right? And you're following people around there. I would call it an echo chamber, but it's just the niche that you like to follow. And that's what you see a lot of. And that's the natural progression for a lot of people. In the online space, you can think about it like this. As people grow, they eventually have more opportunities presented to them, and they tend to shift focus. So myself, I'm focusing on Cortex. Eventually, 2-Hour Writer, all of that stuff will eventually, I won't have the time to maintain it and I won't want to promote it. And once they go away, then who's going to fill that spot? And that's kind of how the creator economy works. As people grow and evolve and get new opportunities presented to them, you kind of like pass down the torch if you want to. It's like the same thing. It's no different from the actual education system. It's like saying, well, if I get a degree in marketing and I work in marketing, isn't there something weird about that? No, not really. It's because you learn from someone online how to do something online, and you tend to do that same thing once you've gotten the hang of it, in a sense. So it's one option. And the reason a lot of people do it is, one, because it works, two, because it's valuable. I see some arguments occasionally where it's like, well, like a course is the easy way out, or why don't you build something valuable like a software? And there's a lot of responses to that where, one, you may not have the money. Two, I personally think education in general and behavior change is the most valuable thing you can give another person. A software isn't going to do as much as a completely new mind that changes how you view the world and the opportunities you can reap from the world. So there's that. The second thing, there's something like 10 plus, there's a lot of books, right? Books, courses, very similar thing. They're media, right? There's a lot of them on the market, and they're accessible. And anyone can write a book. That doesn't mean it's going to be good or successful. Anyone can create a course. That doesn't mean it's going to be good or successful. So there's a lot of bad ones on the market. There's a lot of good ones on the market. And the better product you have, the more it's going to stand out. Of course, you don't have to do that. You can go the physical product route. But if you don't have money to invest in initial physical products, then that's kind of off the table. If you don't have the money to build a software and you don't understand how to code, then that's kind of off the table too. So for absolute beginners who want to get started and build some kind of cash flow, you have freelancing, consulting, coaching, depending on your interests and skills, courses, cohorts, media-based products, because we have technology now and those things are so accessible and you can spread what you know on the internet. So it's an option, and arguably a good option for beginners who are just starting. I have a longer question up here from Daniel. It says, I'm a 16-year-old software engineer who has worked at various companies and mentored junior engineers. However, most people personally know me for excelling at diverse hobbies: skydiving, West Coast swing, powerlifting. That's 60. Oh, you're not 16 years old. You're 16-year software engineer. I was like, damn, for a 16-year-old? Okay. Rather than my technical career, I've been slowly developing an endlessly inquisitive personal brand that better reflects my lifestyle. I'm struggling with the 3 pillars concept. My software expertise offers clear, actionable solutions to specific problems. Meanwhile, my passion for multiple hobbies seems merely entertaining rather than helpful to others. How do I reconcile these contrasting aspects of my identity? Very good question. I think the first question there is, do you have any interest in sharing the software engineering stuff? Do you want that to be a main pillar? Because I could see that being for lack of a better term, the money-making pillar, the main thing that you're building authority in. That's like your cornerstone, right? That's how you would sustain some kind of an income. If you want to do that, then make that your cornerstone. If you don't want to do that, then go with other things. With the software engineering, just because you're doing something that's technical doesn't mean that people don't want to hear about more of your interests if you can make them interesting to them. So when you're writing either a newsletter or post and you're talking about your personal story or experiences when you're trying to explain a certain concept, you can bring up certain lessons from skydiving, from West Coast swing, especially from powerlifting. If you've read some of my newsletters, I make some, I use bodybuilding as examples to explain concepts sometimes, and it's helpful. Like when I talk about building your mind, I make the parallel between that and bodybuilding, where it's like, okay, you need to fuel your mind with proper nutrition. But if you continue fueling your mind and you don't train it or you don't empty it, then you get mentally overweight and overwhelmed. But it's like cutting and bulking, right? So you cut information in order to lose fat, you gain. I explained it better in the newsletter, but I'm sure you get the point. So the main question here is the 3 pillars. So software expertise is one. That offers actual solutions. That's what you build mainly authority in. The complementary interests there are powerlifting, skydiving, West Coast swing. We can just say that's 4 pillars total. The powerlifting falls under the health domain. So you can give occasional health tips. And there's a few people online that are like jacked engineers or the healthy engineers. And that's what brings a bit more depth to your brand, is when you give the health advice and the software advice. Now people aren't only following someone who talks about software, they're following someone who talks about health as well. And that sets you apart. And everyone can benefit from health, potentially powerlifting, if you frame it in a way that is beneficial to them. If you want to incorporate skydiving or West Coast swing in your content, I would personally recommend, I want to hear from you after you go through week 1 and potentially week 2, maybe even week 2, week 3, potentially week 4, in the actual community, because how to write posts and those things may help a lot with learning how to incorporate those, but it is possible. All right, you got any for me, Joey?
Zoom asked about whether you do like writing on pen and paper and then putting that in the core notes, or do you do everything digitally?
I do most writing and idea capture digitally. I do a decent amount, kind of a decent amount of planning physically. I usually, when I wake up, I tend to just write down all the priority tasks I have for that day, so I have them like front and center, always staring me in the face. But in terms of ideas, yeah, it's usually all digital. I have one from Aman. Week 1 talks about structuring your ideas on core notes, and week 2 talks about structuring posts. Can week 1 guidelines for structuring ideas be also used for structuring posts? Yes. So with core notes, there's the different elements. There's problem, goal, example, benefit, the other ones. Usually each one of those can be turned into a post. You can treat each element in your core notes as a potential post idea. So when you're going through this week, you're kind of taking the ideas from your core notes, one of the elements, and trying to structure that into a post in a way that makes a lot of sense. My posts perform better if I have photos, but it adds this whole additional layer to find new photos and sometimes using the same ones. Would love feedback on this. Mine personally perform worse with photos, so it may be a matter of the content. If you want to post this in the community itself, in the discussion and chat, I forget what the space is called, the discussion channel, it's under the Clarity Call space. If you post it in there, I may be able to help a bit more since I'll have more context. But typically people, I don't know if this is you, I don't know if the likes and retweets are higher as a whole, or if just the engagement is higher in analytics, but engagement tends to be superficially higher on posts with images because people click the image and it counts as an engagement. Can you explain your process when you use DeepStash? I don't use it too much anymore, but I would go through and just search for ideas that I liked, and then I turn those into my tweets if I resonated with them. So when it comes to pulling ideas from another source, like a book or DeepStash or a Medium article or anything that you're consuming, my mind kind of runs through 2 checks as to whether or not I should post, or 3 checks as to whether or not I should post a very similar thing. Is one, is that important enough to include under my brand? Do I see that as something that others can really benefit from? The second thing, do I understand this idea? Because if I understand it, then I've heard about it before I know it. The source at that point, the book or DeepStash or Medium, is just resurfacing that idea in my mind. That's usually what books do for me for writing content, is they resurface ideas that I knew before and are important, but I just didn't think to post because they're buried somewhere deep in there and I needed something to resurface them. The third thing was something else, but I think I covered it with those 2. So that's kind of my process, is I just read through the ideas and I'm like, this is good, this is good, this is good. Oh, okay, that would fit under my brand. I understand this, it's important. Let's rewrite it in the way that I understand it and post it.
Time for something.
Okay, let's pick the most important one. I wish I could stay later, I do have a call starting. Last one. What is your advice for me on how to make myself different and more unique as a life coach in my writing and content? In my coaching, I use method acting, reinvention, alter ego, to name a few. The first thing in my eyes is don't call yourself a life coach. Instead, create an offer, a system, a program of sorts that you can name and market. Personally, I think in a lot of the social media space, the quote unquote life coach there's a lot of like people, like 18-year-olds trying to become a life coach. And so that's created this I think negative connotation of them because they've kind of cheapened the industry, where I understand how transformative it can be, but you kind of have to pivot your offer in a way that is more enticing and novel to help people overcome a specific problem. This is a completely different discussion on like offer creation and creating something to sell. In terms of your writing and content, how to be more unique in that, it's just about writing unique content. You don't need to mention that you're a life coach. You just need to write posts that are valuable, that people want to read and share based on the knowledge that you have. And after you go through this week's curriculum, I think that'll help a lot with understanding that you're not necessarily trying to show that you're a life coach. You're trying to show that you're valuable and that you know what you're talking about and that you are giving out useful information that helps other people. And they will naturally follow you. And then when it comes time to promote, promotions are distinct from actual content. Promotions are where you actually pitch people on your coaching. Very distinct from content. Okay, long questions coming in. As mentioned at the beginning of this call, we had to end at 1. If you want the questions answered, I'll leave this chat open for a bit. You can copy paste into the questions channel inside of the community if you'd like, and we can get them answered there. But yes, that is it for this week. Go through this curriculum, I think it'll help a lot with just thinking of posts in general. I liked creating these modules a lot. And I think it covers post writing in a way that not too many other places do. So I feel like it will be very helpful for you. That is it. I appreciate you guys. Joey, thank you for all the help and answering questions in the chat. Enjoy your time in San Diego.
Sure.
All right. We'll see you guys later. Thank you. It was good seeing everyone. Talk to you in the community.
The chat. There we go. We have people say hi in the chat. First. Welcome, welcome. Hello, hello. How's everyone's Tuesday? How's the week going? What's up, Jesse? Saw your post about back pain. That sucks. I didn't know that. Weekend was rough. Sorry, man. Definitely a busy one. We've been trying to get Capture Inbox and more models in for Cortex. They're coming. They're close. My week has been filled with studying how to like different company structures, because right now as a startup we're kind of just all over the place in terms of like how we work. In the gym, welcome. Nice, Jethro. Yeah, that's the one thing is when you first start, since we've done this so long, when some people first start, the question is always like, why do only bots follow me or like my post? And that's just a part of the process. That's what happens on any platform, honestly. So yeah, it's a good feeling when actual people start liking your post. That's good. All right. Every day is a Cortex day, in fact. Okay, we seem to be stabilizing as things go. Week 1 is packed. Week 2 is less packed. Week 3 is even less packed. Some people just can't make live calls, but thank you for being here. Thank you for sticking on it. How we're going to go about. I need to turn off chat while I'm talking, so I can see. Okay, we're gonna go about this call. We're just gonna go over some of the post stuff. So reviewing some of what we learned in this week's curriculum with some quick tips, maybe some things that you didn't pick up on. Mostly Cortex workflows, how I would go about doing things. And then we'll open up for questions. And if you have a specific post that you would like us to give some feedback on, we can. That's always helpful for other people to just kind of see how we think through posts that we haven't written. So getting straight in, or as always, if you ask questions along the way, Joey will tend to answer those in the chat itself. If any good questions stick out or anything that we feel like the group would benefit from, Joey will share those with me and we'll answer those along the way. So to get started, this should be relatively short. Most of you have a variation of this post template from the bootcamp templates themselves. So this one only has batches of posts for me. I'm pretty sure yours has a spot for threads or newsletters, whatever it may be, but I just have this for the sake of demonstration, right? The thing I want to go over here is when you first start writing in general, writing posts, it's if you haven't done it before or you haven't thought about doing it, or you're just not familiar with the social media space in general and you haven't started to notice the patterns between how people post. Like when I first got on Twitter, I'm reading through stuff and I'm like, oh, this is really good content. I like reading all of this. But then when I switched to the frame of I want to start writing content, I started to view the writing in a different light. I started to think, okay, why did this one do so well? Okay, why did they write the hook this way? Okay, what's up with the body? How are they writing things? And I slowly started to learn what worked from what didn't just through observation, right? From viewing the content from a different lens. So rather than being a consumer trying to absorb information, I'm more like a researcher that's trying to learn not from the content of the post, but how it's written and trying to reverse engineer why it's written that way and what makes it do well. So whenever you first start writing posts, it's going to be difficult to get into the flow, but then once you build up momentum and you start to notice ideas from all over the place and start to write them down, you really want to keep that momentum going. You want to write as many posts as you can, and you have to remember that if you don't use it, you lose it with any skill. I saw a reel today that makes me want to get back into sprinting because he made a very good point that so many people, when they're kids, they sprint, they run all the time. And most people now can't go all out in a sprint. They can't get their knees behind their butt in a certain way. And so that made me think, like, I've tried sprinting recently and it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel as fast as I used to be as a kid. I can still quote unquote sprint, but I can't do it well. I don't feel super fast like I did as a kid. And so now that I need to start practicing that again to get the momentum back to be able to sprint, and then I need to somehow maintain that as a part of my day. The same thing goes for content. Once you get into writing it and once you get good and you feel like you're in the flow of writing, you need to maintain that day after day, especially if this is a crucial cornerstone aspect of whatever work you're trying to get into. If you're trying to be a freelancer, an agency owner, digital product creator, cohort, consulting, literally anything, because content is just a traffic source to whatever business you want to create. You need to get into the flow of actually doing it. Now onto the template itself and what I like to do personally. So whenever I don't just automatically have an idea that I want to go and post to Twitter, which is most of them because I'm in the flow of it and I just want to post it, I'll come into a post template like this that you have access to, and I'll just start linking certain ideas that I want to talk about. So my meta thing here is very similar to the brand clarity document that you got the first week, where you have all of your content pillars, your topics, subtopics, different post styles and things like that. And so I have all of these in one note. And over time, I've added this as a connection to many of my notes over time, the ones that I feel like represent my best ideas. And so I have those throughout here. If I ever want to find an idea, I can just click this while in the post template, and then I can click on any of these and find an idea worth writing about. I also have within that sub-documents like the post styles with all of these. So I can come into here while I'm writing and just open up a few of these. If I want to write about productivity, I can open up one of these, find the little template, and try to plug a topic about productivity into this. So when you have a lot of ideas and templates and frameworks saved and have them easily accessible through connections in the document that you're typing in, it becomes not easy, but a lot easier to come up with a good idea, write the post, and get that momentum building for your post writing. And of course, it will be difficult at first if you haven't done this before. But other things that I like to do here is sometimes I write little notes to myself, because when you, over time, as you write more content and you don't refresh yourself on the fundamentals, or you don't continue your education or take more courses or watch more YouTube videos, whatever it may be, just continuing education in general is good. When you don't do that, your writing tends to lose certain aspects that used to make them very good. And so when that happens for me, it's easy to notice because engagement goes down across the board. You just don't feel like you're writing good content in general. So when that time comes, that's when I'll watch a YouTube video on how someone else writes good content. And that'll tend to remind me of the things that I'm missing. And I'll just write it down in a short note. And then whenever I go to write stuff, I'll just include that note in whatever I'm writing until I feel like I'm back in the flow of that thing. And if I struggle with writing hooks, then I'll rewrite a note on hooks. Same thing with hard-hitting posts. Just little notes here and there that refresh me on what it is that I'm missing the further I go into it. You don't need these right now, but that's just a strategy to get yourself back into the flow when you inevitably lose it, because you will down the road, maybe 6 to 12 months from now. There will be a time where you're like, I just don't feel like my writing is that good anymore. And then you need to come back and intentionally refresh and refine your writing. Another thing here is in 2 weeks, we're getting into the newsletter section. So whenever you go to write posts, you can always link the newsletter that you wrote that week. And then you can come through here and look for specific ideas to write as a post right here. If you don't know how to structure them, then you can open up this and the post styles. You can look through one of these. I can find an idea in here, pop it in here, pop it in here, right? The next thing is I have a place for notes. So if there are any specific notes that you want to include, if you've taken core notes or just notes on books in general, you can look through all of your notes, see which one that you feel like writing content about, link it here just so it's easy to open, and then you can write posts about them. So the point of all of this is that you're overwhelming yourself with ideas so that it's kind of difficult not to write. And if you can't write anything, then that's usually just you not being able to spot an idea and put in the effort to turn it into some kind of an engaging tweet. And then the last thing here is that if you do have specific highlights in a book, then you can open those here as well. And this is one strategy I like to use when trying to get some content out on a specific topic. If I'm reading a book, I'll highlight specific parts of it, and then I'll just come through here every now and then, read a few of these. So it's kind of like spaced repetition in a sense, or like reviewing the notes you've taken on something. And I'll read through these, see which one I want to turn into a piece of content, and then take that idea, write it in my own way here, use it as inspiration, and that helps me solidify the topic even more. So it's kind of like a both learning and business in one, learning and writing in one. Now, the last thing I want to go over is with the Kai prompts. So here, I'm going to open up a new chat. This week's thread writing prompt that's inside of here, the video at the end of this week's modules that goes over the thread writing prompt. I was testing it out last night again. It's surprisingly good. I tried to make the prompt better. I tried to make it super well structured, but the one inside of here works surprisingly well for a baseline thread. And I would argue it's better than what a lot of people write as threads. So to go over the Cortex AI prompt again, what you do here is you just send the prompt as it is. You give it a topic, source, or document to reference for ideas. And what I personally like to do here is just give it a topic, because when you start feeding it your newsletter or a specific source or a YouTube video to pull ideas from, that's good, but you tend to want to post those outright, and you try to avoid the writing process as a whole. You avoid the struggle and effort of writing that makes you good at that thing. So when your engagement inevitably tanks or you don't end up growing, you can only blame yourself in that case, because if you're only posting AI content and not growing, then you have two problems. You both have to learn how to write, and you have to put in the time and effort to develop that skill again, because you tried to outsource it to AI. And you also need to learn social media in general, because a lot of people think of AI as this get-rich-quick thing, manifested in a different way, like literally anyway. Write quick, learn quick, do whatever quick, but they don't understand that you still have to actually do the thing in order to get results from the thing, or sustain results from the thing, especially. So what I recommend doing here is you can copy-paste this entire thing if you'd like. I personally put it in a separate document. So let me see if I can find that separate document, or I'll just paste it in one. We'll go right here. We're going to rename this write tweets, and then we'll go to Kai, toggle Kai on, and just say use @write tweets to write 15 tweets on productivity. And then it does okay as Gemini. So we can read through a few of these, but if you aren't overwhelmed by the amount you have to do, you aren't pushing yourself hard enough. Most people think they need more time. You don't need more time, you need more focus. So in general, very basic, but there's a point behind that. One, we're not feeding it our own newsletter, we're not feeding it a YouTube video, we're literally just saying write 15 tweets on productivity. It can only do so much with that. But the reason I like doing this is because these are all potential ideas that you can take and make better, right? You can assume that the AI is pulling these ideas from somewhere. That means they're relatively popular. That means that they have the potential to do well. But since these are just baseline platitudes, they're not going to do too well if you just post them as is. So that's where the creative effort comes into play, where I can take one of these and turn it into a better, more fleshed out, more unique, with a novel perspective style tweet that will do better, but it's based on a validated idea. Now, another thing we can do here is I'm going to take this entire thing. I may have to change what screen I'm recording on. Yeah, I will. So one sec. Pull up Claude. Stop. Switch from desktop to. You can see down here that I had to look up the definition of egalitarian today. But inside of Claude.ai, Claude is just my favorite model for AI. It'll be in Cortex soon. But I want to show you the difference between what's written with Gemini in Cortex AI right now and how Claude writes those things specifically. So we're going to take this. I don't think I need to send anything else, but we're going to paste the entire prompt into Claude. Hit send. It should ask for a reference material. Nope, it just hosts them. Okay. We're going to start a new chat. So I'm going to say, I'm going to paste this in here, and I'm going to say reference. Then I'm going to go copy paste a newsletter. What? Okay, so you copied a newsletter from my Cortex, and we'll see if that does it. It's still not pulling the reference. It's not the worst. We're going to try it one more other way. I don't know why it's not pulling in the actual reference, but I'm going to copy the prompt, start a new chat, paste that in here, then going to say, here is a piece of my writing to pull content ideas from. And we'll copy the newsletter again, paste that in here, and we'll see if that actually gets it. Yeah, so now it's pulling actual ideas from the newsletter itself. I can see that here, and it's segregating things specifically, where in the prompt I ask it to do 5 one-sentence posts, 5 multi-line paragraph posts, and then 5 list posts. And the bullet points aren't being included here because sometimes AI is annoying like that, but they're a lot better structured. And with Claude, I do recommend sharing your newsletter or something else with it, because then that's a good way to pull ideas from the newsletter in a structured way, so that you're not trying to condense a bunch of the ideas that you've written inside of the newsletter into little posts, right? This just does it for you, and you can continue to ask for ideas over and over again until it works just fine. Or you can feed it a YouTube video or something like that to just generate ideas in the structure of a post with Claude, because it writes them a lot better. So I'll leave that to your own experimentation. When you paste the prompt into Claude, just make sure that you paste your reference newsletter or article or whatever it is a bit towards where you say that you're going to give it a piece of writing to pull content ideas from. So I'll leave it at that. And if we want to get into some questions or going over someone's piece of writing, we can do that, or tweets. Enjoy. Was there anything?
Yeah, I had a couple questions that I left off. So Mickey had one. This week is about posts, but how much you're thinking is truly about posts? In other words, are X, threads, etc. posts the or an end game, or are they the proving ground for long form writing, newsletters, articles, video scripts, etc.?
They're both. I think most of my thinking revolves around tweets, like thinking in little bite-sized ideas that I'm trying to package up, and they're meant to do well on X. Like that is the end game, but then it's also seen as a proving ground for product ideas, newsletter ideas, YouTube video ideas, because those are already written. So by just focusing on writing good short form content, the other things kind of set themselves up for success just as a byproduct of that.
Cool. Then the other one was from Tyler. When do you decide to write core notes versus writing actual content?
It's a very good question. I would say core notes when you just want to understand and store an idea, and you may not see it as something that can be turned into content right now. And if you do want to turn it into content, you can always technically write the core note as an outline, right? So it kind of one in the same. And then the draft is just filling out, or it's just fleshing out the outline into a full-fledged draft. So it can go either way. Just the outline itself, it may have a few extra components that the core notes don't, but either way, I would just write it. I would write the core note whenever you want to save an idea in a structured manner to your workspace. And then if you want to turn it into a newsletter or use it as the base of an outline, then I would do that. But as long as they're in your workspace, it doesn't really matter if you write a core note or content, because core notes and content both follow a very similar structure of having a problem, goal, examples, metaphors, processes, concepts, all of that stuff.
Nice. And then one other one that was for you specifically. Do you use multiple AI chatbots, Claude, ChatGPT, Perplexity for different things to run your daily business through your social media? Do you have a specific workflow for automating or optimizing your time?
No specific workflow. I use Perplexity for Google search just because it's easier to open on my phone, and I like its UI more. I like the responses I get more. So anything that I would search on Google, I tend to search on Perplexity now, and that's quite a bit. I mean, that's Google search. I think we take for granted how much that's revolutionized our own lives. So switching to Perplexity has just added a bit more to that. In terms of my actual work, I tried writing some of my book with AI, like having it write specific chapters for me and me rewriting them and adding in things here and there. And I felt like it just narrowed my thinking too much. I don't like using AI in a way with the mindset of I'm going to use the majority of this as my final output. It just doesn't feel right to me. And I immediately noticed that it was harder to write the next session around. Like the first time that I actually used AI to help me write something, the second after that, I just felt like I was already rusty with my own writing. And I didn't like that feeling, so I stopped doing it that way. However, for research or finding specific information that I'm looking for quickly, like if I need to search an entire book for a specific section on it and ask questions for it to give me answers that I can use in my writing, I use it for that. I also use it while reading. So when I'm reading something and I don't understand a concept, I'll tend to copy paste an entire chapter into a chat. And then as I'm reading that chapter, I can just ask that chat questions as I go along. And it makes it a lot easier for me to understand specific concepts. What else do I use it for? The tweet idea for writing tweets specifically, I've used that a good amount just for the sake of pulling ideas out of my newsletter or out of a video or something of that nature, because it's doing the same thing that I would have already done, but usually in a better way. Because when I read over my newsletter and I try to find specific tweet ideas from it, it's difficult for me to condense, let's say, a paragraph into a tweet because I feel like it's missing all of the context. And then I tend to add too much to the idea. It's difficult for me to find the ideas, and the ideas just don't do as well. So it's easier for me to say, hey, take this newsletter, use my tweet prompt, structure 15 ideas from the newsletter in the form of tweets, and then I can look at those. And it's a lot easier for me to understand or to see ideas isolated from my newsletter so that I can take those, use those, post those. But I have a pretty high threshold for what I determine a good tweet or what I want to post under my brand. So all of the tweets that the AI spits out aren't ones that I'm going to use. They're just starting points and ideas that I can use to write relatively quickly. So that's mostly it for now. Once I start going into marketing again for specific landing pages and email sequences, I'm going to try using it for some of that because I don't really care to write that. And we'll see how that goes.
Nice. Let me see. Andrew asked, can I say that one? That was the wrong one. Greg asked, my 3 content pillars are filmmaking, tech, and lifestyle. I mainly want to talk about my journey using short films, writing scripts, and also talking about the tech I use daily, digital minimalism, and lifestyle content, which would be life advice, philosophy, etc. Are my content pillars too specific, or can I be broader?
I think they're fine. Those are pretty big markets all around, so I'd say they're broad enough to attract the audience you want. And I'm sure there's people you follow that have seen success in those areas. So I think you're good to go. It's just a matter of getting the right content. A lot of people I feel like fall into the trap when they go after. They aren't good at storytelling. So when they start talking about their journey in filmmaking, they don't really tell a story. They kind of just like post pictures or clips of what they're doing when there isn't really an obvious benefit to the reader. It's more so like, hey, look what I made, rather than here's why it's important to you. So that's one thing to pay attention to is when you're going to post this content. If you're flying in the face of content principles and storytelling, then it's probably not going to do as well as you would hope. But that's the same for any domain, not just filmmaking or any of the creative pursuits. You just have to make your interest interesting to other people.
Nice. Okay, if you want to take a look at the chat, you can. I'm working on critiques and stuff.
Okay. If there's any you want to share, we can also share them up here. All right, question from Andrew. I noticed for these digital meta skills and creating an online business, the software/app subscriptions cost stack up quickly. What type of small business license do you need in Western USA in order to be a one-person online business? Can the software tool expenses be written off on taxes? As far as I know, you don't need a business license. I don't have any business license. You don't need anything. You can file as self-employed on your taxes. You don't need an LLC. You don't need any of that stuff. You can file however you want. Of course, the LLC has obvious benefits if you do want to go that route. But yeah, you don't need to worry about any of that. The software and app subscriptions costs don't need to stack up. You don't necessarily need any of them, really. They're just for the sake of convenience. If you don't want to use something like Stan, which is like $30 a month to sell a digital product, then you need to sign up for Stripe, which is free. You need to build your own landing page. You need to build an automation that will deliver the digital product via email. So it's just, you're paying for convenience rather than building things yourself. There is definitely a way to lower the cost of it, but then I would also argue that this is a business. There's going to be obvious expenses. A few app subscriptions is still a lot less than rent for a brick and mortar building that you'd be renting out to operate in a physical business. So they stack up quickly, but it's still nothing compared to any other type of business. The software can be written off on taxes, or at least I write them off. Question on repost / cleaning up the timeline. I noticed that Dan, you repost, but the next day your timeline is clear of duplicates. How can one delete a repost without deleting the original post? You would just click the repost button. It'll show up as green, and then you click undo repost. I don't know if this option is in Typefully. Is it in Typefully, Joey? Being able to undo repost? Yeah, so if you use a content scheduler like TweetHunter or Typefully, that's an option. It will automatically unrepost your posts to whatever time you set it towards. So every 12 hours, it'll remove the repost. Do you rely more on spontaneity or planning when creating content? I have hundreds of AI-generated ideas ready to go, but if I'm not feeling it, the content comes out flat. How do you balance structure with creative energy? For me, it's kind of a flow. Of course, my spontaneous ones do the best, but that's not something that I can rely on all the time. Sometimes I have ideas just happening nonstop, and for like 2-3 months, and it feels really good, but then that inevitably stops, and I need to sit down and plan and structure them and just get posts out because I don't know when that spontaneity or creativity is going to come back to me, especially if I'm in a very busy season, right? If it gets very busy and I'm stressed, it's much more difficult to come up with ideas, and your mind kind of starts working against you. Then I have to sit down and intentionally try to get those ideas out, and I have to accept that they're probably not going to be as good as my old ones, and I'm probably not going to feel as good about them. So I bias the spontaneous ones, and I try to keep that up by going on walks, listening to audiobooks, listening to YouTube videos, letting ideas trigger ideas, writing those down as I can. And then if I don't have the time to do that, or ideas aren't flowing, then I usually have to sit down, open up a bunch of stuff, and just force content out and refine it. It seems like long form and short form content both feed each other cyclically. Posts that do well feed ideas to break down in longer form. Longer form can be broken down into posts. Yep. Yes, exactly. And the more you get into writing both, the more they just start to like connect to each other. I'll have times where I write a post and then I'm like, I need to turn this into my newsletter. I start writing it. I start writing more posts because ideas are generating as I'm writing the newsletter. And then I bake those posts into the newsletter itself with like screenshots, and it makes both the posts and newsletters go a lot longer way. What are your thoughts on writing out a long exposition, almost like a newsletter, and then putting that into AI to create posts with using your prompts? It's like the reverse process you guys are describing: short form, medium form, long form. I like the flow of writing on paper and then going digital. Here's my account so far. Most of my posts are based from an essay I wrote. Yeah, I think that's perfectly fine. That's kind of what we did just now with Claude, is we used the prompt, we fed it my newsletter, it spat out ideas. So yeah, it works well. What is the best way to get big creators to follow you back? Interact with them, be cool, avoid being...
Don't treat them like
yeah, don't comment in a way that makes it seem like you're just trying to farm their followers off of them. Where it's kind of frustrating. I understand the game, but it really is kind of frustrating because it's like you put a lot of effort into writing a post. I mean, maybe not that much effort, but you have an idea and you're like, this idea is good. I want to share it. So you put it out. And then for me, it's like 10 seconds after posting, I have 20 AI generated comments under my post that just repeat the same thing. It makes me so frustrated to like go in and be like, I just posted this. And now 20 of these comments have just like trashed the entire post in terms of like, you guys didn't read it. Why are you commenting? So if you want the big creators to follow you back, one, you have to show that you're a human, that you appreciate their work. You should actually, if you want them to follow you back, you probably should appreciate their work. There isn't any reason for you to just stack big creators as followers if you don't like them. So choose a few, add them to a list, follow up with them, DM them, make yourself known to them, join their communities, talk to them, buy their products, support them, and they'll notice it. You don't have to go and buy every single thing, but you get what I'm saying. It's like you treat them as a friend that hasn't really accepted being your friend yet. That's mainly it. It's just be human. Don't, in the comments, don't write, wow, great post, I agree. You have to like tell a story. You have to, like, if someone just spilled out one of their favorite ideas to you in a real life conversation, would you respond, great insight, man? I like, you see how people respond in the comments, and it's just infuriating sometimes. So just avoid how 99% of people respond to comments, and you'll be fine. All right, Kenzie, what do you think of this prompt I made for AI that helps explore post ideas? I want something more like raw thought starters, fragments of ideas, loose observations, or half-formed concepts that I can shape into my own post, less polished, more like the messy middle of thinking. I find that it keeps it from getting in the way of and interrupting my own flow of thoughts while being helpful. Geez, I can't read. I think it's fine. If it works, it works. Good. How much do you have to know yourself to know what to pursue? What do you think would winning strategy for 2025? I'm not sure what you mean by that question. How much do you have to know yourself to know what to pursue? I would say quite a bit, like if you want to get it right, but both yourself and what you want to pursue are always changing, or at least they should be evolving in a sense. So I don't know, there isn't really one thing you can pinpoint as what you want to pursue. They're all kind of just guesses, and some are in the right direction, some are in the wrong, but you only learn that once you do it and get better at intuiting what you want to pursue with time. So in terms of winning strategy for 2025, it's just the same thing. It's pursuing something that you think leads to a good life and then course correcting along the way. I don't think there's one thing in specific, I would say. What do you think about content pillars being focused on problems that my avatar has? I don't see it as a problem, but those may be difficult to break down into enough content topics to keep you going for a while. So, I mean, it's worth doing, and those are good things to write content about. But if you start to run out of ideas for what to write about, then maybe revisit the content pillars and redo it without the problems, and then like work backwards from there. So it could definitely work. I started with content pillars of self-improvement, psychology, and storytelling. When Google Doc was circulated, I chose my area of focus as creativity and writing. And right now I've been writing content about thinking, writing, creativity. It feels a bit all over the place for me. More than anything, I'm a bit skeptical on what kind of authority I can position myself as. I continue writing on these topics and eventually build a business around this. This kind of confusion expected. How should I proceed? Well, in terms of like building authority in something, it's not necessarily about the topics that you talk about. It's about what you help people do. And almost any topic can result in that thing. So what are you actually good at? What are you trying to achieve in your life? What can you actually help people with? How can you help people in some way that leads to a transformation? And so once you have that down, then you think, okay, does creativity help with this? Probably. Does thinking help with this? Probably. Does self-improvement help with this? Probably. Does psychology help with this? Probably. Does storytelling? Yeah, probably. So all of those things, they're just topics that lead to the same goal that you're helping people with. The thing about building authority is that while it can come from writing about one specific topic, it mainly comes from how you help people achieve one specific thing. So that comes in the form of a free guide of one long thread on what you're attempting to help people with. It comes from a product that you build and other things of that nature. And as long as you talk about these things consistently over time to help someone achieve a specific transformation in their life, then it should be fairly fine. So right now, I would just start brainstorming what's the first product that you want to create. And then from there, you can start to focus any topic that you want to write about around what the product is helping people do. Do you build authority just by writing about your pillars, or do you have more insight on how to build that? Similar to what I just told them on is really start thinking about the product or service that you want to sell first. What are you trying to build authority for? Because the thing about trying to build authority in one specific topic right now is if you don't have an idea for a product or service that you're going to create, then you may be building authority towards nothing, right? There's nothing that it's really leading towards. You're just building authority in a topic because you think that's what you're going to go into, but rarely is a product or service based around a specific topic. It's based around a problem and a goal. It's a transformation. It's not bound to any topic, right? So I'd start brainstorming, start thinking, what is a product or service that I could create that I could help people with the most? And then once you have that locked down, you can start framing content towards that thing, which becomes easier to do when you have the product or service idea nailed down. But if you're not aiming for a product or service right now, and you're just trying to build authority in a topic because you've heard that's a good thing to do, then you would just write about that topic from all different angles: actionable steps, personal stories, pain points that people face, common traps, anything that you can find online that people talk about relating to that topic. And that makes you a person to be known in that topic. But I mean, you can see the same amount of growth if you're writing good content about different interests as well. When you didn't have the momentum behind your business and you were just getting started, what were the 2 or 3 things other than just writing that resulted in the biggest growth drivers? Meeting other people. That is the main thing. That's the giant thing that people always avoid or get discouraged about. They DM one, people doesn't respond or something like that, and then they stop. Writing content and sending DMs, non-transactional DMs to make friends, to build your tribe. Those are like milk and honey, or whatever 2 things go together well. It just has to be done. Like if you don't have people who can refer you to others, who can help you strategize or other things, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Yeah, you can grow. You can catch on to the algorithm one day and go viral, and you can grow. But if you don't have that support network or people that are there to refer you work, or all of that stuff that comes along with building a network, even though it sounds cringy, that's the major thing. The second thing is just self-promotion in general, where I feel like people wait to build a product or service because they feel like selling will make people perceive them worse, when the reality is it makes them perceive you as an authority and someone who has value to give. Usually the people who are selling products are the ones that are growing faster because they're more focused. They're actually helping people. They're actually transforming people's lives of the people who purchase the products. So there's a lot of self-limiting beliefs that come into play when you go to create a new product, and people tend to talk themselves out of it in any possible way they can. But that's one major driver, is you actually need a way to monetize, and that the benefits that brings you your brand is a lot more than just being able to monetize. It's people perceiving you as an authority. It's people having somewhere deeper to go to learn more from you. It's people building a deeper connection with you. And it's you having more clarity. Once you have something to monetize, it kind of gives a frame for your writing. And you know that in order for me to sustain what I'm doing right now, I have to promote myself at least once a day in some way. It could be in my newsletter. It could be promoting a free guide that has a link to my product or service. It could be getting people onto my email list, and my email list having some kind of email sequence that exposes them to my product or service, whatever that thing may be. And the more traffic you have flowing from your social media to the product itself, the more likely you are to be able to do this full time. Once you have a product, a lot of things start to click because you start to understand what the levers are. It's 1, okay, I have to grow to keep traffic flowing. And 2, I need to monetize in order to get this going. Okay, we got a lot flowing in. Where are we? Okay, there we are. Do you think it's too much work to try and grow across all platforms at once? Yes. Feels doable, but obviously lots of work. But with the framework of post equals short form equals threads, makes sense to grow on X, Y, T, I, G, TikTok simultaneously. I mean, I suppose you can do it. As a beginner, I would argue that 50% plus of your time isn't writing content. It's DMing people. It's growing. It's getting your content shared. And trying to do that across different platforms and being in 5 different group chats, trying to share specific content with different people, it's just not, it doesn't work that well. You can cross post content to all different platforms, sure, but that's 10% of what it takes to actually grow on the platform. So usually you'll probably just end up feeling like you're doing too much. Your ideas will start to suffer, your clarity will start to suffer. Since you're focusing on all those platforms, you won't focus on one for growth. And by not focusing on one, like they all kind of just dwindle out. So I focus on one first, and then you can grow a lot faster when you do one at a time and you have high performing ideas that you can cross post to each. I'm an executive coach working with leaders and organizations. In my posts and newsletter, I sometimes refer to leaders rather than speaking directly to the reader, who may or may not be leaders. I've noticed that you address your readers directly, which resonates with me. Given my audience, do you think speaking directly to the reader would be more effective, or is there value in using leaders in some cases? I write about leadership, teams, and various topics under the umbrella of positive psychology. Very good question. I would say most of the time, addressing them directly is the way to go, because if they are a leader, they're still going to self-identify with your content if it's written directly to them, right? You're not going to alienate readers by not including the word readers in your content. And a lot of the time, including that content only alienates other people who may not be leaders, but can send your post to leaders that they know. So by addressing them directly, you open up the potential for your post to be seen by a lot more people, leaders or not, which is a good thing, even if they're not. In some cases, like promotions, or when you have a specific topic directly about leadership, or it just makes sense, and you're only trying to talk to leaders, which would be few and far between in your content, then I would say, yes, use it. But that's one thing I'm kind of wary of, where sometimes the person I'm talking to is like creators or writers or aspiring creative people. And I think through, like, when I say that, the lesson I'm trying to write kind of applies to everyone in many cases. And all of those people can kind of identify with what I'm saying just because it resonates with them. So if I include the word like creator or something else, it kind of just suppresses how far that post can go. What do we write about when we aren't really even sure what business, what offer we want to create, or where we want to take our content? Should we rely purely on personal interest and curiosity and do our best to curate content to appeal to readers by storytelling, solving pain points, etc.? That one's relatively difficult. But yes, I would say you should rely purely on personal interest. You have an idea of what business you want to start. You're doing it right now. You want to start a writing business of sorts. Not that you want to be a writer, but you want to build an audience to an extent so that you can fuel the business. That's the business model. You just need the product. So you're not sure what offer you want to create. But if you look at your personal interest and curiosity, there's quite a few things that you can monetize related to that. I've seen people sell a library of their notes, right? Just all the notes they've taken on specific books. So they pay for $17 access to 50 book summaries, and people buy that. Or a paid newsletter, right? That way you can actually write about your personal interest and start there. What else is there? The more people you follow along with that talk about similar interests or do the same thing as you, the more you get exposed to certain products or services that people are already doing that you can pull inspiration from. So I wouldn't worry too much about not knowing what offer you want to create just yet, because there is something that you can create around your personal interest and curiosity. I notice I can't even DM a larger account because I'm not verified. I suspended my account when I DM'd a Medium account that was verified. Is there a workaround? I personally don't know. I can't really help there. Dan, I'm a graphic designer inspired by nature, and I'm rebuilding my online presence from the ground up. My goal is to spend about 70% of my time doing graphic design for sustainable brands, and 30% of whatever place creativity flows to, illustrating books, making small fashion collections. The content I want to post, DIY, upcycling, slow fashion, and painting, is meant to help people awaken their creativity, and I also have to have type of content that builds my authority and attract sustainable business owners as clients for my design work. My worry is that these two directions might be colliding. Do I need to pick just one, or is there a way to make them support each other without confusing my audience? I would, of course, like to keep both, but analysis by paralysis is real. Okay, so you're trying to keep graphic design for sustainable brands and other creative pursuits. DIY, upcycling, slow fashion, painting for design work. I don't think they're necessarily colliding. I'm trying to think of an example. Let me see if I can pull this up. Design joy. All right, so Brett is one example, and he kind of just posts about design, his opinions, why Dribble died, 10 types of tweets that make you go viral as a designer, hot takes, creating common enemy, lists of favorite fonts, plugins, etc. Button designs. You kind of just post content, and then people learn that you're a designer, right? Like, you can talk about designers, but usually when you do a thing like design or fashion or whatever it is, you have these thoughts and ideas flowing that you kind of just have to capture and then articulate in public so others can follow along with your ideas and what you're doing. And as you promote your work, eventually, just by posting it, people will want to hire you. Like, if you just scroll through Brett's feed and see what he does, he has his design work, he has specific opinions and other things like that, and he's grown to $1 million one-man design studio. He has a design subscription for $5,000 a month where clients can just reach out to him and get any kind of design work. So he's in Phoenix. We should meet up with him before I leave. But something like that, where I don't see that he's really dabbling over into a separate domain, like maybe fashion design. But the only thing that I can say there really is just experiment with it, because I'm not too sure. Where I definitely don't see it scaring clients away from you. But the main thing you need is some type of content that leads to growth. So if your audience isn't growing, then something needs to change. And then one type of content, or all of the content, aids in this. But you learn over time that one type of content tends to bring in more clients or sales. And then you want to consistently post that type of thing. So once you have those two things in place, the rest is kind of just experimentation in what you want to do. A question on setup workflow between Cortex Beehive website. How do you quickly get your newsletter from Cortex into Beehive? I did copy pasting. It took me actually 2 hours and doesn't look great yet. Why do you not embed your videos into the newsletter? They're on your website. My videos aren't posted until a week after the newsletter. Why do you publish your newsletter directly on the website? This is extra work to write in both Beehive. I've had my website for 5 years. I've had Beehive for 6 months. So there's that. Should I send out my newsletter from my own domain or use the mail at beehive.com? I thought you'd have to do main authority. I would say send it from your own domain. I'm not an expert in any of this. Honestly, I don't really care about any of it because it works either way. To answer the first question, how do you quickly get your newsletter from Cortex into Beehive? I just copy paste it. It takes about 5 minutes. I'm not sure why it would take 2 hours. Chat without Kai is just idea capture. Yes. Okay. And didn't you have a YouTube video about constantly reaching out to people on X for like 30 to 60 days? Probably. It may be the non-needy networking one. But yeah, it's good. Like if you just need to practice, like the next 10 people that you see on social media where you actually like their content, just copy the link to the post that you like, paste it into their DMs and say, this was a great tweet. And then if you want to add on an idea that it sparked for you, toss that in there too. Just get used to DMing people, even if it's something stupid like a compliment. Okay, we're making it down the list. As someone whose content is very visual and who relies on Instagram to showcase my video editing and filmmaking skills, does it make sense to start a new X account? I'm trying to find a way to post consistently, but sometimes I can't go out and film. Do you know any creators in the space who are good at X? Filmmaking, I haven't seen just because I'm not on that side of Twitter, right? That's not what the algorithm's feeding me right now. I do see a lot of website designers, graphic designers, programmers in general who post a lot of videos and images of things that they're creating. And I guarantee there's one for film. Just pretty things in general, people seem to like. You have previously encouraged us to experiment with short form content on X. Today, you're encouraging us focusing on a single platform. I have no affinity with X, no followers, no posts. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. In your experience, can a person grow as a writer on Facebook or Instagram? Would you suggest mixing it with video content? Yeah, definitely not limited to X in no way, shape, or form. I do personally like X because it makes you limit your thoughts to 280 characters. A lot of people, when they start writing on LinkedIn or Instagram, they just like go on and on and on, and they can't solidify a thought. They don't have a character limit or restriction, so their LinkedIn posts get really long, and 3 of the paragraphs can just be ripped out of there. They don't need to be there. It leads to just not that good of writing, especially on a short form platform where people are there to get something quick, right? That's why they're there. If you want them to go for something long, then you have to lead them into it, to your newsletter, so on and so forth. But yes, yeah, you can absolutely get better at writing Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. They're all the same thing in essence. How long should a newsletter be at the beginner level? Is the frequency once a week? What's the most convenient length to avoid losing their attention? Those are difficult to answer because it's really personal preference and what you see yourself doing long term. There isn't a most convenient length because people listen to 3-hour long podcasts and you don't lose their attention. People read books and you don't lose their attention. It's dependent on your writing and whether or not it's attention grabbing, right? So it could be, as a beginner, if I were to give a recommendation, maybe try 1,000 words. But even then, like Justin Welsh, he writes 500 words to 1,000 words and he does just fine. I write 3,000 to 5,000 just because that's what I like doing. A lot of people say, oh, no one's going to read that, but here we are. If my digital product is my content, example, a paid newsletter, how do I structure my offer in a way that provides a clear transformation for my audience, especially when I have multiple interests? Should I niche down first or find a way to integrate them into a cohesive offer? That one is difficult, and I've mentioned this before in a few videos. That's just why I don't really care for paid newsletters, is because 1, you're limiting the amount of people that can see your work. 2, it's very difficult to structure a compelling offer. That doesn't mean that 0 people are going to join, right? It's not black or white. If your writing's really good, you're giving out a lot of value, a decent amount of people will probably subscribe, and that's great. But if you want more to subscribe and you want the product to be more focused and impactful, then I would just create a specific product. One thing to take into account here is that if you have multiple interests, let's say business, self-improvement, fitness, the most typical ones, you can create a fitness product, but that doesn't mean that you can't keep talking about self-improvement business, right? If I were to rotate those 3 newsletters, business, self-improvement, fitness, that's perfectly fine. I would promote the fitness product in all of them because with business, I need to be fit. Fitness helps with business. Self-improvement, fitness is a huge part of that. I can find a way to weave it in somewhere in the newsletter. Fitness, obviously, I'm going to promote there. But over time, the good thing about being a creator with digital products in general is that you can just create other ones. You can create a digital product for every single interest you have. So no matter what you write about, you have something to promote and it works perfectly. So that's one thing to take into account is it a problem with you having multiple interests to write about, or is it a problem that you don't have a digital product that you can promote along with the interests you want to write about? So think about that. I've always struggled with what to write in my bio. Can you review my profile a little? Yes, but I will warn you that your bio doesn't really matter, in all honesty. I feel like people spend way too much time on a bio when their content is the most important thing. All right. First thing, the picture seems a tiny bit grainy. If you can, it's not a deal breaker by any means. I'm just giving unfiltered advice in a sense. Try to get the background to be something different, maybe lighting a bit better on your face, more professional headshot. If you want, you can use something like Photo AI to create like a more professional headshot that you have control over that still looks like you, but it's a very clear resolution, looks good. 9 to 5er, learning how to build an online business, articles and posts about the process. Not bad, but you're automatically positioning yourself as a non-authority. You're saying, I'm this, learning how to do this, follow along for the process. Instead, I would focus on like what you're building towards and what you can help people with. What are you helping people with, right? It doesn't directly state, when people read this, the question, what's in it for me, has to be answered. So if I'm visiting here and I'm not saying what I'm going to learn and why it matters, then I'm not, if I'm basing my follow off of the bio, then I'm less likely to do that. So there's like, what are you teaching? What interests are you talking about? In week 1 of the curriculum, I usually just give the bio format of I write about this topic, this topic, this topic, so you can benefit. Another thing here, I would try to clean up this link. I'm not sure if this is how Kit structures it, but you can remove all of that and it just looks cleaner. Yes. Do you have a proven daily routine for getting your writing done? Yes. Right when you wake up. That's it. Writing is the very first thing. If I don't write first thing in the morning after waking up, showering, wake up, shower, sit down, have my coffee, start writing. That's the first thing my mind is on. That's the first thing I do. That's my routine. Because if I start answering messages or I start posting on social media or scrolling social media to look for ideas or other things like that, typically 2 hours later, I've done some work, but I haven't written, and then my writing gets pushed off. So the first thing I have to do, especially when writing a book, is just first thing in the morning, sit down, write without distractions. Benjamin, I'm a slow typer. I record core notes using AI, turn them into content. What do you think about that? I think that's perfectly fine. I'm not much of a voice note guy myself. I just like typing, but I do see the appeal. Yes. All right. I'm trying to sell art and design patterns, lettering, etc. using print on demand. I definitely want to talk about self-improvement, art design, history, and creative journey. How do these all translate when selling these kinds of products? I'm also thinking of courses on art, Procreate, Illustrator, etc. in the future. Need help in the starting point. I've been writing mostly randomly last 30 days and getting into the rhythm. How to sell products. Sell art, design patterns, lettering. I want to talk about self-improvement, art design, and creative journey. I mean, I think you have it there. You just need the product, and then you need to sell it. So you need to promote the actual product to the audience or to traffic, right? So if your posts if you aren't building an audience or your posts aren't getting traction, then you don't really have anyone to promote the actual product to. But once you're getting traction, once you're getting traffic, once your audience is growing to an extent, then you have people to promote the product to, especially if you're building a newsletter as well. And from there, you can look up copywriting frameworks, either short form or long form. The most classic one is AIDA, AIDA, which stands for attention, interest, desire, action. So whenever it comes time to sell your product or ask people to buy, you say something attention grabbing, you spark interest, you spark desire, call to action, here's the product, buy. As a whole, it's a whole other skill on how to sell products. Like I know you asked that question just in the context of the entire post that you're asking the question in, but how to sell products, that's books upon books worth of information. So it's another skill that you have to study, acquire. It's marketing, it's building the product, it's market research, it's all of that stuff. So it's something that has to be learned over the course of 3 to 6 to 12 months. Justin Welsh said your first 90 days of content should be pure value in helping them so you can convert some more followers. What do you think? I think that's fine. I started with a product and I grew just fine. A lot of the confident advice you see out there from either myself or Justin or anyone, it's a way to give clarity, right? A lot of beginners struggle with clarity. So going that route of 90 days of content should just be pure value in helping them. That gives you clarity on what to do and you know what to focus on. That doesn't mean that selling a product first out just doesn't work and guarantees that you never gain followers. They're both options to go and both can be done well. Nice, Jesse. Yeah, the long form is just fun to write. I really like 3,000 words or up for a newsletter. All right, as I'm skimming through, I don't see, okay, it's 1:16. So I'm gonna cut questions once I hit 1:17 p.m. on the timestamp. Get coffee, shower before writing. I do procrastinate by showering every morning. I used to do morning walks a lot. Once it gets cold, I shift my walk to after my first writing session, and that works. When it gets warmer, which it's starting to, I really enjoy like just getting out straight, going on a walk first thing in the morning is nice. As someone who has always half-assed projects in the long term, I struggle with consistency. Haven't worked on a social media channel consistently for more than a year. I can create great things, but I sometimes go months without making anything. Then I start losing my main interest and jump to something else. Is this due to lack of clarity or insufficient agency? How can I become highly independent and break free from the conformist brainwashing instilled by schools? I don't know if this is brainwashing or lack of clarity or insufficient agency. It may be just that you're getting bored. One book I would recommend is Mastery by George Leonard, not Robert Greene. I'm sure that's a good book, but Mastery by George Leonard. Small book. It talks about the differences between the dabbler, the obsessive, the hacker, and the master. It sounds like you're a dabbler, where it's like you go through these honeymoon phases with something, you hit that first peak of learning or progress or whatever it is, and then you want that again. And the only way to get that again is to change what you're doing. Where the reframe is that most progress or most of life in general is just flat. It's nothing crazy. It's no highs. It's no lows. It's just boring. And so you kind of learn to enjoy that, right? You focus more on the present. You get in the habit of doing that. And when you do that, when you embrace that quote unquote path of mastery, you eventually hit another spurt, right? It's not something that you force or randomly make. Just staying on the path of mastery is what leads to those growth spurts. I want to create a tribe of successful artists and help people become successful as artists. I'm a woodworker / carver, and my work hasn't made me huge money so far. I feel like I have a chicken and egg problem. Do I focus more on branding that will sell my wood, art, and furniture, or do I focus more on the digital product that will likely to be more lucrative part long term? I mean, kind of both, right? In terms of branding, you don't have to focus on either super hard. The way that I think about it is that brand is kind of big and broad, right? You're attracting a lot of people with the same interests as you. Your content on an individual level, like when you take all of your content into account, that's your brand. It's all of your interests, it's all that stuff. On an individual level, pieces of content can be focused on one singular topic or a few topics over time, and people are just consuming those for information and knowledge. On the product side, that's when you get very specific, and that's when how you promote the product gets very specific. So technically, in both my brand and my content, I don't have to talk about my digital product or my wood, art, and furniture at all. When it comes time to promote the product randomly on the timeline or in my newsletter or under a specific social post or wherever I promote, then I have this large amount of space worth of text to tell people what the problem is, introduce my solution, which is the digital product or the other thing, spark the transformation, whatever it may be, get them to the landing page. The landing page does the rest of the work because that's content as well, but it's very specific and it goes over everything that you would have written as content. So the entire goal of content when you're trying to sell something is to get people to the landing page where all the information is, and then that's where the conversion rate matters. So direct response copywriting or marketing would be something good to study, but to answer your question directly, I don't think the branding matters too much with either of those. I think you just have to pick one to promote daily in your newsletter, write the copy for, make the copy really good, and just continuously promote it. What's the best place to learn typing fast? Where did you learn to type fast? Well, according to the Cortex.hq Instagram, I do not write fast at all. With the split keyboard, there's a video there, or that's our first 1.5 million view on TikTok on the Cortex account. It was Matt and Ari versus me in typing speed, and I lost terrifically. But on my computer, I'm pretty fast. It just comes from typing faster, like trying to type faster, at least for me. All right, last one for 1:17 p.m. As said, that was the cutoff. Anything after this question, please ask in the community. Feel free to just copy paste it over now. And yes, this will be the last one. I'm working on becoming a fitness coach, but want to grow in all socials as well. Benji, stop you. Okay, I'm working on becoming a fitness coach, but want to grow in all socials as well. I'm enjoying writing on X, but growing Instagram seems to be the best place to be for this field. What do you think I should do? I mean, neither are the best place. I follow at least 100, 200 fitness accounts on X that do really well and probably pull in as much or more as people on Instagram. If you like writing, stay on X. If you like video, I'd go on Instagram or TikTok or both. But yeah, either works. I would just pick one and stick with it. And even if you feel like progress is slow, that doesn't mean the platform is bad for the niche you want to go into. It just means that your writing could be better. Okay, this is the last one. Christian, are there any writing exercises you would recommend that would help improve writing speed, prose style, tone, and structure? Read more writing that you want to write like. And every time you read that writing, write down one thing that you want to try to emulate from it. And then implement that the next time you write. So it could be short sentences. It could be the tone, maybe using a specific word, spacing of paragraphs. I don't know. You'll get what I mean when you read good writing that you want to emulate, and you just pick one little thing that you could pull from it and enter into your own. I haven't personally put too much effort into that. My writing, I feel like, has just taken more shape over time as I develop the taste for my own writing, where at first my writing just sucked and I knew it sucked. And now it's like I actually have an opinion over what I want my writing to flow like, and it takes that shape just because I've done it enough to realize what sucked about my prior writing. But that is it. Again, if you have questions that were posted after the 1:17 p.m. cutoff that I mentioned just a few minutes ago, please post them inside the community itself. I appreciate you guys coming to this call. This week, all about threads. We're getting into the longer form stuff. That's always fun. So enjoy that. Enjoy the Kai prompt at the end of the modules. Joey, thank you for answering questions. Was there anything you had for us before we go?
I can't think of anything. I guess the one thing that I always like to say when I have a chance is try to stay consistent. I imagine that there's some people at this point that are starting to feel a little fatigued, a little overwhelmed. I also saw a few people mention throughout the chat and in the community that they feel like they're behind. So again, you retain at least one lifetime's access to all the recordings and the materials, and you'll also have access to the Bootcamp Discussion channel in Discord. So you'll still be able to ask questions. So if you do feel behind, you're not behind. The fact that you're still here saying that you feel like you're behind puts you ahead of a lot of people. So yeah, really just try to do something every day, whether that's just writing one note, taking one capture, posting something on a platform. It's infinitely better than nothing. So just keep working at it, keep going through the material, keep asking questions, and you'll make progress faster than you probably think that you will.
Yes, and I'll plug, for that sake, I'll plug this book again, Mastery by George Leonard. Short book. I think the audiobook's like 2.5, 3 hours. Super quick. You could bust it out 5 30-minute sessions. And it talks about the process of mastery. It talks about going through, like, avoiding the quick fix. Usually that sense of overwhelm or anxiety or feeling like you need that spurt of progress, if you don't, that's how it's supposed to be, right? When you do something new that's confusing, you don't know what's going on. Of course, it's going to be that way. But when you continue and eventually things start to click into place, like it's always been the same throughout your entire life. So don't get discouraged now that it's overwhelming when learning anything new has always been overwhelming. Just stick with it. It'll make sense. You'll get better. Eventually that spurt of progress will come. And then eventually you'll feel lost and anxious again in the future. We all do. It's just the phases that happen. So if you can maintain that perspective of, hey, I feel overwhelmed, I feel anxious, maybe that's a good sign that we're getting close to that part where everything clicks. So really stick with it. It's uncomfortable, but yes, it'll turn out well. All right. That's it. Thank you guys for coming. See you in both the community. Feel free to always post questions and enjoy this week's modules. See you next week. Good to go. All right. Bye, guys. Bye, Joey. See you soon.
And I don't know why I saved it and deleted the other file. Benji, stop.
Did Devin leave yesterday?
Yeah, he's there. He's enjoying it so far. Welcome in, everyone. We have a special training from Joey after he finishes his protein shake, so I'm going to stall for a bit. But yes, hi, Benji. Where is he? Over here. I bring him up, but Benji, you want to say hi and help stall? Welcome. Come on. You don't like that? Come here. Benji, come say hi. Come here. Why are you scared? Come here. Okay. He doesn't want to say hi. But one thing to note, if you have started going through the newsletter modules this week, the AI portion I didn't put in because we have something actually pretty cool going in. I'll give you a sneak peek at that if my screen recording works. Let me show you that really quick. Oh, we have Oreo too. We have Oreo, Benji, Dan, and Joey. Okay, window, call, share. If we look at Cortex, you can see here that there's a chats and there's a capture. So capture is coming back for those who have been using Cortex longer than this bootcamp. So very cool there. In short, what that is just a capture inbox, right? So inside of this inbox, you can only write captures, right? And then the same functionality applies with all of these different things. And one cool thing that you see here is that you can capture to a specific chat, or you can create a new chat. And then if you press tab, now you can see there are multiple AI models. So there's Claude, GPT-4o, Gemini, Gemma, DeepSeek on US servers, so less privacy concerns, which is great. Different GPTs, different Claude, Perplexity. We might take these out because we don't have the link display ready yet, and it just doesn't. We need to make better designs for that. But the cool thing that I think is very cool if we make chats full screen is that there's a new chat button, and this will actually take place in a new homepage, which is very cool. But we added a bunch of system prompts that you can use, so you don't need to type prompts or create prompts. And I've created a bunch of good ones. So there's all of these. You can see the YouTube newsletter article draft one is here. So rather than doing the newsletter bonus video, we'll just wait for this to go in, and then you can use this to kind of guide your newsletter writing, which is so much easier. Then there's growth, there's learn, and then there's market, which I'm extremely excited about because you'll find out in a newsletter of mine on Saturday, and whenever we create tutorials for these, when it goes out, you can generate a custom avatar. You can turn whatever product or service you want to create into an irresistible offer. So plan it out a lot better. Personal brand and content strategy. So it gives you a bunch of inspiration on who you can target, who you can pull inspiration from, content ideas, all that cool stuff after interviewing you. Helps you write persuasive emails, add scripts for those who want to, and then generate landing pages from your customer avatar and offer blueprint. It's just really cool. I spend a lot of time grading these. And so what you do here is you click on one of these, and then it fills this with kind of like Mad Libs. So I can start typing here, press tab, start typing here, press tab, start typing here. Super easy. Press enter, and then it just works with whatever model you want. So very cool. I think a lot of people will benefit from this feature specifically, which is fun. Enough of my stalling and hyping Cortex up. Joey, are you good to go?
Let's get it. We have.
I want to see Benji. I'm going to force Benji. Benji, come here. Come tell them how excited you are. Oh, he's drinking water.
Oh.
Okay, you have a few more seconds. We'll get him.
We'll get him. All right, let's get to it. We got a protein shake here. As you know, we stay on brand. These gains are purple all the time. Okay, so that said, dog. Wait, Dan, say something. There you
Benji. Benji says hi. Okay.
go. There's like 4 brain cells behind those eyes.
Not really.
All right, let's get to it. Let me share my screen. Make sure I don't have any incriminating evidence in the background. All right.
Incriminating evidence.
Dude, you never know. It's like when you go to the airport and you get the TSA and it's like, wait, do I have cocaine and guns in my bag? Oh my God, why does Chrome need this? Okay, let me see if I can.
Oh, you have to leave?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll stall a bit more.
Okay,
sorry, guys. But Circle does this thing. It's so annoying when we have to test being able to screen record inside of the live recording because for some reason Circle just blocks it on Chrome occasionally. And so Joey didn't test this time around. So he's going to come back in after testing. But what Joey's going to do is he's going to go over a thread training because this week was threads. He's done this training many times before. It's actually pretty cool. He talks about AI a lot in it aside from what we learned in the AI module or AI video inside of it. So it should be cool and give you a bunch of different use cases for AI. There we go.
All right, we're back at it. Let's get going. Now,
I'm good at stalling, man.
yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Even with you. All right, let's get to it. So, as Dan just said, I am a somewhat retired ghostwriter. I still create some content for the Cortex Go accounts. Rumors are that I write for myself occasionally, but that hasn't seemed to happen much lately. One day I'll take my own advice and actually write content for myself. But today's not that day because I'm going to tell you how to write content. During my time as a ghostwriter, I worked with a guy named Dakota Robertson. Good friend of mine. I wrote like 600 threads over 18 months. Totally broke my brain, but got clients tens or hundreds of thousands of followers. So threads are one of the highest leverage pieces of content you can create, and they're also really useful to fit into your content ecosystem. And I'll talk about that a little bit later because maybe if we have time, touch on like content repurposing as well, because that was another big thing I did when I was ghostwriting. But as Dan said, I've given this training quite a few times over the years, but this is the first time that I'll really get to use Kai and Cortex for this training. So I'll try to keep the chat open on the side to see if I have or if there's any questions. Dan, you can also call it out as well.
The first one is a short story on obsession with purple.
I saw that. Yeah, so back in 2017, I was on an internship doing work for Caterpillar, a construction company up in Illinois, and I had in the middle of nowhere. I had nothing else to do outside of work and play League of Legends back at the dorm, and so I got really good at a champion called Malzahar, and he's purple. So basically, all I did outside of work was drink vodka and play League of Legends, and I got really good with Malzahar, and so that kind of started the purple obsession. And then once I started on social media, I just leaned even further into it, and now like I have a purple accent wall in my office, I have a purple car, and a lot of other purple things that I probably shouldn't mention in public. But yeah, good times. Yeah, Malzahar's awesome. I like never die. So yeah, all right. So let's get rolling here. Feel free when I'm going through this to mention any like brand topics or issues or anything like that along the way, and we can walk through a couple different examples. I'll start this out like I'm doing it for myself, and if I don't see any interactions from the chat, then I can go into a couple others that I always talk about. But we'll start with a new chat with Kai. This is what it looks like right now. It's going to look a lot cooler in a few days. I don't want to spoil anything. I think actually Dan may have touched on that a little bit earlier. While
Yeah.
okay, cool.
I spoiled it.
All right, nice, cool. Also, we will be going over the new stuff on office hours on Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Pacific time. So if you want to join that, I'll be making the new calendar event for that after this call. But all these side rants aside, that's what we do on office hours. Let's get started. So what we can do is either, so now we have two options for starting with. Because typically, before I would use ChatGPT and I would give it a long prompt that I crafted over time. But now we can actually utilize some of the stuff from the how to write a newsletter prompt. Because threads and newsletters and articles and videos are all pretty much long-form content. So when you hear us talk about long-form content, that's basically what is encapsulated in that category, right? So threads aren't typically super long. Like a Twitter thread isn't as long as one of Dan's videos or newsletters. The Dan stuff is exceptional anyway. I'm totally not biased. But you can kind of think of threads as long-form content. So we can just take a prompt or write a prompt for ourselves, and I can go over that. But if you want an easy, streamlined way that you can start doing this right now, you can just use this how to write a newsletter prompt.
Joey, they have one on how to write threads.
Okay, cool. I don't think I have that, but it is in the bootcamp. So, okay. So shall I utilize that or just go through my typical flow?
Is the newsletter prompt your typical flow?
It starts it, yeah.
Do the thread one.
Okay, let me grab that real quick. And
It's
just in
very
case there are people who don't know how to get the stuff, it's right there. So we will copy workspace, personal. Take a second. Okay.
Oh, it's in the bootcamp prompts one. Sorry.
Oh. Let me go back. Bootcamp prompts. I did not even read that. So we'll copy it. Okay, start writing. Okay.
So it does the same thing as the newsletter one, but it condenses it. It teaches it how to write an actual hook and post.
Cool. All right. So we will go through this process right here. Grab that prompt, which everybody should have access to. We'll go back to Kai. Hide the sidebar. Then what we need to do. Do I need to modify this one yet, or is it just going to ask me, right?
Should ask you, yep.
Okay. All right. We going. All right. So as I said, we'll start with one that I write for myself, and then we'll take a look at a couple other niches for examples. So for target audience, we'll say men in their 20s and 30s. Okay. For topics, what's the subject matter today's post focus on? So I would say productivity, feeling lost in life, frustration with modern society, addictions, cheap dopamine, and then reference material. I think I have one of those in here somewhere.
Joey, since you're in browser, can you make screen a bit bigger?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, I'm actually going to hide the chat because I need more room. I think I have video game. Can't spell. That one should be correct. Can't click on it, but it's fine. Okay, so basically what I did here was I told it a category of people. This was very vague. You can get more specific if you want to. And then I told it some topics that I'm kind of feeling like I want to talk about in the thread. And then I gave it one of my previous newsletters. And as you can see, I've kind of damaged this with some testing when I was doing something in QA a while back, but it's really fine. So we have a topic here, which it looks like it picked based on the reference material that I gave it, which could be fine. It gives me an outline. Looking pretty good. I don't really feel like anything needs to be changed yet. No, proceed. Okay, now we're going to copy this to make it easier to read. Or yeah, make a new document. Then we'll close this pane. All right, so here's our thread. X lessons from video game addiction. Looks like we got 10. So we'll delete that. Start cleaning this up here. Okay, so what it did was it gave me the outline first, and that was just like the rough points. That was it saying, honestly, I should go back and copy that into another document so that we can really get clear on this. So let me do that really quickly. As you can see, I can cover over this, click the copy button, and we will make a subdocument here. Outline, paste that in, and now we can close this. So this is the outline that it gave me. Delete this first line. So as we take a moment to look through here slower, we can see that what the outline was it telling me, okay, here is basically the point that we're going to cover in this post, in the specific single post of the thread, to be precise. So we can take a moment, and you really should take a few minutes, ideally, if you have the time, to look through here and make sure that these track with your perspective and experience, what you want to say, especially something like this, because this one wound up being something that ties into an experience I had really closely. So I need to make sure that it's actually tracking with that. Because if I don't know that I was really using the video game that I played, World of Warcraft, as an escape from anything, at least not intentionally, because there wasn't really anything to escape from back then. So I would probably, for me, if I was to post this thread, I would probably delete this point. But I could also keep it in there if I want to reference that point in a way where it could apply for other people. Because I do know that there are some people who use video games as an escape. So all that to say, there's a bit of nuance here. When you get each of these points in an outline, you need to evaluate them to see, do I want to make use of this point, or do I want to change it a bit, or something like that? Because you want to make sure that the content you're posting actually aligns with your experience and also your opinions as well. So these are looking good. Illusion of progress, that would be one that was an unconscious thing for me for sure in Warcraft. That's good. Importance of downtime, I don't think I would reference that one if I wrote this thread because I didn't do anything with my life. So Warcraft was my life at the time. I could maybe reference League with that, but that wouldn't be the same story. So yeah, that one I would delete. So yeah, that's just kind of my thinking when I do something like this, where I look at each point in the outline. I really should have done that when I was giving it the prompts before I told it no proceed, and it gave me the written version. But just running through a quick example here, so I didn't do that. Anyway, once we have gotten our outline fixed up and we're good to go, then we can tell it, yeah, go ahead and finish writing. Then we wind up with this sort of finished product, not really, because we still need to go through and actually review it and spice it up a bit. So as I said earlier, there was one that I wanted to go through and remove. So the importance of downtime. One little thing, this isn't super important, but one little thing that I picked up when I was ghostwriting was prime numbers in the hook tend to perform better. It's like a little psychological thing where those stand out more for some reason. So typically when I would do this, I would get 10 points for the thread, but then I would delete either 1 or 3. Usually my points in a thread would be either 5 or 7. I found that was a pretty good sweet spot. 5 is a little light for a thread. If you have 5 big points, then you may want to expand some of them into 2 posts. So you have like 2 posts for 1 point or for each of the points, and that makes sure that the thread is still pretty meaty. If you have 7 points in the thread, then you don't necessarily have to do that, but you can if you want to or need to. And one thought, go ahead.
I'll expand on that. What I've noticed when some beginners start writing threads, it's good that you're writing a thread, right? But they'll write maybe 3 to 5 posts, right? They think a thread is just like, okay, you have a hook, and then you have something you talk about, and it doesn't matter if it takes 1 reply or 5. 5 just feels a bit underwhelming. If you haven't been on Twitter or social media too long, you may not be familiar with how long threads are to the point of them being valuable. And so if you write one that's too short, other people are used to them being long. And so they may read and just be like, oh, okay, that wasn't worth my time. But if you have maybe 7 to 10, maybe 8 to 10, that's like the sweet spot. If you go over, you really have to be talking about a topic that you are invested in and can just write about very well. Like some of my best threads were 20 tweets long, but that was because it felt like it deserved that length. Like anything less would have sacrificed the topic of the thread itself. So when you're writing about most topics, 10 threads is usually enough to get the point across. If you're writing something about something super deep and you know you can get to more people, go longer if you want. But usually when you're starting out, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, that's usually the spot you want to be, especially if you repurpose and copy paste all of those posts into like an Instagram carousel. You don't want that to be too long.
Yep, really good point. And just to touch on something really quickly that's relevant, I know a lot of people probably have a gut feeling about like, oh, well, people's attention spans are shrinking and nobody wants to take the time. If you go look at Dan, who just hit 1 million subs, by the way, so congrats to him, pretty cool guy. But if you go look at his stuff, his videos are like 30 minutes. There's some 45-minute ones here, like over an hour, and he's doing really well. And it's not just, I don't just say that because he's on the call. It's like, obviously people have the capacity and the desire to consume longer form content. You just have to make it worth their time. So it's not like people have an attention span problem. It's just like, is this worth my time, essentially? So try to keep that in mind. Try not to let yourself get discouraged into making too short content. Another thing about that is going back to the point of how many posts you have per point in your thread. A common mistake that I see beginners make when they're writing threads is they will post it up and then like every single post in the thread has a little see more button. And that's because the post went beyond 280 characters or 10 lines. That's when that shows up. It's like maybe 1 or 2 of those is okay in your thread. It's not great. But if it's like every single point in that thread has that button, that's dramatically increasing the friction for the reader. Because I know it doesn't sound like much, but that's like another tap. That's another thing they have to do to read more of your thread. And that, unfortunately, if it's not really good stuff that people are really invested in, then they're not going to do that. They're going to just tap out and go do something else. So try to be aware of that. If you find multiple posts in your thread are getting really long, and Twitter will tell you, X, whatever name it has, will tell you if it's going past 280 characters, then maybe you should just break it up. Okay. So what I did while Dan was talking a moment ago was I actually reorganized this a bit so I can utilize panes. And so my approach to this would probably be to start off by saying, here's a document. I'm going to write a thread about something. And then I will have an outline document, and I will have a draft document. And then this is what I'll probably have every time. Or I could just templatize these where I'm able to duplicate the top level one, and then I can have this set of 3 documents every single time I go to write a thread. Then these reflect the 3 stages of my thread. I will have my outline, where just for ease and to make it easier to read, I'll probably drag it out of the Kai window into this document. So I can modify it earlier. We just talked about that a few minutes ago. And then I'll take the modified version, give it to Kai and say, no, use this outline. And then it will give me back the draft. And that's what we have over here. And then the final step, if I have time, if I see something that I want to improve, then I will have my top level document, which for this example is this one here. And then I'll have this one open in the main pane, have the draft open in the side pane. I'll start bringing stuff over. I'll rewrite some things. I'll improve some things, so on and so forth. So look through here. We're going to say here are 7 lessons I learned from my video game addiction. I lost 5 years of my life to video game addiction. Something. Here are 7 lessons I learned from this wasted time of my life. Okay, so what did I just do there? I just started rewriting the hook. Unfortunately, hook writing was probably the weakest skill that I had when I was ghostwriting. Usually Dakota or somebody would help me with those. But I know that this isn't all the way there, so I just want to sharpen it a little bit. Typically, I want to make it flow a bit better. I want to utilize some structure that I know works, and that's a skill that you pick up over time with like just seeing things that work and kind of feeling it out. But I just want to clean this up a little bit more, make it flow better, but I'm not quite sure yet what I want here in the middle. So in the interest of time, because I'm not sitting here with an hour or 2 to spare to do this, I just made a mark here and I'm like, okay, I'll come back to that. And I kind of encourage you to do that when you're rewriting the draft into the finished product, because you don't want to spend too much time on one thing. It's okay if you feel the need to jump around a bit and make some progress here and there in different areas, and then come back to kind of an overview of the entire thing to do one sweep through to finish up anything you missed. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Now what you may be wondering is if I say we're going to go over 7 lessons, but I have 10, well now I have 9, I guess, because I deleted one already, then we need to delete 2 more. So we'll delete redefining productivity because that is another can of worms that I don't want to get into in this thread. The value of lost time. Addiction can be a double-edged sword. Yeah, I don't really want to get into that one. So now we're left with my 7 points. So then the next step I would do would be to go through each one of these posts and see, okay, do I want to rewrite anything, or do I feel like they're good? Is there anything I want to add, take away, reframe? Do I want to leverage any particular thing I did? Do I want to introduce some context? Because I don't say what game I played, right? Again, this is one that's focused on a story of mine. So I could have another post in here. Maybe I don't know exactly what I'm doing yet, but I could say I started playing World of Warcraft in 2006. I immediately fell in love with the game and played 12 to 16 hours every day. I did nothing else for 5 years except play WoW, talk to my cat, and sleep. I was 370 pounds, pre-diabetic, and wasting something years of my life. But here are 7 things I learned from that period. All right, so what I did here was I wrote what's also called a lead that goes between the hook and the actual points of the thread. What it does is it gives more context, because personally I feel like if I don't tell what the game was or how bad things got, it reduces the impact of the thread, right? So taking another post after the hook to say, okay, what game I was playing, that increases the relatability and the realness of the thread. Then saying that I played 12 to 16 hours makes people go, holy crap, that's a lot. I could also say at 16 years old. So that gives a bit more context. I was a teenager. So then it's like 12 to 16 hours as a teenager, like how were you doing that? I did nothing else for 5 years except play the game, talk to my cat, get a little humor in there, and sleep. I was over 370 pounds, pre-diabetic, and wasting important years of my life. But here are 7 things I learned from that period. So I am kind of reiterating the point from the hook, but that's okay. Because again, we need to think of it as like a transition, right? So we have our hook, and then we have the lead, which as a whole is somewhat of a transition from the hook into the points that gives a lot more context. But we still need this line here as a transition so that the jump from this post into point number 1 finding community online isn't as severe. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. So then from there, I would bring over these points one by one. And again, I would maybe change them up a bit. I could reorder them. But as I do that, and this is a little trick I learned that helped out a lot, is so my like stylistic calling card when I wrote threads was the summaries. So the summary is an extremely important piece of content, and I'll show you why in just a moment. But the final post, or next to final post that you want to have in your thread, if it's a listicle like this, which most of the time it is going to be, the next to final post you want to have is a summary post. And so the summary post is going to say 7 lessons I learned from my video game, from being addicted to World of Warcraft. One. That's it. This will be the post. And then the things that would go in that place would be these titles right here. We'll call them titles. It's not really what they are, but we'll put that there. So basically, you're summarizing the high points of the thread into one single post at the end. Whatever you do, don't be like, in summary, TLDR, whatever. Just simply restate the main line of the hook and then follow that with these points. You don't need anything else. Why is that so powerful? Well, it's because this by itself is a list tweet. Dan talks about all the time how great of a content type list tweets are. They work so well on X, Threads, and Instagram. So we can make use of one here. And the really interesting thing is, this example hasn't been working quite as well lately because he doesn't post as many of those threads. But if you were to look at somebody like Dan Go, who posts a ton of threads, then he probably doesn't do it here. Well, it's a really long tweet, or a really long thread. But Dan Go used to post threads about breathing and posture and stuff like that. And at the end of his thread, he would have a summary post. That summary post got the second most engagement of the entire thread. Post number 1 obviously was the hook, because that was the first one that everybody saw. So it had the most impressions, the most likes, the most reposts. And then the second most was always the summary tweet at the end. And that's because people get to the end and they see that nice, clean, compact post. And so they're inclined to engage with it and inclined to share it. And so this winds up becoming a breadcrumb that other people see on their timelines that leads them to your thread. And that amplifies your engagement and visibility even more. So basically what I'm talking about here is when you get to the point where your finished version is mostly done, then go through and take the single lines at the start of each post, put them in the summary tweet, and you have a very simple way of increasing your engagement. And later on, you can take this summary post and just post it later, post it like 2 weeks later or something like that. It's easy. And I say next to last because typically you're going to have some kind of call to action. So that can be as simple as, like the one that I always wrote when I was ghostwriting was, thank you for reading. Follow me, purple, for more on Violet, Fuchsia, and Malzahar. Share this post to help another person. This is optional. Actually, I would do it down here. This bracket link thing was from back in the day when I would use Tweet Hunter as my tweet scheduler, because it would automatically turn it into the first post of the thread when it was posted. I don't know how Typefully does it because I haven't used that with the thread yet, but it's a good thing to do. It's good to have the first post of your thread reference at the end, because that makes it easy for somebody to interact with it or repost it or something like that. You can do that manually, or by manually I mean if you're posting directly on X, you can still do it there. You would just have to add the CTA after you've already posted it. And Dan, do you feel like that's actually worth doing, or not so much, especially if you're trying to promote something else?
The CTA isn't that worth it if you're pushing too simple.
Okay.
But you can do both. Like you can do the CTA first and then link whatever it is you're promoting after. So product, service, whatever.
Yeah. And the reason why I asked that to the audience is because you don't want to make too many asks, both because you don't want to come across as salesy, like too salesy, and also because it confuses people. So it's the whole thing about choice paralysis, decision fatigue, whatever. So yeah, it's better to keep it somewhat focused. So, Dan, did you have something?
I was going to say one thing you could show, if you still have the chat, is go there, and then since you have the full draft ready, I would just ask it, say, give me 3 different variations of a hook in the chat itself already. And so you can do that as well to just like see different ways of writing it. And then I know you removed that one tweet because you wanted to just remove it and make it less, but you could also go up to like the importance of downtime. Yeah, just say make post number 8 10 times more persuasive based on direct response marketing principles. Oh, well, okay, so it expanded it. Okay, I'll rewrite 8 post 10 times. Oh, it actually just gave you the original. Okay, original, new post. So it writes it like a copywriter. That's kind of funny. Warning, you will get addicted to something. Like, that's actually good. So one way to make, if you don't need to go hardcore direct response marketing style, but you could have it write you a thread, and then you could say something like rewrite this based on direct response marketing principles, and it'll get a lot more choppier and like headline focused and more conversational. And then like you could have it rewrite the thread 3 different ways. Like write it as Marcus Aurelius, write it as a direct response marketer, write it as a poet, and then you can have all 3 of those and kind of merge things together to view, okay, what's the best way to angle each part of this? And that goes well beyond threads. That goes for specific tweets, it goes for other things. But once you have it all in a chat, you can focus on specific areas and just ask it to rewrite it in different ways or to rewrite it completely. And one thing with the outline as well, when you first go through this, it writes an outline first. Before you have it write the thread, you can, let's go back to the outline. Okay, so it gives you the outline. And then before you have it write the thread, you could say, you could do it number by number, but you could just say, I also want to incorporate, what's another lesson? I also want to incorporate what's another lesson? How dopamine, I mean, how, yeah, cheap dopamine, because that one always does. Todd, threads are released all at once. So they're just like, it's just one, think of it like a article that you post on Twitter, but the article is structured as like a tweet and then replies to the tweet.
Okay, so this is actually pretty interesting. So what I did was I had it go back to the outline. So if you do feel like you kind of get out in the weeds and you're like lost and confused, you can just have it reprint the outline and we go back to square one. And then what I did here, that said for the points in the outline, I also want to incorporate the concept of how cheap dopamine affects motivation. So it went further than I imagined, but this is actually a pretty interesting thing here. I may have misspoke when I said for the points in the outline because what it did was it referenced dopamine in every single point. But that's actually pretty interesting because a thread about how dopamine relates to all these different points is pretty unique. So it's not what I wanted, but it's kind of interesting. And I think there is something here.
Yeah, that's sweet. That's like a unique way of doing it too, because like, what if you're the cheap dopamine guy and you know that cheap dopamine always does well? Because on YouTube, you mention cheap dopamine in the title and you automatically go viral. I'm exaggerating, but kind of not as well. So it's like you could write a thread on any topic and then be like, make the central theme of this, like for all the points, incorporate cheap dopamine. And then it's like, that's how you make any of your posts viral. That's how you talk about one thing 1,000 different ways for whatever it is you do. So interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Is there any questions that I should go over or?
Yep, we got 3. And just a heads up, once we start answering questions, that's when everyone decides to ask questions. So once we hit 1 o'clock, maybe a bit after, whatever it takes to like answer the question, after that, we'll set like a cutoff. So as a heads up, questions take a bit. If you didn't ask them and you're only asking them now because we're answering questions, just be mindful that you may just have to post them in the circle community, but we'll stick around as long as we can. But first question from Zachary, way back up, is a good one. I have a day job that takes up most of my time, but I've carved out 1 hour a day before work to work on my one-person business. Question: if I only had 1 hour a day to work on building an audience online, what specifically are the highest leverage activities to do every day? Very good question. So the first thing is you have 1 hour a day. I'm assuming that the goal is to quit. It's to replace your work, right? So if that's the main goal, you need to kind of beeline towards that. A lot of people will tell you, oh, just build an audience and then eventually create a product and, take it slow, try to replace your income slow. And I agree with that. It's going to be slow either way, just by the nature of business and not knowing what you're doing the first time around. So what I would say is really focus in on what you want to sell. You need to sell something, just find out what that is. Go find inspiration from other people that are doing what you want to do, the topics they're talking about, research, buy their products, download them, see how they structure them, see how they structure the landing page. Once you have a general idea of what you want to sell, honestly, it doesn't really matter if it's just a product or if it's a freelance service, coaching service, just find something that you want to sell. After that, you have things that you can start talking about. So you go offer first content, right? You base 80% of your content around the topic that you're trying to sell a product or service around, and just 3 posts a day, nonstop. That's it. So first priority, you're not going to be able to do the same thing for every hour, every morning. So I would try to maybe map it out on a calendar or in a notebook, 1 hour a day for a week. This hour, I'm going to build a product. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm going to build a product. Tuesday, Thursday, I'm going to try to batch post tweets. In my free time, whenever I can get on my phone, I'm going to engage with people, DM people. You probably have more than an hour and you're on social media. So just do that while you're on social media. Reply to people, try to grow, respond to DMs, message people, try to get your content shared, everything that we talked about in here. But the hour each morning should really be focused on get the offer out, build the product, build the landing page, build whatever it is you need to build. If you don't know how to build something yet, set aside an hour a day or set aside those hours to learn first or as you do it. And then from there, once you have the product or service ready, you have the content going out, you're already sending DMs, just incorporate the product in that process, promote the product every day. It may feel like you're over promoting at first, but just do it. DM, if it's a freelancer coaching service, DM people and do your outreach and try to sell them on the product or service. And that's honestly kind of it, because you just need to make the money in order to quit. So then you can free up more time to do all the fun optimization type stuff. But at first, it's really just 1, you need a product so you have the capability of making money. 2, you need to sell that thing for the hours that you have throughout the week. Okay. The second question was from Lucas. I have a question. What's your opinion on research-based threads on non-personal topics? So for building your own brand, hitting on viral topics that align with that brand, like history, health, tech stuff, any nuance on this and balancing it with personal content that is based more on experience rather than research. Research-based threads do incredible. I forget, what's that guy's name? Culture Critic. Yeah. Go look up the Culture Critic. Amazing threads, amazing account in general, highly research-based. People love that stuff. When you put a lot of time and energy into an interesting topic and distilling that for someone else, those do really well. Of course, just keep, every time we talk about content, I try to reiterate, hey, remember that even if it's a good thread and you put a ton of time into it, just because you post it on social media doesn't mean it's going to hit the algorithm, doesn't mean it's going to get shared. So try to have some kind of strategy in place to get that thing shared. If you put a lot of time and energy into a research-based thread, man, send it to everyone. Like have a list of 10 people and send them a link to the thread when you post it and just be like, hey, I wrote this thread. I really enjoyed your content over however long you've been following them, over the months, over the years. I love this point that you made the other day in this tweet. You actually inspired me to write my first thread, or at least get started with this. Just wanted to share it here. Don't ask them to share, don't ask them to engage. They may do that out of the kindness of their hearts, but at least you have a chance at one of them liking, retweeting, commenting, boosting it in the algorithm somehow. Just try to keep the engagement or the interaction very authentic so that they just feel like, oh, this is cool. He wrote this, he's sending it to me so I can read it, all that fun stuff. So in short, yeah, history, tech, health stuff. Look up Analyze and Optimize as well. They have really good research-based threads. Some of them are a bit more esoteric and cherry-picking the data, but they're good.
I linked those in the chat, by the way.
Cool. Yeah, they're good examples of what a non-personal-ish thread can be. Okay, another question from Ayan. Any tips on transitioning your brand from one identity to another? Context, I used to do a lot of freelance photography, filmmaking, so my Instagram is full of my creative work. I haven't posted in a while because I don't really do that anymore. Now I'm interested in things like entrepreneurship, improvement, deep thinking, etc. But with entrepreneurship, I don't have much to show for yet, so I don't know what I'd post to show my work. This is actually what I did. If you scroll to the very bottom of my Instagram, you'll see digital art that I made in Photoshop. It was like a thing at the time, a niche community on Instagram. It's probably still around, but I would make Photoshop composites and take some of the pictures myself to like work into the composites and do that kind of thing. And I grew to maybe 2,500 followers at the time. And then I stopped and I took a break. I don't know how long the break was, but eventually I started writing on Twitter that's where I started. And then I started pasting those tweets over into Instagram. And that's kind of just how I got started. I didn't really care to grow on Instagram at first. I just wanted to show that I was active in some way. So people knew that I was posting, right? And I didn't grow that much at the start. I just showed that I was active. But then once I started doing the things that we talked about in this course, like having people on Instagram to have them share my posts to their story, and my posts were good in a sense because I was copy pasting over my best performing posts from Twitter. So that's what got me kickstarted, and then growing from there took place. But honestly, the only answer is to just start posting, right? You don't have to. You say, but with entrepreneurship, I don't have much to show for yet, so I don't know what I post to share my work. You don't have to share your work. You have to share your interests or what you're learning or teach something, just something valuable, right? Share it. There's a lot of people who don't have any entrepreneurial success because the creator business is what they're doing to build entrepreneurial success. So really look at any creator, see what they're posting, see what you could do that's similar, and go from there. Really, like you don't have to be someone who like says you make $1 million a year or whatever kind of flex there is. You just have to have good ideas that people find value in. That's kind of it. That's also not the entire story, but that's what you have to do is just start posting in terms of transitioning the brand. Okay. Jesse, I'm currently jobless and verging on broke, and my health has been strained lately. A little freelance web dev to keep me afloat. When I publish my next newsletter, I think I'll schedule a thread and lots of posts and go offline for a few to do farm work and replenish my energy. I feel nervous about loss of momentum and time under tension, but my mind feels exhausted. Any thoughts on taking breaks? I'd say go for it. How do I put it? The thing with social media is like you can always become quote unquote relevant pretty quick. And if you ever have the desire to post while you're taking the break, I just write down the ideas. You don't necessarily need to post them. But with social media, like the time under attention thing is more on a content per content basis. So like one tweet isn't going to build you as much authority as someone reading one book of yours, right? But over time, it doesn't matter if you break that too much because you can always come back and start the process again. But remember that just posting isn't going to do too much for you. Like you kind of have to, when you start posting, you kind of have to inject yourself into a group of people and be like, hey, I'm here. I'm commenting on your stuff all the time. I'm DMing you. I'm letting you know. I'm sharing my post with you. Like, hey, dude, I'm back. I'm trying to pick up some more momentum. Can you help me out? Send me something in return. I'll help you out. All that kind of stuff. So in terms of taking a break, yeah, go for it. I would, however, if it were me, I still like the process of writing down ideas that could have been posted, right? So breaks for me are more so like I'm not paying attention to, like I'm not thinking that I need to post this idea in front of a bunch of people. I'm just writing down an idea that I thought was interesting, and that usually leads to me posting because the ideas are better that way because I'm not expecting the ideas to be criticized, so they're more like raw. So I hope that helps, and I hope the health issues ease up because I know how that is. All right. I've been creating all my content in Google Docs, posts, and newsletter. I get stuck moving over to Cortex. I know I just need to do it, but welcome if there are any tips to smooth in this transition. What's good in Google is having the index on the left so I have all the dates, and it's super easy to navigate between weeks of the year. Joey, you answered that one. That one's more so just feedback for us. Because my best advice for starting is to just start writing in it and let the system just develop with time, right? The thing with my newsletters is like I don't need to find them too often but if I do, they're pretty easy to search for, or I have them organized in terms of folders like how I do on my computer. So when you set up a folder on your computer, it's usually like, okay, content, and then it's like 2025 content, and then January 2025 content, and then week 1, week 2, week 3, and then it's all organized that way, if you want to do it that way. But that's more so feedback to allowing us to get more filters and searchability in. I'm looking at the thread writing prompt and wondering if I copy paste the entirety of that document as it is written into Kai, then attaching or referencing whatever my ideas are for that thread. Sorry if it's a dumb question. It's not. I'm trying to understand what exactly is being referenced when you say prompt. I'd like to send Kai my thread idea to Kai, but just want to be sure I understand how to do it. Yes. So you would copy paste the entire prompt into Kai for now, and then hit send, and it'll ask you 3 questions: target audience, topic, where you would share your idea, and a reference if you want to share that. But with the next update, which is going in as soon as we can get it in, we've made that a lot simpler. So this is what starting a new chat is going to look like. And then under the create tab, there's write a thread or carousel. So then you just click this, and this is we're still doing a little cleanup. This isn't live yet, so the bugs don't count if it's not live. But this will show up, and then you can just fill in the blanks with your target audience, your topic, reference, or whatever you want, and then hit send, and it starts the process for you. So it'll be a lot easier in the next update, but for now, you do copy paste the thread-specific prompt. I created a course around morning routine habit change, did a free run with a group of people for like 6 months, but then nobody was willing to pay. Just one person put in a lot of time. The landing page is not converting at all. How do I decide if I need to change the direction or just need to dial in the landing page somehow? I'll take a look. Let me share screen. On this note as well, with that, I'm going to chill this. This is extremely, I'm so excited for this feature. But inside of here, even before I look at this, I want you to go through your landing page, your offer, go through the custom avatar generator, go through the offer blueprint, then have it write the landing page for you and see if that has better angles. Because these are trained on like a lot of direct response marketing data and books. But going over it, let's see. One habit to rule them all. The first thing I see here is one ring habit to rule them all, and then an aura ring. So it feels like right here that this has something to do with aura. So that may be confusing. And then the text, I think it goes from here over to here. But on desktop, it reads like this. So you go from here to here, over to here, and then you start reading down. curious why there's 2 landing pages rather than have the landing page have a proper headline, subheadline, lead, personal transformation, unique mechanism. Yeah, just for like ease, I would make the background, I would try to use a web design template of sorts. I would have either a blank background or just something that's more clean. Even all white works perfectly fine. So if you just have white with a center headline and then go from there, I would do that. Because to me, it's a bit distracting where there's different colors. There's not a solid color background. The thing with the landing page is you just want to drive them down the page. You want compelling copy. The text, if it can't convert as text only on a Google Doc, then it's going to have difficulty converting when you add more complexity and images and other things to it. So what I would do is just try to make the landing page look like a blank piece of paper. Get Cortex AI to write the copy for you if when that is out, or just focus solely very compelling headline, subheadline, call to action with the price. Since it's a low price product, $19, you can have it there. Or another thing you can do to ease the landing page a lot more is go to Stan and so this shows up on Stan. It actually looks better on mobile because they're mobile first, but it has an image, it has the headline, it has the price, and then it's just like pure text. And then supposedly their checkout process is one of the highest converting in the business just because it's like straight to the point. Name, email, pre-order. Why does it say pre-order? Oh, that's not good. Talking about conversions, I'm probably ruining a lot of my own for the past however long that's been up. So I need to change that. But Stan.store is probably the easiest way to set up a landing page and host the product if you want to switch that over. But other than that, I would just focus on just blank white background, honestly. Black headline, good subheadline, call to action with a button, with the price, go into the lead. So pain point, transformation, unique mechanism, what makes your product unique and different, testimonials, call to action, $19, let it rip. So I'd remove a lot of the complexity and just get straight to the point, focus on good copywriting. All right. Hey Dan, I have a background in landscaping, fire fuel reduction, heavy equipment operating. One big topic I want to write about is permaculture and homesteading. If I have lots of theoretical knowledge and less experience / land to demonstrate with how I build authority on those 2 subjects without land. You just write about it, man. Like if you have the information, I just talk about it. But with something like that, I'm not too familiar with permaculture or homesteading. I actually have no idea what either of those mean. So one thing there is I would assume that the average person has no idea what those things mean. So when you write about those things, you need to approach from the positioning of why is this important for other people to know? And you just start with that. So either pain point or just the importance of it. Like really think, what's in this for me? Why should anyone care about this specific topic? And that's usually the one sentence that you start out with to get them introduced to that thing. But I mean, you don't have to have the land if you know what you're talking about. At least that's in my, and you have a background in it. So yeah. Okay. Elise, yes. Ways to organize sources is coming, and being able to transcribe any link inside the library. So those 2 will come at the same time. That's what we're working on after this next update that I was showing. So that's fine. Okay. When do we get access? A few days. We're almost there. It's just we're learning very fast that we can't promise days anymore or when. And really no software can. But yeah, there's just polishing to do. Okay. All right, final question. Is it okay if my landing page is a page on my website or blog, or should I make it the cover page of the website? It depends what it's for. If the landing page is for a product or service, then yes, it's fine. Just create it as a separate page. But yeah, it doesn't have to be the main cover page. Okay, final one from Selena. I'm in the health and wellness space and will eventually launch one-on-one coaching and courses. Is there a specific type of content to create when you're building authority? I'm more comfortable pumping out short form rather than threads, but I'm working on threads. Personal transformations work a lot. Client transformations work a lot. Just showing you know what you're talking about works a lot. Targeting pain points works a lot. So the classic one in the health and wellness space is losing a certain amount of weight or feeling energetic again. If you're targeting women, it could be feeling sexy again, or like yourself. If you're targeting a man, it's feeling confident and having washboard abs, things like that, where you're putting an image into their head as to what it is, and then you're giving them a solution that works rather than something that they don't believe works. So it has to be believable, logical, or you have to prove your point. So the best thing you can do is just look at people who are talking about what you want to talk about in social media. It may take a bit to find those people, but if you have a few that are top of mind, go and look and study their content, what they write about. Because if they get a decent amount of engagement and people are if people are, what's the word, invested in them, like you can tell they have a higher quality audience than others, that's all you kind of really need to get coaching clients of that nature. The thing that kind of repels them is things that are too basic or doesn't have enough like of your own twist or spice or personality. All right. Joey, anything else I missed?
Can't think of anything. I know we went over a lot today, so if you have any questions on the thread process or iterating on that, you can DM me, post in the community. Also, another plug for office hours on Saturday mornings. Definitely come to those. You'll be getting an email about the next one here in a bit. So yeah, hit me up anytime. Talk about purple, whatever.
Sweet. Okay, one last question. The only advice, Daniel, is to just appeal it. That's literally it. A lot of people ask that when their accounts get suspended, and we can't get it unsuspended for you. X is the only people that can do that. The only other advice is just start writing like you would on Twitter, on any other platform. Threads, LinkedIn, Instagram, any of the above. They all work. But yes, thank you, everyone. If you have questions, leave them in Circle. We've got a lot more coming. That new update will be so cool. So keep an eye on emails for when that update goes out. Thank you guys again. Enjoy your Tuesday. And yes, Kenzie, Joey does record the Saturday calls. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you, Roger. Okay, we got first two people to join our Steves. Steve and Steven, nice, welcome. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the live and the chat. Say hello. Hello Tanya. Hello Dina. Hello Sergey. Allison, Sydney, Christian, Dorothy, Amon, Miriam. Welcome. We'll wait for things to stabilize. Oh, just so everyone knows, the templates are now, if you were looking in the most recent module, the templates are now in the workspace. I thought I transferred them over. I guess I didn't. So that is there. Housewarming party. Yes. Still unpacking. You can see Benji is here both in spirit and painting form.
Oreo's here in reality.
Yeah. Benji's over there in reality. But yeah, we made it. But yes, as cohorts go, this call will be less than the last one, not in time, but in people. It kind of like drips off. So we're going to have a pretty tight-knit group today. And I think what we're going to do, because the thing about this bootcamp, we're very aware of how it's structured, where we start off with brand, and then we go to posts, and then we go to threads, and then we go to newsletters, and then we go to like wrapping it all up with repurposing to different platforms and the module that you got access to as of this morning. So like that's a lot to learn. That's really a lot to learn. It's hard to keep pace on these calls with that thing because we can't expect everyone to write posts the first week and start writing threads, then write an entire newsletter that first week, so on and so forth. And yeah, to answer why do cohorts drop in numbers, it's just the nature of things. I mean, I personally do it when I join a course or cohort. It's like when people read books, right? You start reading a book and then you either finish it completely, which is rare, or you set it down and come back to it later. Another thing is that a lot of people just purchase this cohort because they wanted the curriculum portion of it and they wanted the recordings to the call. So it's like not everyone who purchases shows up to the calls in the first place. And then it tends to drop off because people tend to drop off. That's just kind of how it goes. Of course, you should optimize for that and try to prevent that from happening. But a lot of it is inevitable. So that's a long way of saying that today we can't really expect that everyone has written a newsletter for us to go over. So what we're going to do is we're just going to have a Q&A. And when a question comes up that we believe deserves a lot of time and attention, we're going to dive deep into that. And so yeah, Marvir as well, you're taking your time with week 1 and 2. And that's granted, it's probably better to do that. So being quote unquote behind on the curriculum in a cohort that you can't have all of that together. So you're technically not behind in the curriculum. You're just going through as you should. And these calls are more so to help with clarity. That's why we call them clarity calls. So I think a way to keep this organized, just the questions in general, I enabled a Q&A chat that allows us to pin the questions as we're answering them. So there's the chat. And then if you look next to the chat, you'll see Q&A. So pop your questions in there, unless there are already some that we can work off of. But yeah. Go to the Q&A section, ask a question if you need. The first thing, just on the topic of newsletters, I'll actually share something that I found extremely helpful with writing short form content in the first place, because idea generation for me has to come in a very specific way. Like when I read a book, it's incredible for coming up for ideas for me, because I usually just read a sentence and I'm like, okay, I can turn that into something. But let me see if I can do this or how I did it in the past. Let me look this up really quick. Okay, I did this the other day. I got it. Yes. Okay. Where is share? Share screen, window, share. Okay, so here's what I did inside of Cortex on, this is staging, so there's some weird stuff going on, but this isn't production on Cortex, this is a different account. But what I wrote here is use the context below and write down 20 short pieces of advice. The advice should be short, single sentences like run directly at fear or be a failure or stop ruining your life. The more hyperbolic, polarizing, and confident these statements are, the better. And then what I did is I just pasted an entire Medium article I was reading inside of it. And then I asked Kai to give me the 20 short pieces of advice. Now, the reason behind me doing this is usually how I start a lot of my short form content. So maybe this will help you as well. But I just take little short pieces of advice, and that usually can act as like the first sentence of something that I'm writing. And then I can expand on it with like examples or a unique perspective or steps or whatever it may be. So this first one, like embrace pain like it's your greatest teacher, that may not match up with your voice. That may sound kind of cliche, but you can take this, reword it in your own voice, and then follow that with examples or something of that nature. So I can paste, I'll just paste. I can't even copy this right now because it's on staging, but I'll paste this in the chat just so you have like this short little prompt. But then what I did here, I didn't do it for all of them. I kind of picked like 4 or 5, the ones where ideas came up for me. And then I just turned those into topics for the tweet or like starting points. And why I find this more helpful than just looking up content ideas or asking AI for content ideas specifically is because this helps me read it as I'm writing it, right? It's like the start, or it's the last sentence, or it's a sentence in the middle. You kind of use this, you write 280 characters around it or another sentence or two, and then you start to change things around, reword it, and then you have a short form piece of content. So I'll paste this. Sorry for the infinity mirror, but I'll paste this in the chat. If I can highlight all of this. Okay, the chat is going crazy. Okay. So I sent that. I will pin that just so people can find it. But like that just makes it super easy for me to come up with ideas. Now that's for short form content specifically. For something like long form, so a newsletter or a thread or a YouTube video or whatever it may be, as you guys will find in this module, and I may have talked about it in the newsletter idea generation section, is like the best ideas for newsletters for me specifically come from 2 places. They come from YouTube itself, literally just while I'm scrolling the timeline or when I'm watching a video. Preferably a good one, right? One that's pretty popular or has a lot of potential to get views and engagement, because that transfers over to different platforms, right? If I see a YouTube video that's doing really well and I want to take it and have my own take on it, like talk about the same topic, but from how I view it, and then if that has already performed well on YouTube, that usually means that it'll probably do well as a newsletter. That also means it'll probably do well as a thread. And if you recreate it on YouTube, it probably means it's going to do well as a YouTube video. Of course, you don't want to bank on it doing well. It's not always going to do well if you do that, but it's a way of starting with an idea that has more potential to do well. So you know that if you're not growing, it's usually not the topic or the idea's fault, which is pretty powerful. The other place I get ideas from is if I see something doing very well on Twitter or any other short form social media, and I can take that short idea or like a bunch of people talking about one specific thing and then wrap it up into a nice little newsletter of how I view the entire situation myself. So those are just two ways that I like to generate, or three ways I like to generate ideas. Is one, just finding little short pieces of advice that act as a starting point for my short form content. And then YouTube, Twitter, whenever I see ideas that are doing very well in the topics that I like to speak on, then I take that and I start to flesh it out as a newsletter to provide something that's more comprehensive than what I find on social media or even YouTube. So, okay, we have some questions. Good. And we can spotlight these. So I've been in UX and product design for 13 years. After getting laid off during the recent tech downturn, I realized I was done with the grind and wanted to build something more intentional. I'm now freelancing and teaching design students at an art university, which I love. That's cool. I want to create content that helps others build more adaptable careers, especially with AI reshaping the industry, but I'm unsure whether to start broad with mindset and direction or speak directly to lost or burned out designers. What would you suggest? So when we talk about specificity or being broad or whatever it may be, I think a lot of people underestimate how broad the niche they want to go into is. Designers as a whole, there's people with hundreds of thousands, like the future on YouTube, FUTUR, has, I don't think he said, he might be way over 1 million, right? So you can look around and see, okay, are other people talking about this? How many followers do they have? How much engagement do they get? Are things consistently doing well for them? And then you can kind of pull your own conclusions and be like, okay, that's actually very broad. And a lot of people can benefit from that. Another thing to think about there is not only targeting designers, but helping people become designers. When you do that, your niche broadens up an insane amount, right? I would say that my niche is very broad because I'm not only targeting current writers. I'm teaching people how to become writers on social media. That's pretty specific, actually. It's like writing on social media when most writers write books or write blog articles or whatever else writers write. When you introduce the concept of like, I'm going to help people become a writer or a designer or whatever it is that you're good at, almost everyone's your target audience. Of course, you don't want to like speak to everyone. You want to speak in your own voice to people that resonate with you or the reasons behind why they should become a designer or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. But it doesn't sound like you're going too niche or narrow when you say speak directly to lost or burned out designers. You could, if you want to go broader, you could say speak directly to lost or burnt out creatives, and then you can incorporate designers, writers, really anyone that considers what they do creative. But it doesn't seem like you have much to worry about here. That's pretty broad already, with the added benefit that it's also specific, if that makes sense. Okay, looks like I started in the wrong thing. Okay, Joe, you've been replying. Are there some that I should go over from those?
Yeah, let me start spotlighting some of those. Give me 1 second. I answered that one. Then scroll up. Here's one from Kenzie. Kenzie had a good question in the community a couple days ago, but this is kind of a follow-up to that.
Okay. How do I pick one solid writing approach from the million possibilities without overthinking so I can consistently crank out content? I have plenty of topics, but keep getting stuck every morning on what approach to use that day for the next post. Paralysis by millions of options. There's 20 ways to write what I'm thinking. Ooh. That one's difficult to answer because the answer is kind of just like write all of them in a sense. Like you can talk about the same thing all day. Like sometimes people treat an entire day or week of them on social media as just like them commentating on one specific topic, and people can usually follow that train of thought as they follow along with you. But when you say pick one solid writing approach from a million possibilities, what do you mean by the possibilities? Are you talking about potential ideas? Are you talking about frameworks for how to write or something else? Because with this, the paralysis by a million options isn't solved by like finding the best or the right one. It's just about writing and getting better over time and figuring out. That's like iteration and course correcting. Like you just pick one, post it, and then after the fact, you reflect on it. It's like, oh, this could have been better. And you don't immediately try to like rewrite it or change it. You kind of just store that as information that will be useful come the next time you write. And then you slowly get better and better with it. So I feel like what's helped for me is I don't really write down too many ideas to write about. I write down a few and then I pick from those, or I write about all of them. And when my list of ideas starts getting way too long, I just stop putting ideas down. And I have to get through whatever list I put down first before I start coming up with more. So I hope that helps. I'm not sure if that answers directly.
Cool. Here's one. Right.
Geeky question for Dan. In the week 5 lessons, there's a super neat layout of the content dashboard where you can switch between different social media platforms with just a click. What are you using for that? It looks so clean. Content dashboard. Do you mean the browser? I'm using Arc, and it has like my bookmarks on the left side. So that may be it. It's just Arc, A-R-C. It's a certain web browser. So like an alternative to Chrome.
Okay. Right. How about, this could be a good one.
How do I analyze my social posts, especially while most of the engagement comes from people from this bootcamp? Ooh. I'm going to be quite honest. I was never really one to like analyze the engagement of my social media posts because you can kind of see which ones do better. I know that the engagement comes from people that are engaging with you, either in this bootcamp or even some outside. There's definitely more views than people that are engaging with you from this bootcamp. I would just look over all of them and you can notice which ones don't do well and which ones do well. That's kind of it. Like you can just tell when you look at it. You see a little bit more spike in engagement, or you see one that's too low, or it's only people from the bootcamp or whoever engaged with it, or it's nobody at all. You kind of need to, it's hard to analyze when you're just starting out because the data is so inconsistent and you don't really know until you have more of an audience and a baseline to go off of. And then you can see whether it drops or goes above the baseline that you've established. So when you're starting out in anything, really, even YouTube or social media, like selling a product or service, it's very difficult to track that data because a lot of it is based on your direct inputs and outputs. Like how many people are you getting to engage with it? How many people are you getting to share? How many, when you're selling something, how many DMs are you sending that directly send them the product or service to buy? Like if you're reaching out to people for freelancing, it's hard to tell unless you're extremely consistent and have a very high output of outreach messages to get enough data to go off of. And it's like some people say with cold email or freelancing or whatever, people are like, oh, I sent like 50 social media messages. I sent 50 direct messages for outreach for my service. And then people who have been in the space long enough are like, you need to send 5,000 before you can even get remotely close to any kind of data point. And so it's very similar with content. And you have to put out a lot more than you think you do in order to be able to analyze the data correctly. So that's not something I would necessarily worry about right now. I would just worry about making your writing better just by how you interpret it, not based on what other people think or data, and just trying to get it shared as much as possible. And eventually you'll hit a point where you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that did a lot better. This did a lot worse. And then you can start to improve from there.
Cool. Let me see. Are you up for reviewing basic content?
Yep.
Cool. Got one from Jesse.
Storytelling. Dan, you seem to like how we weave story in and out of the last one, but I have a concern with this next one. How do I maintain objectivity to avoid getting too self-indulgent with the storytelling component? I know that readers are constantly scanning for how it is relevant to them, but I suppose entertainment value itself is worth considering too. You can see the draft. Let me open that. I'll share screen. Sorry.
No, you gotta stop sharing or stop highlighting.
There it is. Okay. So look over. Description. Art in the Inferno, making life beautiful despite the harsh reality. Okay, you have the problem or pain point. Okay. Storytelling. So what I'd like to see so far in reading this is it doesn't seem, unhighlight. I'd like to see more specifics in like who you're talking to, getting down to like the daily granular level. Like, what am I experiencing? When I think of it, when I'm going about life, do I think like, oh man, this is a very harsh reality right now? Or like even the daily struggle. I feel like you're talking above, like you're generally describing how people feel, and that can be relatable to an extent, but get like nitty gritty. As I'm going throughout the day, what's the problem? What's the struggle? Is it me not being able to have ideas for a specific newsletter? Is it me not being able to go to bed because I'm staring at blue light? Is it all of any problem that could stem from any? Do I feel slow? Do I feel sluggish? Am I stuck inside all day? Like, what I feel is needed here for people to relate and be like, oh yes, this newsletter is for me, is getting a bit more specific into the life of the person that you're writing to, what they're struggling with. Remember what their goals are, their ambitions, the roadblocks in the way, other things, and try to tailor your writing specifically to them. That doesn't mean that you're necessarily alienating people. Actually, it doesn't mean that at all, because the more specific you are, the more people can kind of tie their own experiences to the more concrete examples that you have given. So when you talk a bit more abstract and high level, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. It feels more philosophical, but I can say from experience and just the way that social media goes in general, if you can get more specific down to the pain point, then that helps with a lot. That's what gives you more authority when people are reading, is feeling like you can pinpoint their exact situation and give them some kind of unlock or tip or a series of steps that allows them to make some kind of progress, even if it's not super practical, like making $1 billion in business. Even if you just help them get through today with a bit higher quality of life or quality of mind, then I feel like you're in a good spot with your writing. So that's first thing. In the pain point section, just make it very clear, this is who this is for. Here's some concrete examples of the problem that's going on. And then in the headline itself as well. In order for it to be clickable, this is completely up to you, but it will do better if you do make it a bit more concrete, specific, quantifiable even. So like how to get ahead of 99% of people in 6 to 12 months. If you study headline structures and you can shape what you're trying to say in a way that you feel aligns with you, because not a lot of people like the direct response marketing headline structures, I would at least try to take them into account and try to, when people read the headline, it should be an instant click of like, I'm going to get something good out of this. And this is directly speaking to me. So that's first thing for the first lead section. I'm just skimming, so I may miss over some things. One thing that I'm looking for, because one of your worries you said was people skimming through things. I'd like to see somewhere inside of the paragraphs, you either reminding people of why this is important, so relating back to the initial pain point, or start like wrapping things up in single sentences in like bold or italic that expresses the lesson or importance and why it's important to their lives, right? The thing that they can implement from the story as they go throughout it, just to keep them hooked. And if you bold it throughout as you're writing, that helps people skim and they'll catch that and they'll be like, oh, okay, that's good. Maybe I should have read this. And then they go back through and read more carefully. So think about that. Maybe every 250-ish to 500 words, just have some kind of wrap up and make it either in a block quote like this, or just some bold or italic or something that stands out. Or separate all of these more with headings. So H3 tags throughout this. Just so it's there. So like put this H3 or other ones a bit higher to just split up this chunk of text. And I assume this is ongoing. Yeah, so in that first part, that's honestly what I recommend. I don't think you need to pull away from the storytelling. I just think you need to connect it more to here's the main or series of pain points that people are experiencing, very concrete examples. Remember who you're writing for, what they're trying to achieve in their life, what their goals, aspirations are, and just try to always connect what you're saying to either the pain or the goal as you go throughout by illustrating the importance of the story that you're writing. I think that alone will hold attention a lot better and guide people through it.
All right, I think this is a good one. I highlight this one because I think it's interesting for people to know like how they can try to keep people coming back to hear them speak about something again or read them talk about something again.
I still can't understand how I can read/listen to the same stories from Dan over and over again while I got bored from my topics after 1 week. That's how we all feel, honestly. But it's also a natural part. The thing that helps me gain a lot of clarity when creating content is I directly relate it to musicians or just the music industry in general. So when you find a new song or creator or piece of writing, you really like it and you keep coming back to it. You listen to it over and over again until it gets old, and then you either find a new song or something of that nature. But you tend to continue to listen to some of their music in your daily flow until honestly you forget about them, and then maybe a few years later you find them again, and then you're like, oh yes, this is really good. I need to listen through all of their new stuff. And then you either like some of it or you don't, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of just the natural way of things. Not everyone is going to like every post of yours. Not everyone is going to read every newsletter of yours. Not everyone's going to stick around after they get what they need from you. But if you're continuing to grow and attract new people, people kind of like flow through your content. It's not like all 1 million of my subscribers watches every video of mine. I still have to perform in some way and allow new people or try to attract new people in, right? Like my subscriber count for all I care is a cool like symbol of like, hey, I've done this for a bit, but it doesn't really mean anything in terms of my views. If I put out a bad video tomorrow, it's going to get like 20 or 30K views. If I don't continue to put out good content, my views are going to plummet either way. It doesn't matter how many subscribers, followers, whatever it is I have. That's just like a way of signifying whether I've like gotten good results over a certain amount of time. The other way to think about it is like the things that you consistently read on social media, like you are usually within the same topic and you probably reread the same idea at least 5 to 10 times a day, especially if you're on Twitter. So just remind yourself of how you read or listen to content that is not your own, and that should help with overcoming like I don't like my own content because I'm talking about the same things, but other people probably do like your content.
Nice. All right, here's a good one.
Question. I'm thinking of logging privately what I'm doing and learning every day, then funneling it into a newsletter so I can structure my thoughts better, which I can then repurpose into short form content or YouTube videos. What do you think of this process? I believe that's exactly what we learned in this bootcamp. So yes, it's a good one. I often hear the advice on sharing your work, especially as a beginner. Right now I'm working on building a high leverage skill, AI automations, and selling that as a service as a freelancer. But early on, it's been hard to balance learning the skill and thinking of creating content about it at the same time. My goal for building a personal brand is to attract more like-minded people and potentially attract clients and potentially have more income flow opportunities. Yeah, I mean, that all sounds good. I have no gripes with it. I'd say go do it.
Cool. All right, let me see here about this one.
Am I still at the stage? I'm still at the stage with the post as I manage major steps in my work life. I want to catch up. I wrote my confession about a part of it. I wrote it in one go and free from any previous structure. So I'd like to know if it is possible, how it is in the view of a professional lens. Let's look. I'll share my screen. Sorry for the infinity mirror. All right. This isn't a post. It's a confession. That's good. You trigger the curiosity loop immediately. Like, okay, this isn't this. This is this. Okay, what do you mean? A confession? Okay, you're going to tell me a secret. So this is good. First line's good. I posted every day since I started. Led workshops, helped at a conference, passed an assessment center, posted half asleep, let go of perfectionism. I should know better, but I still write every post last minute, racing the clock at 11:59. I confess that has to change. I want time to connect, time to go deeper, time to build my world. Maybe you've got something to confess to. Say it. That's how change starts. I don't have anything wrong with that. I think it's good. I did the same thing, honestly. So it's relatable to me. I feel like it's relatable to other creators, and you write about creativity, flow, and growth in the value of the creator economy. So I think it's a pretty good fit, right? You're attracting the right people. You're attracting other creatives. You're helping with creativity. It flows well. It's well structured. I don't have much advice, honestly. I've seen your other writing as well from what you've sent previously, and it's good. I just think the only thing next is like, how are we going to get it to more people? Is there maybe a way to write threads on other people's ideas that are on Twitter or something else and being able to send it to them and have them potentially share it? Can you write a longer post like this that talks about someone's ideas, tags them in it, and then you can always DM it to them and be like, hey, I wrote this up. Just wanted to make sure you saw it. Don't say anything else. And they may like, engage, share. And I try to make that just getting your content in front of other people, especially people with larger audiences, a natural part of your flow and idea generation. If you can, I try to work something in like that 3 times a week. If you can do more, do more. If you just are trying to get into the flow of it, try to do it once. Make that a challenge. Just like try to do something very high leverage that will get a post sent a lot further than the audience you currently have.
Cool. Here's one with multiple questions.
All right. Question 1. With bootcamp ending, posting access on Circle will stop. You mentioned we could still get guidance and feedback on Discord. Where exactly should we post to keep threads organized and ensure bootcamp members are in the right space? It is in the bootcamp discussion channel in Discord. After watching multiple Zettelkasten tutorials, especially from Noah, I feel overwhelmed and a bit stuck on document organization. Could you share a brief overview of how you structure your writing, pain tree, and process? What are your key categories and how do you use them as a system? I know this evolves, but your insights would help since you've likely refined your setup over time. I have refined my setup to no setup. So the thing about, I have no problem with Zettelkasten or any of that. I just don't have the time for it. I feel like I have the time for it. I don't want to make the time for it because I don't know. I've just never been able to get into it. And honestly, with building Cortex and really studying the note-taking space, that seems like the biggest problem is that just systems fall apart with time, or they evolve and they get better. Or it's like the midwit meme where you have the bell curve and then you have like the dumb person over here, the high IQ person over here, and then the midwit in the middle. And the first one's like, just use Apple Notes. The other one's just use Apple Notes. And then the other one's like trying to tie together Obsidian and all this other stuff together. So eventually what we're trying to do with Cortex is to make it so the system is kind of baked in and it's organized automatically with AI. That we'll have to get that right. We can't really force anything with that. It just has to be natural and work. So we'll work on that in an elegant way. But in terms of how I structure my own stuff, like I just structure it like how I do stuff on my computer, right? I have folders for specific categories, like my books, my social content, my newsletters, whatever it is that I work on, my notes, and I drag specific documents into those. Sometimes I tag things as like post ideas. I honestly don't tag things very much anymore. I kind of stopped. The reason we introduced tags is so people that come over with systems from things like Obsidian can use them. Connections are important for me because I connect ideas together, but that's honestly not an organization thing. It's more of like I'm cross-referencing ideas. So with me, I use Capture to save ideas. I use documents and folders to organize them, and that's kind of it. Honestly, it's when life gets busy, I need my system to follow that. And I've realized that if I get too much into a habit of trying to maintain this very complex note-taking system that I'm assuming the most creative people and most smartest people in the world don't do, then I just need somewhere that I know the organization of to go into and do all my stuff. So I don't know. It's up to you if you want to study those things, but I'm not the best person to answer that because I just go in, write what I need to write each week. That's it. Capture ideas.
Cool.
I couldn't see the third question there towards the end.
Okay.
Can you read it? Because it was cut off on the spotlight.
Yeah, give me 1 second to find it because I marked it as answered. If you were to, oh, it's not, you can't see it in the spotlight. If you were to launch your first product, what would you choose? Options being a low price, $5 to $20 book or ebook, a recorded course plus live sessions, bootcamp style, $50 to $300, a premium package with written video and audio content, or something else that I haven't thought
of. I would do what I did because I didn't like start on social media without experience. I was doing the web design and that was fairly successful. And I wanted to get on social media so I could start attracting clients rather than reaching out to them. And the first thing I made was just an ebook and it started at $27. So that's honestly what I would do when I talk to the Stan team. For those unfamiliar, Stan is like a creator platform. It's where you can host digital products and that's where you accept payment and other things like that. And the founder of Stan started as well by just selling his old resume as a template because people wanted to know what his resume was that got him a job at, I think it was like Goldman Sachs. So he was in the finance space. That's what he sold for $10. And that's how he made his first $1,000, $10,000, however many $1,000, right? So there's two ways to go about it. I would either recommend going very low ticket. So like $20 to $30, let's say $25 to $50. And then the other option is like pretty high ticket. So something freelancing, coaching, maybe one-off sessions, or both of those. Do something very easy, like sell consultation calls for $150 if you're just starting out. If you're very experienced in what you do, charge $300, $500, $1,000 for a call, however many you want to charge. Then you can pack those together as well into like a pack of 4 calls for $1,000, something like that. So that way you have 2 offers, one for people that want more and one that as you're writing content, people can find and you can promote. And it's just an easier way to kind of make some money. The caveat with the low ticket is that you need a lot of traffic to make a good amount of money with that. So once you have the product created and ready to sell, you really have to focus and get very good at driving traffic and growing on social media. Because if you don't nail that, then you're not going to have too much traffic to send to the product, and then it's not going to sell too well, right? So if you have like a 2% conversion rate by writing very good copywriting, then I forget what the numbers exactly are, but you need something like 800-ish people. No, I'm pulling from different statistics, but you can do the math as to how many people it would take to make like $1,000, $2,500, $5,000 a month plus. And you could probably do that pretty well if you're good at driving traffic to the thing. And you can continue to study direct response marketing, sales, different tactics that you can use for promotions and marketing. And it's just an entire learning experience. But I would recommend creating that because it's a bit easy to create the $25 to $50 product and then put that out and then just practice making sales. And you will slowly get better at it.
Nice.
That kind of goes just a heads up for anyone listening who takes that as like, oh, I should do this. Almost, I would say most advice you find online is going to say the opposite of that. There's so many different ways to do this. Knowing me and what I know now and how I would go about it, I would personally do the low ticket because that's just what I like to do. But just know there's different ways to go about it. There's no best way. There's just whatever way you want to do. And you'll probably end up doing all of them anyways. You'll try the cohort, you'll try the low ticket product, you'll try the high ticket service. Just try one. And then you can try all of them over the next 6 to 12 months.
So to kind of follow along with the structure of doing things, Tyler asked in the other chat, how do you recommend finding a writing rhythm that works for you? And then building that into analyzing posts that do well or not and repurposing them.
In terms of finding a flow that works for you, I don't know if you're talking about like daily flow, kind of like daily routine. I kind of abide by the lesson, like nobody can teach you how to do something. They can only tell you how they did it. So this entire bootcamp and what I'm about to say is like me telling you how I did it, and you can use that as inspiration. But I wake up and the first thing I do is write because I found out that if I write later in the day, after I check in, after I answer emails, after I answer messages, my brain is just kind of fried and the writing isn't as good as it could be. And I don't want to work at night because I have other things to do at night. And so I do it first thing in the morning. And that's just what allows the ideas to flow better for me. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It's just the flow of writing, right? So first thing in the morning for me, just so I can get it done. If I can get my writing done, then I consider my entire day a win, and that feels pretty good. So right in the morning, in terms of repurposing, if you mean like repurposing newsletter ideas or ideas that you've already written into some other kind of content, like short form content or a thread, it's up to you. The way that I used to do it was I would read through my newsletter and I just try to pick out ideas. You're probably not going to see too much success if you try to like copy paste certain parts of your newsletter and post them as content. You have to use it as like, if you're reading a book, how do you generate content ideas from reading the book? That's how you do it when you're reading your newsletter, to generate content ideas from that. In terms of repurposing to other platforms, I just copy paste, right? My newsletter is my literal YouTube script. That also gets posted as a podcast. My tweets are copy pasted into an image template. I post that on Instagram. I post that on LinkedIn. I post that on YouTube community. However, just a forewarning again is if you are a beginner in this, I probably wouldn't spend your time doing that. I would spend your time growing. If you aren't growing by, let's say, 50 to 100 followers a day, as a poor example, then you should not even think about posting to other platforms yet. You should focus on learning how to grow, getting that under your belt. And then once you have a database of content that can help you grow faster on other platforms with the knowledge that you have about growth, then start repurposing to other platforms when you're ready. But if you're posting to other platforms just to feel like you're getting some kind of busy work done, but you're not growing, then you're focusing on the wrong things. And it's not going to help you grow any faster because you're just splitting your focus when you can't grow on one platform. So focus on growing on one platform because it's not as simple as just posting content, as we've learned in week 1.
Nice. Here's a piece of content from Jeffrey.
All right, I'm writing weekly newsletters now for 6 months and I've been pretty consistent with all my content, but I don't convert well into my cohort. I have a weekly newsletter and a free email course. This is the next newsletter being published. Is there a way I can convert better based on this newsletter? A small feedback is enough. So the first thing is this may not be a newsletter problem. I would have to see the actual landing page, what the offer is, what the price is, how many clicks are you getting from your newsletter, so on and so forth. Where is this? There. The Second Brain business model. Slight improvement for my newsletters. I'm not sure what this portion is. If this is something you're sending as a newsletter, this could be throwing people away pretty quick. I created linked connections for processes, which means that if you don't understand a specific word or concept, you can click on it and be redirected to an explanation on my blog. I personally wouldn't include this. I just get straight into the hook. So that's one thing.
He put a link to the landing page in the main chat.
Okay, let me skim through this. If this is the only place you're promoting it, rather than throughout the entire newsletter, I'd say at least twice, somewhere at the end of certain sections. So like in the middle of this section, promote it, unless I'm missing it. It seems like there's going to be a lot of links here that would lead people away from the newsletter. So that's like landing page / conversions 101 is I would not do this because you don't want to send people away from your newsletter and away from reaching the bottom. Everything should be contained in the newsletter itself. Because yeah, if people are reading this and they click on any of these and there's a good amount of links, then the amount of people that reach this is probably going to be like less than 5% of the people that clicked to read. And then depending on conversion rate, 2% or 1 to 2% of the 5% that clicked is a very small amount and may not work too well. So that's one thing, is a bit more focused. It also seems like you're going over quite a few different ideas here, rather than like, okay, what's the goal? What's the pain point? What's the process in between? I think it could be a bit more clear what the big idea is here. So the Second Brain business model that I'm getting is you have knowledge and you want to monetize that knowledge. I think that could be a bit more clear. Let's look at the landing page. Where did you put it? Chat?
It's in the main chat, yeah. Just gotta scroll a bit. A little bit more.
AI does not help you if you don't know what you want. Chaos of clarity, transform mental chaos into clear actual steps in a purposeful Second Brain business. So if the newsletter and the product align, I'm trying to see what the promise and pain point is, because this doesn't seem like a big pain point. And I don't see how the Second Brain business ties in. So I'd get very clear on like, okay, what's the outcome? What's the big pain point? How are you helping them in between in a unique way? So if the outcome is like, I want to earn an income based off of my interests, and the pain point is, I don't know how to do that, or there are so many different ways to do this entire business model, then the process in between is what you're calling a Second Brain business. And in order to do that, you need to build a Second Brain as your database of ideas in some kind of note-taking or writing software. And then you need to learn the business aspect of things, which is like, okay, how do I make all of this valuable and worth paying for to someone else? So that should be clarified in this first hero section. Like, you've tried all these different business models. Here's a business that allows you to turn your interests into something you can monetize. All you have to do is take notes on what you enjoy and learn how to market those notes and package them in a way that you can put a price tag on. That is pretty enticing. And if you can package that up into a headline, subheadline, lead, and then talk about that process step by step, here are all the features that you get inside of this cohort. Here's the price tag, buy now. And so get very good at articulating exactly what's the pain point, what's the outcome. Here's the simple 2-step process. Take notes in this specific way, package that up and market it so you can earn an income. Simple, believable. You can even bind it to, oh, you have 30 days, so 30 days. So if that's what the actual product is about, I'd get just very clear on that. And I think that alone will help a lot with conversions.
Nice. Just time check, we're coming up on 1 p.m.
Okay, yeah, we have some time.
Okay, here's a quick one.
What is the difference between a big idea and a concept? I thought I understood, but then I found I was getting confused. It depends. If you're using them, if you mean like for the core note system, the big idea is like an explanation of the idea. It's pretty much the idea that you're taking the notes on. A concept is kind of like a name that encapsulates that. So the name for the big idea. So Bitcoin is the concept. The big idea is digital currency of the future. But I mean, a concept is like everything. So technically, a big idea is a concept. The way that I like to distinguish the two in this situation is that a concept is a specific name for something, like it represents it. So if I have a process of like step 1, step 2, step 3, like as we went over with Jeff's thing, the Second Brain business is the concept. The big idea is monetize your knowledge.
All right, check that one off. Here's one with a whiteboard.
Whiteboard. Seeking opinion about focus priority on visuals when starting out. I loved making diagrams when I was in architecture, started some draft whiteboard visuals in this link. I enjoy making them, but they do take time away from writing. Are visuals like this quality enough it may be worth to keep going in tandem, or is this a common trap? It may be best to be focused on writing and growth. Let's see. Ah, I see. Okay, I'll share these. Oh my gosh. Okay, so yeah, these are very cool. I've seen a lot of people do well with something like these if you can package it up into something that looks good for social media. So something like of this size, if you can get it on an image, make the text a bit bigger if you're trying to include the text or something of that nature. I could see these doing really well, and the style is already here with the red and the grays and the blacks and all that kind of stuff. So these do really well. I would continue doing these, test them. That's the best thing. I can't tell you how well they're going to do, but you do need to test them enough for maybe 2-3 months of consistent posting with it to see if it would do better than writing. But a lot of people have had success with this. If this is something you'd rather do, then I would say go for it.
So we've actually handled all the questions that were in the Q&A section. I've been keeping up with the ones in the chat. So
cool. We can start wrapping up.
Right.
I see a few people typing, so the next few that pop up will answer, but we will chop it there. Well, after, if there are any being sent. We got one from Darren for a LinkedIn post. I left some feedback on my newsletter. I kicked this project off before starting this cohort, hence longer newsletter content before I test on X first. No formal offer yet. I'm pivoting from a world in marketing to metabolic health. Initial goal of newsletter is to raise some awareness, spark some conversations, and actually post. This is on LinkedIn. I published one today. Let's see. Share Infinity Mirror. What this diabetes ad gets dead wrong. It's pretty good. From someone who actually reversed it. That's cool. Yeah, I like how that ties in. No gripes with headline. I like the structure of this. Yeah, I can already tell that you're good at keeping the writing flowing and making the writing feel very well structured. I feel like you have some kind of copywriting knowledge in you. This post-it's giving me diabetes. Simple solution. Objections. I think this is good. This is very well written. It flows really well. It's easy to find your spot. The headlines are good. I personally don't use emojis much myself, but they fit well in the way that you're using them. But I think it's good. Keep posting that. No gripes.
Nice.
And you don't see that structure too much either. Like how people write newsletters, that one would be fun to read each week. So yeah, keep going.
Do you know of anyone who didn't get traction on X but went on to grow elsewhere?
I mean, quite a few people. I don't have any by name, but yeah, a lot of people do that. When I first started, I started on Instagram way before I started on Twitter. I started on a bunch of different platforms. I did digital art on Instagram first. I picked up some traction, but I was doing digital art and it was something completely different. And then I started fitness channel on YouTube and got some traction with that. I was doing that with my buddy who lived down the hall in the dorms that we were in. And it was growing very slowly. We didn't see it going anywhere. And then over time I realized, okay, I'm getting better at this stuff. It's not really a matter of like, can one person like, oh, I couldn't grow on this platform, so I went and grew on this platform. It's more so I couldn't grow on this platform because I didn't have the knowledge or skill to do so, and I hadn't practiced enough to the point of realizing, oh, okay, I can do this, and this in order to grow. And even if we can tell you exactly what that is in this bootcamp, that doesn't mean that you do it to a T, and that doesn't mean that if you do it to a T, that it will directly make sense in your situation. So you kind of have to use the guide and then find, okay, this is how I grow, and then do that thing. But when people switch platforms and seem to do better, it's usually because they take a more calculated approach or they have enough experience in them to that point where they can do well on the other social media platforms. It's not like you can take someone who doesn't know how to grow on social media, put them on any platform and expect them to grow. If they just grow out of nowhere, it means that they already had something that was worth following. So it's just something to think about there where it's usually not the fault of the platform. It's usually the fault of the person, as harsh as that can be, but it's just true. So that's the one thing is if you're not growing, usually means your content isn't that good or you're not getting it seen by other people. Or 3, you're trusting in the algorithm too much to save you, and that's not going to happen.
Nice.
We have one more. We'll cap the Q&A channel at this one from Yorgos. I'll share my screen. Okay, we have too many tabs now. You asked for profile information. So enterprise architect, tech director, follow for insights on leadership, top 20 LinkedIn Greece. So what I'd personally like to see here is like a value proposition or something that you write about. So I first need to understand who your target audience is or who you're trying to write to, or just who your writing would best resonate with. If you don't want to pick a specific target audience, you can always think like, okay, who would be reading my writing? That's your target audience in a sense. And then craft some kind of bio that talks about that. I personally like the structure of I write about this, this, and this, so you can benefit. So I write about, you put here, I write about leadership, personal development, and innovation, so you can what? What's the desired outcome that you're helping people reach with that you're writing? And then from there, I mean, the profile picture looks good, banner looks good, works for LinkedIn. You've got featured stuff, get a lot of engagement. Interesting. I'm curious why some do so much better than the others. Because I would just keep doubling down on the ones that work. Or maybe some just do better naturally. You get good engagement. I don't see anything wrong. And I mean, if you're growing, you're growing. So it's just a matter of like keep doing it. But yeah, you get some crazy engagement on some of them. That's good. I don't have any gripes aside from maybe the bio, which may help with more people following. Were there any others, Sir Joseph?
Let me see. There was one that slipped in just a moment ago in the chat.
Cool. I will check that. Questions closed.
Yeah, I turned it off when you said.
Okay, cool. We'll go over this. Oh, we've got a thread. Okay, share. Oh, and to answer, sorry for the infinity mirror, but right here. So basically, our shit sucks ass. Good to know, Dan. Seriously though. Oh no. I hate the chat in Circle.
Yeah.
Seriously though, refreshing to hear instead of algorithm, bro. Yeah. The other thing here is like, there's moving pieces where you don't know whether at the beginning you don't know if your stuff is bad if it's not being seen by other people. So that's like reason number one is your content just isn't that good. But the second reason is like people don't know about your content. So how can you know if it's good? So the entire like beginner hell thing is one, trying to write the best content you can and just like throwing shots in the dark, but also getting that sent to people and networking with people who can help you grow and share your stuff. I haven't been in an engagement group in like 3 years, and I joined one the other day because someone invited me because they were talking about AI, and he's like, the message to create an engagement group was so simple. It's just like, hey man, I'm putting together a group to talk about AI. You could say to talk about writing, to talk about building a product, to talk about whatever it is. But he's like, to talk about AI, we're gonna have a lot of cool people in there. We're not trying to sell anything. We're not trying to do this. We're just trying to talk and help each other out. And so I'm like, okay, sounds good. I knew some people in there. I joined. And then people were just sharing, since it was an AI chat, people were sharing the tweets that they wrote about AI, and other people were engaging and sharing, and it was literally that simple. But I feel like a lot of people don't take that initiative to just going and finding people to ask to join the group over the course of a day, 2 days, whatever it may be, and then nurturing that group and making sure you're sending stuff and you're writing content and all of these other things. So a lot of moving pieces there. But let's look at this thread. Fog filter function. I would remove this section. Get straight into the hook. If you're over 50 and stuck, you're not broken. You're just in the fog. Here's how to move through it. Filter function. This is a bit abstract, and it feels more like a concept that you introduce here, right? So I would introduce it here as more of like, hey, here's the process that we're going to go through, but you need to understand the whole thing. So I just changed this to if you're over 50 and stuck, you're not broken. How do I put this? We'll come back to this. Let's kill the shame first. Feeling stuck isn't a personal flaw. It's a signal. You're not lazy. You're not irrelevant. You're just between selves. I like that. Fog. I don't know what I should be doing. Truth filter. Okay. Yeah, so the thread itself is good. I just think this needs to either be moved down or removed. And this should be like a bit more relatable and less, for lack of a better term, foggy, right? So if you're over 50 and stuck, you're not broken. You're just, maybe not between selves, but I'm sure you can come up with a better second line. You're just what? Here's how to move through it. And then here you could put in parentheses, using the fog system, something like that, and then continue on from there. But aside from that, I mean, it's good. You have the hook down. I just think this is my only gripe with moving this down, removing it, changing it up a tiny bit to make it more clear. But yes, I believe that is it. Okay, we have one more call next week where we're going to wrap everything up, talk about repurposing. If you have questions along the way, write them down. You can bring them up on the next call. But that's it. I hope this call was helpful. Please you don't need to get ahead of yourself in the curriculum. But if you have newsletters, or you write threads, or you write posts, feel free to share them in Circle, and we can always give some feedback on those. Make sure, just keep posting, keep sending your posts, keep trying to grow, do all the things we've been talking about. We're always there in Circle or Discord if you need us. But thank you for coming. Thank you for all the quality questions. Joey, thank you for answering the ones that we didn't do live. And anything from you?
I think we're all good. I got some exciting stuff coming out for Cortex in the next few days, so be on the lookout for that. I know everybody already is, but keep posting, asking good questions, and keep working.
Sweet. Thank you guys. Thank you, Joey. The recording will go up soon after this. All right. Bye, guys.